Ji Lee is a smartass high schooler who just wants to play some VR games with his baddie girlfriend. But Thunder-kun has other plans and fries him faster than he can even log in. That's how he ends up inside the very same game he was about to play. At first he dreams that he instantly becomes OP and saves his girlfriend from some bad guys. He's even about to get a kiss. But nope, it's just a dream. In reality, he wakes up from a chameleon's kiss in the middle of a desert that stretches empty for miles. He was supposed to arrive at the beginner's village, yet for some unknown reason, he finds himself stranded in a scorching desert. Because of the heat, the air feels heavy, and his body already starts to ache. Thinking that he needs to contact Xiaomei first, he quickly types in her username, but the database gives him an error. The confusion deepens because he knows he could never forget something Xiaomei told him. He tries again and again, but when nothing works, he decides to head for the village himself. He starts walking across the desert, not knowing which direction he is taking. However, time passes, and he realizes that no matter what he does, he cannot escape the desert. The unbearable heat makes him pant heavily, and because he is sweating so much, he realizes he will soon be dehydrated. He tries reaching customer service for help, but even that fails, and his frustration grows. As his anger rises, he decides that enough is enough and that he wants to leave the game. He presses the logout option, yet for some reason, the system denies his request. A sense of doom falls over him as the truth sinks in that no matter how hard he tries, he cannot exit the game. He keeps pressing the button over and over again until the system freezes and resets. When the screen reappears, the game delivers a new message that orders him to survive for infinity hours. Realizing that he is trapped in the game, Ji Lee falls to the ground in desperation. The poor boy only wanted to impress his crush, yet because of one simple choice, he now finds himself stuck in a desert with no way out and no way to contact anyone. 8 long hours pass before he finally stops feeling sorry for himself. Accepting the reality of his situation, he decides that if he wants to survive in this deadly game, he must act. His first goal is to find water because his throat feels dry and his strength is fading. He picks up a stone from the ground and immediately recognizes that this type of stone usually appears near sources of water. Because of that clue, he begins following its trail with growing determination, unaware that a hungry wolf has started tracking him as its next meal. After a long and tiring walk, he reaches a cave and spots a shiny droplet of water falling into a bowl. His prayers feel answered, and he rushes toward it, drinking as if his life depends on it. When he is finally satisfied, he collapses on the ground, breathing heavily, and begins planning his next move. He opens his inventory and realizes that the map only shows areas he has already explored, which means he cannot see the entire world. When he checks his status, he discovers that because he is a new player, all of his attributes are low and he has no offensive skill. This means that if a strong monster attacks, he can do nothing but run and hope to survive. Determined to prepare, he opens his equipment menu and puts on his basic gear. Then he takes out his gigantic sword and starts swinging it to get used to its weight and balance. The blade is so sharp that it easily cuts through a stone, which gives him a little confidence. Just as he prepares to leave the cave to hunt, a strange noise echoes from behind him. The sound makes him freeze because it means he is not alone. He cautiously walks deeper into the cave to investigate until he stumbles upon a bone. As he raises his gaze, he realizes with horror that there is an entire pile of skeletons stretching before him. Any sensible person would run at this point, but because Ji Lee's survival instincts are underdeveloped, he stays and examines the bones instead. He studies the bite marks carefully and soon recognizes that they belong to a wolf. The realization hits him like a shock, and he finally starts running, but it is already too late. The wolf leaps through the air, jaws wide open, ready to strike. Ji Lee ducks at the very last moment, narrowly escaping, but the monster still manages to tear into his forearm. The creature turns out to be a desert wolf, a level 5 threat with high stamina that can sprint up to 15 kilometers per hour. Because running will only delay the inevitable, Ji Lee understands that he must fight. Gripping his sword tightly, he forces himself into battle mode, determined not to die before he earns that long-awaited date with Xiaomei. Back in the real world, Ji Lee was his city's youngest 6th Dan practitioner. He learned kendo because his mother was obsessed with it and was a die-hard fan of the kendo star, Mu Chun-ya. So she signed him up for classes, and that's how Ji Lee found himself in front of a kendo teacher. There, he realized that he had fear of his enemy because he was weak, so he started to practice, not caring about weather or time. He was defeated, humiliated, and got injured, but he never stopped until he became the best practitioner. And even then, he continued his training because he knew from an early age that only the strong survive in the world. In the virtual reality, the wolf attacks Ji Lee again, and he ducks all while attacking it with his wand. But the blade recoils and does no damage to the monster. Instead, the wolf then uses his tail to hit Ji Lee, who flies across the room. He is confused about why his attacks are not doing any damage, and then he realizes that because of his lower rank, he cannot do much damage anyway. Instead, he needs to aim for the wolf's weak point, which is his belly. The monster charges again, and Ji Li realizes that it will not be an easy task because the wolf is too powerful for him to sneak up on. Plus, he is getting exhausted from all the fighting and knows that if he doesn't kill the monster first, then it will be his end. His system is showing his weak XP, and he realizes that he only has one and only chance to attack the wolf's underbelly. They both run into each other, and he lets the monster attack his shoulder, but then he takes the opportunity to stab it in the belly. His risky plan works, and he gets thousands of XP and boosts his level, which is why his wounds heal up pretty quickly, and he becomes good as new. But poor Ji Li does not know that this is just the beginning of his many adventures and sufferings in the game. The game notifies him that a mysterious object is waiting for him in his store, and he looks at his next challenge. Ji Li has now gotten attribute points after killing a desert wolf, so he opens his inventory to get a better understanding of the game. Suddenly, all these cool weapons fly in front of him, and he realizes that he needs to level up if he wants to unlock all the advanced weapons, equipment, and appliances. He can't believe people want to level up just to unlock these things. But when he sees a skilled and attractive team of mercenaries, including offensive, defensive, magic, assassin, and service types who can meet all his needs, he realizes he has to unlock all the levels. But for now, he can only unlock daily essentials like bread and water because of his low level. He then looks at his status and finds that even if his condition is full, he is still weak and needs to increase his attributes to become stronger. So he starts to divide his points into updating his physique, strength, and Ji Li, so that he can prepare himself better for any future attacks. When all the energy courses through him, he feels himself becoming stronger and more confident. But then he sees a whole pack of desert wolves, waiting for him to be their next meal. Ji Li then takes out his sword and starts slashing all the big bad wolves like the dead meat they are. When he is done with his fighting, he has already gained 15 levels, which means that he can now unlock a lot from the inventory. All the fighting has now made him more excited, and he wants to explore the desert a bit before resting. That's when Ji Li notices a whole pack of wolves dead on the ground with their blood sucked up. He does not know who killed the animals, but whatever it was not human. Suddenly, he notices something moving from the corner of his eye and sees an alien stabbing wolves like kebabs on a stick. And just like a ghost, that man suddenly disappears, and Ji Li tries to look for him everywhere. He starts to think that another player must be stuck inside the game as well, but just then, his system starts to warn him of impending danger, and the next thing he knows, someone is trying to attack him. He uses his sword to slay whatever comes into his vision, and a tentacle falls on the ground. Right next to it, a high-level monster called Wandering Dominator walks from the shadows. He is nothing like the wolves Ji Li had just killed, and when he sees him regenerating his hand, he starts to tremble slightly from fear. The system shows that the Dominator is known for its absolute speed, and is the predator of predators who drink monsters' blood. Ji Li looks his enemy in the eye and tries to calm his nerves, but the overwhelming power coming from him is enough to make him feel like a small insect in front of the monster. The alien strikes, and my guy dodges him and tries to attack from the back, but he disappears and hits him back so hard that he flies across the desert. The poor man tries to walk off the injury, but the next thing he knows, the monster is punching him in the gut so hard that he is puking blood. Bro is confused because the monster can kill him easily, but instead, he is giving him back his sword and teaching him where to hit him. But that is when he realizes that the monster is taking his sweet time playing with him, because he is having fun. So one more time, he swings his sword at him and gives it his all. But it backfires because he is the one to get hurt and fall on the ground while having his weapon durability decreased by 80%. He knows that the guy's speed is too high for him to even catch up. The next thing he knows, the alien is jerking him up until he is flying through the air. That's when the monster looks at the human with disgust laced in his voice, and Ji Li realizes that not only can he speak, but he also has extreme hate for humans, and thinks of them as pests he should kill. Just then, Ji Li uses his blade to cut through his grip and slide away like a hero to say that he is projecting his own insecurities onto him. The alien looks at his hand and then sneers that it's been hundreds of years since a human came, and now that he did, his body is coursing with excitement. Ji Li agrees, because he has not felt the same level of fun in a long time. He then thinks of his family and friends who are waiting for him back home, and he knows that he cannot die in a place like this. Lightning strikes him, and it's like he has gotten new energy from the gods above, and that is true because, due to his extraordinary fighting spirit, he has activated a special god's blessing, and all of his attributes have increased by 100. This makes the monster happy too because now it looks like a challenge. Then Ji Li attacks him again and again, slashing his body until blood is coming out of it and his blade has lost all of its durability. That's when he throws his sword and starts punching the monster, knowing that once he has defeated him, he will get more power and grow stronger. But it's not too easy because the alien uses his super speed to run and sneak attack from behind. Poor Ji Li can't take cover before the alien slashes him and says that no matter how much power he gets, he will still be a pest in front of him. Ji Li can't believe that even with all the power, he still cannot defeat him, and just then, the alien starts to fly in front of him. He then uses the lightning from the sky and projects it all onto the already injured Ji Li on the ground. Poor boy can feel the life slipping out of him as he realizes that he might die here. And just like that, his XP reaches 0, and he takes his dying breaths. For some reason, Ji Li wakes up in a room and realizes that he is not in the desert anymore. Instead, he is in an unknown village. He thinks that he might be logged out, but the system is still there, which means that he is still in here. However, he vividly remembers the attacks of the monster killing him, so him being alive does not make sense to him. There are even injuries on his body, which makes everything more confusing. Just when he thinks that he is alive, the door opens, and a very hot-looking girl comes in and is surprised to see him awake. Ji Li freezes but comes back to his senses and waves at the girl. She then calls for her grandpa Boulay, saying that the guy is up. Poor boy thinks that he might be in a newbie village, but his questions are answered when the grandpa finally comes. Ji Li tells him that he was killed and his whole body was pierced. The girl then chimes in and says that the old man found him almost gone in the desert when he went hunting. The old man lights up his pipe and says that the boy is not in some game's newbie village, nor are there any NPCs. Instead, this is the real world. Ji Li can't understand them, so he shows them the system that pops up, and this worries the girl and the old man because the boy is pointing at thin air. They think that he has hurt his head and has become crazy, but Ji Li continues his rant that he is stuck in the game without any communication from the outside world. He then screeches that he wants to go back, but the old man says that there is no way out because whoever enters Latanaya Desert stays there forever. Ji Li asks if there is no way out. Then how come they came there? And the girl replies that the duo was on a mission to kill a dragon in Argama continent when they met a thunderstorm. And when they woke up, they were already in the desert, which according to legend, can even trap gods. The only way out of this place is through the Kabri god's palace, but many people have already tried finding it, and they simply never came back alive. And now, after a while, people have accepted the fact that they are stuck, so now they just live their lives and wait for death. The grandpa then says that every year new people will come there, but no one has ever left the place. So the only advice he will give is that he should accept this as his reality. He then takes a turn to leave, but not before asking his granddaughter, Sally, to show him the town. Ji Li does not want to believe and still thinks that he was isekai'd into the game. Just then, a new notification comes up to the system, which gives him the mission to avenge the death of the Kabri god. Apparently, he was reincarnated with Kabri god's protection, and now he is tasked with removing the seal on Kabri god. His new mission is to find the palace, defeat the monster Nabus, and release Kabri god. But it's the reward that catches his eye, and that is the key to opening the seal of the desert. Bro is lying in the field and searching through his system, trying to understand his current situation. His mind has now started to work with the possibility that he has a chance to leave the place. But then Sally calls his name, saying that she was looking all over for him. He says that he came for a walk because he wanted to be alone, but then the desert in front of him catches his eye, and he asks the girl if that is the Latanaya Desert. The girl then explains that their town is surrounded by the desert because it is so big. Ji Li asks her how long it will take him to find Kabri god's palace, and she asks if he actually has a plan to find it. When he does not reply, she tries to knock some sense into him, saying that the palace is just a rumor, and if he leaves, then he will definitely die. But Ji Li says that he did die once, so he will do whatever it takes to return home. Sally then asks him to come to town with her, and on the way, she asks if he was serious, and he replies that he was. She tries to argue, saying that the desert is filled with monsters that even Grandpa Boulay doesn't dare to fight. But Zai is delusional and says that he is very strong. Just then, something mysterious appears from the sky and crashes on the ground above them. 3 men appear from the task and say that their prey has taken the bait. Ji Li coughs through all the dust and asks what is going on. Before he can get an answer, Sally comes between him and the party and uses her fire magic to block the man's blade. The man, Boban, looks happy to meet Sally, but she does not. Ji Li asks why he is attacking them, and she explains that they are bandits who are actually scarier than the monsters because they do not hunt for their own food. Instead, they steal from other humans. Boban then takes out his shadow swords and looks at Ji Li as if he is his new prey. The boy has not seen that skill, but he has no time to get answers because Boban then straight up threatens them, saying that last time Sally got away from him, but this time he will not repeat the same mistake. This only angers the girl because she flares up like a fireball and looks back at Ji Li, asking him to get Grandpa as she tries to hold these bandits back. Back at the village, Grandpa is tending to his crops when he realizes that a thunderstorm is coming their way. He then starts to worry for his granddaughter, who is busy fighting the bandits. Boban is having a field day with the duo and says that there is no way he is willing to let the boy go and fetch Grandpa. But at the same time, he knows that her spells are ineffective against him, so he wants her to come with him obediently in return for Ji Li's safety. Sally rejects his weird offer, and Boban takes it on his ego. Sally once again asks her new friend to get the old man because only he can fight Boban, but the boy disagrees. He explains that there is no way he is running away and leaving his new friend on the battlefield. But then Boban comes at him with insane speed and smashes his head on the tree. He says that the boy is just a piece of trash, but Ji Li starts taunting him back. This triggers Boban's ego, and he says that if Ji is so brave, then he should use his strength instead of words. So the hero grabs his wrist and twists it, saying that he is not as strong as he thinks because he was the one who started with a sneak attack instead of fighting fairly. With that, he swings at the assassin so hard that he falls back, shocked that the boy was able to dislocate his wrist. He then analyzes that Ji is quite strong because, even though he added a lot of points into his attributes, he was still not able to overpower him. Then he sees the friendly interaction with Sally, and the boy and the girl then look at him to ask what he wants. No man's ego and wrist are both hurt, but he says that, like all the other times, he wants Sally to be his girlfriend. But the girl is hell-bent on saying no. Even Ji finds this pretty funny, but Boban doesn't. He accuses Sally of not going out with him because of the guy, and she starts to blush and actively deny all the baseless accusations. Boban just needs an excuse to fight, so he asks Ji to fight him like a real man instead of hiding behind a girl. He then promises that if he loses, he will not bother her again. And hearing this, a side mission emerges on Ji's system about defeating Boban, and the reward for that was the map of the desert. This catches his interest, and he immediately agrees as Sally looks at him in worry. Just then, Boban takes out his shadow sword and gets ready for the battle. Sally tries to ask one more time if Ji really wants to go against someone who is known as an assassin. She then explains that people like him use the power of shadows and high speed. Plus, their weapons are coated with shadows and have a strong force and attack power. But it doesn't matter to Ji, who has already died once and has lost that fear at this point. With that, they both charge at each other. As Ji is about to hit Boban, he starts to panic about why his life turned out like this. But as long as he defeats the guy, he will at least be one step closer to leaving the hell he was in. But sadly, the shadow assassin easily dodges his swings to the point that he laughs at Ji's attempt at hitting him. But then he starts to charge at him, and he moves with such speed that Ji can't even decipher. This makes the assassin more cocky because the guy in front of him looks weak. But this infuriates Ji because he can't understand why the guy isn't attacking him. Sally once again gives him a way out to get the old man, but he refuses to leave her alone. Besides, he now has ulterior motives, which he tells to Sally. But the girl does not understand and asks for more explanation, to which he replies that something is not adding up. Ever since he got in the game, all the events were illogical at first. But then, as he spent more time, he realized that someone is carefully manipulating the game. He is interrupted by Boban, who throws a sword towards him and then starts to mock him for daydreaming. But then Ji claps back, pointing out that the assassin is the one who is not doing any attacks, so why should he be afraid of him? Apparently that is what Boban was looking for because he explains that he does not attack an unarmed weakling, which is why he is now giving him his sword and wants to make a fair battle between men. Ji captures it with one hand as the guy goes on and on about how he doesn't bully people below him to impress Sally, but the girl does not care for him. Even Ji points out his hypocrisy and says that previously he made a sneak attack on them, so he is not exactly the man he thinks he is. But when they are done trash-talking to each other, Ji prepares himself to go against a shadow assassin for the map he so desperately wants. But it's not going to be an easy battle, and he knows it. So, without missing a beat, he charges at the shadow assassin, but he is too swift, jumping and attacking him. Ji blocks his swing, but while he is busy, Sally calls him and says that there is something behind his back. And when he turns around, another clone of Boban is ready to attack him. The poor boy starts to defend himself from forces coming at him from all sides. But it's not enough because as soon as he is able to locate Boban, he is already disappearing. This even concerns Sally, because she sees Boban is able to slash Ji on the shoulder, causing his HP to reduce. He then gives him a chance to surrender, but Ji will never give up. He looks at his system, which gives him healing power, and using that, he recovers some HP. But then this makes Boban's followers laugh at him because apparently, a healer is no match to fight him. But Ji then snaps back that Boban is scared because this healer will be able to defeat him, and this stops the assassin from turning away. Ji then gets ready for another chance, saying he is ready for him, but so is Boban, who uses his shadow assassin power to make clones of himself. Our boy does not like this new development for some obvious reasons, so he looks at the clones closely, trying to see what is up with them. But then he realizes that the assassins rely on their clones in battle, so this means that one of the clones distracts him while the real Boban attacks him. Plus, they can also switch positions, so that is tricky for Ji. However, Boban is still salty over our boy being sarcastic with him, so he vows that he will show him his true potential, but the boy does not really care. Instead, he charges at the clones while Boban instructs them to have fun with their new meat. Just then, one of the variants attacks the boy, but Ji is able to block the attack using his sword, and the impact makes the assassin's blade bounce back. But Boban's clone is not done yet, so he strikes back again, and Ji keeps on dodging his attacks and also blocking him whenever he can. But he also realizes that he is struggling at only blocking one person's attack while there are two others left. Just then, another clone comes and tries to attack from behind, but before even a droplet of blood can fall on the ground, the boy dodges Boban's sure-hit attack like it was nothing, and that shocks everyone watching, including Boban himself. Meanwhile, Ji realizes that he almost died again, but then his system gets crazy from all the pop-ups saying that he has unlocked many of the hidden powers at the last moment. But Zhili is not ungrateful. He now has to defeat the other 2 clones, but now that Boban has seen his power, he is more excited because even with new strength, he is only able to injure his clone, and now the real game has begun. With that, he orders his sword to return to him, and it flies away from Zhili's hand and comes back to Boban. The shadow assassin tells him that he underestimated him and his powers at first, but now he will not make the same mistake again. Then all 3 clones merge their swords into 2 spears and smash them on the ground at one time, causing a weird shadow to form around Zhili. And from the shadow, spears start hitting the boy randomly, and he has to dodge all of them. One of the spears slashes him, and Zhili realizes that his HP has decreased, and he has no weapon to fight with. And while he is busy worrying about that, Boban appears from the shadows and strikes him, saying that he is there for his life. Zhili is then engulfed in a lightning circle and flies in the air, but then, lightning strikes from the sky, and Grandpa Boulay arrives just in time to stop Zhili's punch with his hand. He then orders the 2 boys to stop fighting. Zhili shudders from all the adrenaline, but he is also mad that the old man had stopped him from giving the best punch of his life. Just then, Sally rushes up to him and asks if he is okay, to which he replies that he is. Then Grandpa asks the 2 kids to go back home with him because of the thunderstorm that is coming their way. But Boban does not appreciate it, and thinks that Zhili is running away from the battle after Grandpa comes to save him. The old man then turns around and warns the assassin that if he had not stopped Zhili from throwing the punch, then he would not be standing there alive. And hearing that certainty from his mouth, Boban realizes that the man was not lying. But his ego is avoiding him from believing it, because how can a basic level healer have the ability to kill someone so powerful like him? So he screams that that's not true, and that he would have been the one to kill him. Meanwhile, the update on Zhili's system shows that he won the challenge, and now he has the map. Grandpa then realizes that they do not have much time before the thunderstorm, so he asks for the kids to leave again. And for some reason, Boban's assistants also believe that, so they ask for them to go too. But the assassin is too stubborn to let go, so he asks Zhili to come back to the battlefield again and again. But the boy completely ignores him because there is nothing left for him to fight for. Back at the village, Sally is tending to Zhili's wounds again because he is moving too much for her liking, and she cannot apply medicines on him like that. He then apologizes for all the trouble he has caused, but Sally is grateful and happy that someone stood up for her. Meanwhile, Zhili is busy thinking about how he can't heal up naturally but needs help. Then curiosity gets the better of him, and he asks whether Sally and Grandpa knew Boban before, and the girl replies that they both grew up together like siblings. Just then, Sally is done stitching him up and starts to leave. Zhili looks outside in the rain and thinks about his mother, and how she must be panicking for him. But now that he has the map, he is hopeful that he will find God's palace and return to her very soon. He wants to leave for the journey as soon as the rain stops, but then suddenly, a new notification pops up saying that he has obtained a new key. Confused, he pulls out a golden key from the air. Apparently, during battles, he will get random boxes filled with treasure, and using the key, he can access them whenever he wants. This gives him much more hope that he will leave the cursed place soon, and he wears his jacket to start moving. But then he notices Grandpa Wu Boulay entering. The old man apologizes for not coming sooner to see him, but then he takes a good look at the young man, and Zhili says that his injuries are minor and will heal in a few days. Grandpa then says that he did not expect that he would be able to defeat Boban because he is the village's strongest assassin. Zhili says that he only did well because Boban underestimated him, but the old man knows better. He says that Boban is not only known for his physical strength but also his willpower and spirit, and he did not win because of mere coincidence. That's when he asks what went wrong with Boban, and this makes the grandpa think about his childhood. The old man starts his tale, saying that he and Sally came to the desert a decade ago when it was raining too heavily. But when they passed by a house, they saw a demonic monster attacking someone, but they were too late, and the monster had already killed some people. However, a kid survived, and the old man was able to save him using his lightning magic. Still, the monster survived but ran away from there. In the end, the child, who was Boban, was left to grieve both his parents, and the old man adopted him. But ever since that day, Boban made it his life mission to find the monster and avenge his parents, and because of that obsession, he lost the good the old man had taught him. This makes Zhili wonder, if even Grandpa Wu Boulay was not able to defeat the monster, then how powerful must it have been? He is thinking about his escape plan and realizes that he is no match for all the monsters out there. That's when he turns to the old man and says that he needs to train him so that he can become strong and leave this place. But Grandpa does not care for it and ignores him. That's when Zhili insists and realizes that he made the same mistake as Boban by being impulsive. But then, suddenly, the old man says that the boy can meet him at the hillside, and if he can pass his test, he will be trained. Zhili perks up, saying that he will do it, and Grandpa realizes that the boy definitely has something that sets him apart from other people because of his combat abilities. And if he is strong enough, then he will be their ticket out of the cursed world. Just then, Zhili gets a notification about a daily mission asking him to do some exercises that look extremely tough. but since he needs attribute points, he accepts the mission. The next day, before anyone is awake, Ji Li works out using a giant log and shows off his muscles and abs. Even he realizes that he likes having a challenge, and when his mission is completed, he falls to the ground, exhausted. Then he starts to think about where he should put his attribute points and decides on stamina and defense. Just then, Sally calls his name and rushes to him to give him breakfast, because she assumes that he is hungry after training for so long. Ji Li then fills her in, saying that the old man has promised that he will train him once he passes a test, and this shocks Sally to no extent. But she encourages him, saying that he will surely pass it and will unlock his awakened attribute. Ji Li is confused because he thinks that healing is his attribute, but Sally clarifies that being a healer is a profession given to him by God. He can still awaken his own elemental attribute based on his personal abilities. Sally then explains that her attribute is fire, Grandpa's is thunder, and Bo Ban's is shadow. Ji Li then says that he is excited because he too wants to see what his spirit is made of. Apparently, the gaming world is divided into 5 areas. One is the Latinaya Desert, which is known for trading. To the west, there is the volcanic land, Megaria, hometown of dragon riders. To the north, the winter land, Kesencido exists with its berserk monsters and crystals. To the east side, Bergama Forest has magical elves and other types of mythical beasts. And in the south is the Chibitic land, where dwarves live, who are known for their craftsmanship. Sally explains that according to rumor, the palace of the god is connected to the god world's endless sea, and if he passes it, then he will reach his goal. Sally now understands that the rumors might be true, and Ji Li then promises that they are true and that they can leave the place. The girl smiles at him. Just then, Grandpa interrupts them and thinks that Sally has already confessed something to the boy, and the poor girl just stutters in embarrassment. The old man then turns his attention back to the boy and asks if he is ready for his test, and Ji Li confidently replies that he is. With that, Grandpa then starts his speech, saying in all the races, one thing is the same, and that is the power elements, which act as the base of the world. And these include anything he can't touch or see, like light, water, or thunder. To grasp the elemental power, he must sense that power and awaken it, just like the old man can do with thunder. But the key is that he must feel it coursing through his body. With that, he touches the ground and a portal opens up. He informs Ji Li that the magic will transport him into a monster's dungeon somewhere unknown. He then gives his sword to him, saying that the boy has 3 days, and after that, he will open the gate. Ji Li's task is to kill the Beast King and bring his head to him, and only then will he pass the test. But during that, he will also have to unleash his elemental strength, because only then will he be able to fight the monster. The old man then gives him a last chance to back out, but he only smiles at him, saying that he will never give up and will surely bring back the beast's head. Then he turns and gets a notification from his system about his mission. He hits confirm, and just like that, he flies into the unknown. That's when the old man tells Sally that the monster Ji Li is sent to kill has a strong defense, and only the one who has achieved his full elemental power can kill him. And the best way to awaken that power is to push his body into desperate situations. Just then, Ji Li arrives at the place and starts to roam around. He notices that the sand is black, the sky is black without any light, and the place stinks. He then opens his system again to see how he can fight a boss-level monster with his current level. So he decides that he needs to do some side missions to level up first. Just then, something tries to attack from behind, but he dodges it successfully. He realizes that he has already been spotted, and then looks at the flying monster called Dotum. Ji Li then takes out the sword, knowing that it will help him in the battle, and then charges at the monster with full confidence because he is not a newbie. He fights so hard and efficiently that he can feel the power in his bones. He slays so many monsters that he is sure they will help him level up. Somewhere, Boban is training alone and keeps on chanting that no matter how hard he tries, the practice is still not enough. He fights so hard that the rock explodes, but he cannot understand how he could not defeat a basic level healer. On top of that, even Grandpa Wu Bule had to use a different type of power to stop the boy, which only made him more curious about Ji Li. Meanwhile, Ji Li is having the time of his life killing all the monsters like they are nothing. He slays so many beasts that he reaches level 25 and gets 45 points as reward. When he is done, the system asks him to open the medical store for 15 levels, and he gets annoyed because he does not want to spend all his earnings on one thing. But he also knows that doing that in the future will be harder, so he buys the store instantly. With that, he gets recovery and enhancement potions, and this makes him happy because it means he will be able to recover immediately in future battles. He feels like he has 2 lives now and is more confident. He now has only 2 levels left, and he is hungry. So he buys some bread and realizes that Sally's buns were way nicer than these. After roaming for 2 hours, he gets bored, but he still needs to follow the map. He then starts to distribute his attribute points into increasing his physique, strength, magic, and defense skills. Back at the desert, Sally is worried about Ji Li and asks her grandpa if he will be okay fighting a powerful monster. The old man says that he left a mark on the sword, and if Ji Li is in danger, then he will get him out of there. Sally investigates more, and her grandpa puts down his tools to say that he found the place accidentally when he was hunting. but he refuses to explain more and then dismisses her. But Sally is smart and knows that something fishy is going on. Grandpa then takes a stroll and talks to himself, saying that he knows Ji Li would want to leave the place no matter what. So the only way to keep him safe is to show him the harsh reality of the world, which will make him give up on his dreams. But even though he knows that Ji Li cannot win, he still prays that he does kill the beast, because he too has hope in him that the boy will bring them out of the place. Meanwhile, Ji Li is still walking, trying to find the beast's place when someone calls for help. He turns around to see a woman and her baby running for their lives. He gets confused seeing them in such a dangerous place, and just then, the woman asks him for help. He then looks at the distance where two giant monsters are accompanied by one smaller one, but they are all scary enough to make the woman tremble in fear. Latonia's monsters are like slow-moving tanks with very high XP and power, and this includes the three wild beasts standing in front of Ji Li. He realizes that the middle one's intellect is much higher than the other two, so he takes out the sword and gets ready to fight. But this also means that he is not too far away from the beast he is supposed to kill. He wonders how the woman and her kid got into this place, but he does not have time for answers right now because he needs to protect them. The beastman says that the boy should bow his head and surrender, but Ji Li knows no such words. So the monster asks his two bodyguards to go tear them apart, but they are nothing in front of Ji Li's fighting skills, and he defeats the monsters like they are flies. He had become a lot stronger after leveling up, and this made him excited. The beastman calls his other bodyguard to attack the boy, but he is too scared to fight, so he starts to run away from the battle as his boss desperately asks him to come back. But then the beastman says that he will kill the boy himself, which does not go well for him because Ji Li is already at his throat, threatening him to drop his weapon, or else he will cut him open. He then asks why he was chasing after the woman, and the monster says that he is a servant of God, and if he kills him, then he will be cursed by his God. But just then, Ji Li cuts near his face, and the monster cries in pain. He then threatens him that his next swing is going to be way worse if he does not tell Ji Li where the beast's den is. Like the coward he is, the beastman then points at the mountain, and Ji Li realizes that the guy is not lying to him because that place does match the description of what the map is showing him. Apparently that place is the Black Rock Mountain, and while he is examining the place, the monster tries to run to eat the woman and her kid. He then uses them as bait to threaten Ji Li by saying that he will use his full strength. But it does not work really well because, in a second, Ji Li and another mysterious man dash towards him, and the beast gets so confused about where he should see. But in the end, he gets hurt from both sides and flies into the air like a frisbee. When the dust settles, Ji Li and the other guy look at each other, and the hero comments that the blonde has some nice moves. Apparently the guy is nice too, and that's when Ji Li realizes that he is not alone, but is accompanied by other humans too. He asks them why they are here, and the blonde man replies that 3 days ago, he and his companions were mysteriously teleported to this place, and in the chaos, his companions were also kidnapped by the beastmen. So he started to find them, and then found the rest of the humans. He then introduces himself as Joss, a warrior, while pointing at Philorga, an assassin, and Rachel, a healer. Ji Li likes those guys, so he is warm towards them. That's when the blonde asks if he knows why they were transferred to that place, but even he does not have the answer. He then notices the beastmen trying to sneak away, but all the warriors surround him, and the monster looks at all of them in fear. He starts giving them empty curses, but then Ji Li takes his real name, and the beastman stops, thinking about how he knows his name. That's when the guy says that if he wants to live, then he should answer all his questions truthfully. The monster pleads that he is already telling him the truth, but it is no use for Ji Li because he knows all of this already. The monster then tries to argue that he is only a lower rank in the tribe, and his only purpose is to collect humans for food for his god. This angers Ji Li and Joss as they look at the beastman as if they will kill him. Back at the desert, Grandpa Wu Bu Lei is visiting Delktown for a meeting when one of the chairmen asks if he has gone crazy because the old man is still believing rumors of God's palace after all these years. The guy with green hair, who is Hicks and has the wind element with the superpower of a mage, says that even if he finds the palace, there is still no way to defeat the monsters which guard the place, because the old man is hoping on a kid who has not even grasped his elemental powers yet. Grandpa listens to the guy as he warns him of the consequences of angering and disrespecting God, and says it would be easier for him to kill the kid and beg for mercy. But Grandpa has remarks of his own as he says that the god the green man is talking about can torture them and treat them as worms whenever and however he likes. The council is also not afraid of exchanging innocence for so-called peace, and in reality, they are not heroes but a bunch of weaklings only surviving by sacrificing others. Hearing this, the man starts to scream in horror and tries to threaten him with his magic, but the old man already has a thunder shield around him, and this angers him even more. The old man then leaves like a hero, saying that he cannot sit silent any longer when innocent people are being sacrificed, and if that means he has to fight God, then he will gladly do it. Hicks then starts to load his powers as well, but another council member stops him from doing so, and the green man is just startled. Back in the desert, Ji Li is standing in front of the realization that this is no longer a game for him, because all the people he has met over here are not NPCs but living human beings, and he has to help them as well. That's when he remembers that back in his human life, he read about Egypt's ancient god, whose palace is sealed by a strong god, Rashen, and he thinks whether God Kabli's palace is near the monster's den or not. But then he looks at the coordinates and realizes that the god's palace and the den are in two different directions. So he starts to think whether the monster is guarding another god's place. But then he is interrupted by Joss, who asks him to head to the beast's den with the rest of the party, and Ji smiles. He then tells the boy that Rachel can create a magic barrier and enhance her elemental power so she can stay and protect the woman and her child. The girl is even determined to follow these orders. With that, they start their journey, but the Beastman warns them that if they go into the den, they will all die. But his threats do not work on Ji because the boy starts to insult the Beastman, making him scream in embarrassment. That's when Joss pulls his ropes and forces him to walk with them as he tries to find a way not to go with the party. Inside the cave, more Beastmen sit and relax as skulls of dead people lay around them. A party of monsters takes a cage full of humans towards their king and offers the food to him while waiting for his next orders. The king, who has neon green eyes, looks at the Beastmen with anger, and just then, another force comes in and freezes all the monsters to death. A hero emerges in the middle and introduces himself as the Great Mage Ngam and vows that he will free all the innocents. He has a whole army of heroes with him to take revenge on the monsters for killing all the innocents. He loads up his power and sends an ice sword blizzard towards the king, who is sitting on his throne as if nothing is happening. But the ice spears do not hit him because of a protective layer around him. This startles Ngam. Suddenly, with the king's power, he is lifted up into the sky as every other hero looks at him with helplessness, and Ngam screams in agony from the magic. The king tortures him enough that the mage bursts in the sky, and the other heroes tremble in pure fear and shock. But the Beast King Sunil, who has a level 85, looks at his next meal. The low-rank Beastman looks at how easily the party of these young heroes defeats different monsters, especially Ji, who seems to be the most special to him. He thinks about where the boy dropped from, but Ji is only focused on how they are closing in on the Beast Den, because all the monsters keep getting harder to defeat. He then looks at his system and realizes that he is not leveling up as fast as he hoped. Ross comes in and asks if he is still not comfortable with the intensity of the battles, because he is the first person the hero has seen who is defeating such powerful monsters without tapping into his elemental powers. He then chuckles, saying that Ji is his fated one, and offers him a job at his guild after they all leave. This gets Ji's attention, but then Ross starts talking about girls at his place, and this embarrasses him. That's when one of the party members reminds Ross that his so-called guild only has one member, and it's him, which makes Ross stumble on his words. But they don't have time to waste. So Falorga points at the cave and says that the monster's den must be there. Ji asks the Beastman for confirmation, but he sees a piece of rope and realizes that he must have run away while they were fighting. But the monster did not run away from the den. Instead, he ran into it so that he could inform the king and get rewards for his intellect. Ross stands on the edge of the cave, and from the smell, realizes that they are at the right place. And with that, they all enter. They walk through all the skulls but do not meet any Beastmen, and this alerts Ross. That's when they come in front of 3 different pathways and decide that they have to split into 3 ways. Ross then marks everyone's hand with the mark of the flame gate and says that if any of them meet any danger or discover any new information, then they can press it like a button and teleport to each other. Then they are separated into different caves, but before going, Ross reminds them to say a mantra he taught them if they get in any danger. Ji runs into the cave and realizes that he needs to level up immediately, but the place does not have any beasts. He runs until he finds a bunch of corpse-eating ghouls munching on dead humans. He takes out his sword in happiness, but then he realizes that the monster is not alone. He just entered their cave. The Beastman who ran away before goes to his king and says that 3 worms have entered his holy place, but the traps they have set for them mean that the humans will be dead in no time. It's not the case for Ji, who is killing all the corpse-eating ghouls like they are gnats, but he is not getting a lot of XPs from them as well, and this annoys him. Yet he continues to kill until he has killed 999 corpse-eating ghouls that have leveled up to 14. Not only this, he obtained professional skills, including Holy Light, Annihilation Slash, and Blessings. He has the option to choose 2 out of 3 skills, and after thinking it through, he selects a combo of Blessings and Annihilation Slash. He then starts to think about his new friends and whether they are doing well or not, but then he looks at the fire mark on his hand, which has not pulsed yet, and this means that they are both safe for now. But then he shifts his attention back to the ghouls who are coming his way. Meanwhile, Joss is using his Hellflame Stomp to kill all the monsters in one go. But then he starts hearing a melody, and all the ghouls look back at a girl approaching them who has broken her shackles. She starts to sing, and Joss confronts her, saying that she must be the one who sent all the monsters to him, and the girl smiles at him. But then the earth rips open, and so many hands start to grip Joss and bring him down with them. The hero struggles and realizes that the creepy girl is now standing really close to him, ready for her meal, and Joss recoils in disgust. Poor Joss thinks that he will now probably die here, but just then, Ji Li arrives and, in a swift move, cuts off her arms. The hands stop touching Joss, and the girl looks at the boy, shocked at how he can stop Dakar. The hero then throws the head of the monster towards her, saying that he was an easy kill for him. Hearing this, she starts screeching, and Joss tries to warn the boy, but all the sound waves do nothing to him, and with another swift move of his new blessings power, Ji Li kills her, saying that her voice is annoying him. Joss is affirming the boy when his hands start buzzing, and they realize it's the flame mark, which means that Filorga is in danger. Poor Filorga is fighting with a level 55 Hell Serpent, and his strength is too little for him to defend himself, let alone kill. The snake blows him away, and poor Filorga flies and hits the wall, causing blood to start gushing out of him. He too thinks that he will die in this beast's cave when, thankfully, Ji Li arrives and uses his sword to deflect the serpent. Ji Li asks his new friend how he is, but the guy is too shocked to see the strength to answer it. Joss then tends to him, and Filorga says that he has never met a monster like him before, and this makes them realize that if they meet the Beast King, then they will definitely die. But then Ji Li stops them from overthinking, saying that the thing that is holding them back is not the Beast King, but their own fear. He says that in order for him to leave the place, he will have to fight the Beast King and many other monsters like him, so he has to risk his life, and in doing so, he does not have time to waste on his fear. He proudly says that the fight will have to end, and when the serpent tries to strike again, all the heroes get ready to give their all in. Joss starts the attack and using his power kick, hits the snake hard. The serpent then throws fire at him, which he deflects, and this gives Filorga time to activate his elemental power and use Hand of Jizzo to grab the snake by the throat. Joss then gives the signal to Ji Li, who jumps and uses his sword to stab the snake through its armor. He causes a crack, and the protective layer is destroyed by 20%. But that is not enough, and he keeps on stabbing until he is pierced through Hell Serpent's protective armor scale. He then starts to drag his sword and slice the snake till the very bottom. Joss and Filorga look happy seeing the serpent dying, and due to this, Ji Li gets a hidden weapon called the Hell Flame Gauntlet. He accepts it, and then looks at the flaming gauntlet in his hand. Meanwhile, Joss is confused about how Ji Li can get this powerful in the very little time that they have met. They then hear some noise coming from the dark corridor and find their beastman captive from before. Without wasting any time, Joss and Ji Li attack him, and the poor guy flies across the room, surely breaking his bones. Joss asks what he is doing in there, and he says that he was lost because the Beast King activated the traps, and that clicks for Ji Li. He continues to brawl in front of the heroes when Joss kicks him again and asks him to take them to the Beast King immediately. The Beastman takes them in front of a wall and says a secret chant, and a giant door opens. Back at the desert, Grandpa Wu Bulei is looking at the worsening weather, and then goes to his cupboard, where he has kept his armor. Suddenly, Boban interrupts him, saying that he stopped being stubborn, and finally saw his armor because it is his hope that they will leave the place. The old man did not sense him coming, but Boban cleared his confusion and said that he wants to join his team, who will leave the desert together because he might fight the monster who killed his parents. He seemed determined, and even Grandpa realizes that there is no point in stopping him. Meanwhile, back at the monster den, the beastman points at the lobby towards the king, but Ji Li asks the whereabouts of the people who have been captured and locked. He says he knows about the place, so Ji Li asks his new companions to go and save his friend. But Joss takes it as an insult and thinks that Ji Li sees them as weak and a burden. But the boy denies that. Just then, a warning signal starts to erupt on his system, and he realizes that the boss is nearby and he only has a 10% chance of survival. This irritates him because he tried to level up before getting here, and it's still not enough. Filorga asks what is wrong with him, and Ji Li dismisses him, saying that he will deal with the Beast King alone while they should go save the captives. But Joss declines his pity offer, saying that he will never leave his friend alone on a battlefield. Ji Li tries to reason, saying that their survival rate is very low, but Joss says that it does not matter because it is time for them to return the favor of saving their lives. Ji Li realizes that since he was a kid, he has been solving all his issues alone, and it made him feel lonely. But now he has two new partners, and he is no longer alone. The Beastman urges the heroes to go in because he is scared his boss will kill him if he goes inside, so they all make a decision to go in themselves. But when they go inside, they see that no one is there. The throne is empty, and even the Beastman is confused because the king is usually sitting there. That's when the door behind them suddenly closes, and Filorga starts feeling a magic force lifting him in the air. Both Joss and Ji Li look at their friend in horror, and the hero then looks back at the throne and sees Lord Sunil. Poor Filorga starts coughing blood, and this startles Ji Li, who charges at the boss to hit him, but then he only collides with a protective shield around him. But the attack works because the magic on Filorga is released, and Joss catches the kid in his hands. Meanwhile, Ji Li can't believe that the Beast King was able to appear at his throne without him knowing, and even deflected his attack without any effort. Filorga tries to use his powers, but he is still weak and injured, and when Joss asks him to take it slow, he urges his friend to fight. Just then, he uses his signature move to transport Joss towards the king. The man takes a huge leap. Filorga strokes him with his hand while Ji Li uses his sword to hit him. They all attack at the same time, but it doesn't work, and no harm was done to the Beast King. Instead, he flicks his hand, and all three heroes get hit by him. Ji realizes that the king's boss skill is covering his whole body, and then asks his companions if they are fine or not. Just then, the king stands up and says that he wants to play with the humans because they seem interesting to him. He then disappears, and then he notices him coming in front of Joss, and before the poor man can realize, he punches him in the gut, causing him to cough blood. Joss then clocks in and uses his iron fist to attack again, but it does not work because the boss stops him and all his other attacks. The king then headbutts him, causing Joss to break his bones and fall on the ground while defeated, and with that, the monster attacks his final blow, causing everyone to scream for their poor friend. When the dust settles, the king looks down but sees that Joss's dead body is not there, and he only hits the ground. That's when he realizes that Ji has taken his friend and swept him away from him. Filorga runs up to his friends, and Joss apologizes for being a burden, but Ji does not care about that. He promises them that he will deal with that bastard, so he takes out his sword. The king gets annoyed because he was having some fun with the humans, and when Ji looks bored, he tries to attack him. But like a hero, he uses the gauntlet that he was gifted before and stops his attack. Joss looks at his friend and realizes that he is very strong. Even the king is shocked because no one has ever blocked his attack, but this also excites him. With that, he uses his power and unleashes 7 hells on Ji. The boy blocked his attack again using the sword, and using the new blessing power he has, hits the king so hard that he flies in the air like a tomato. But Ji doesn't stop there. He keeps on attacking him, saying that he will avenge what he did to his friends and all the innocent people. Then he uses his annihilation slash on him, and the monster's crown flies away. But this is not it, because the king uses his power to disappear and tries to sneakily attack Ji. The boy flings his sword in that direction, but it does not matter because the king attacks him, and he is thrown off his feet. He regains his power and gets ready for another attack when the Lord Beast starts unleashing his elemental power. Suddenly, the ugly beast turns into a handsome lord, but the only difference is that he is more evil and powerful than before. With hate in his eyes, the monster flicks his hand, and a huge goat skull appears. But that's not it. Hundreds of wolves come from it, and Ji uses his hand to stop them. But that is not enough for the Beast King, who uses his skull wand to attack from behind. Ji doesn't see it coming, and his sword and blood both drip to the ground. The poor guy huffs in pain but still stands up despite the pain. The king then uses his hand and sucks his elemental power in, and Ji thinks that this might be the end for him because he has never seen such brute power. The king has now become an advanced monster as he attacks the already injured Ji. The poor boy goes flying away and is kicked again and again until he is left dying on the ground. The monster laughs and then further updates himself and starts being racist against humans for being so powerless and worthless. He sounds so scary that even Ji starts to accept his cruel words, and everything from his real life starts coming back to him, and he realizes that he has a lot of internal issues. That's when his mother appears in his vision, saying to a young Ji that it's time for them to go home. Suddenly, a white light comes out of Ji's almost dead body, and then his sword turns into a very cool, monstrous weapon. The Monster King looks at his opponent as he stands on his 2 feet, now healthy as before. But this time, he has a gigantic sword and updated armor and body. When Ji was almost dying, he heard someone calling his name, and when he opened his eyes, he noticed that he was no longer in the cave, but he was floating in deep outer space, looking at his surroundings, confused. He starts believing that he is dead, but then a voice disturbs him, saying that he has not died yet. Ji looks back to see an old man floating above him, and when he uses his name, the boy gets shocked. The old angel then says that he does not know who he is either, but all he knows is that he has been in this place for thousands of years. But then a voice told him that someone would bring him out of the place, and that person is Ji. The boy does not have time for all the chit-chat, so he says he needs to get out of there as fast as he can. But then the old man gives Ji his hand, asking him to be his master. The man then explains that according to the voices, he can only get out of the place if someone becomes his master, so he is practically begging him to do so. Ji takes pity on him and says that if he needs to get out of this place, he'll do it. And with that, he shakes the angel's hand. Suddenly, electricity starts coursing through him, and Ji feels weird dark energy seeping into him. He then transforms back into the Monster King's den, where he realizes that the old man was not lying to him. But now he can feel the energy in his body, and that's when he gets the notification that he has awakened the element of chaos. Even he gets shocked to see it and realizes that the old man must be his elemental power. The Monster King gets shocked because for him, just a few seconds ago, the kid was as good as dead, but now he seems to have become more powerful than before. Even Ji knows that because his system tells him that due to unlocking the elemental power, all of his powers have been amplified. He then looks at the old man's sword and realizes that it has also gotten its final form. With new confidence in hand, he starts his attack again and charges up to the Beast King. The monster is cocky, but then Ji bursts his defense bubble like it's nothing. The king tries to attack again with all his might and power, but with just one chaotic burst slash from the boy, the monster flies away like a fly. He does manage to scratch Ji, But that does not help the king's case because he then uses his elemental power to obliterate him. Within microseconds, the boss Sunil is killed, and Ji Li receives a message on his system that he has fulfilled his mission. He even gets a black treasure chest as a reward. It's warm and sunny in the Latanaya desert, and Bo-Bon and Grandpa are using this time to plant rice, while Sally is wondering about her new friend and his safety. That's when the old man says that if Ji Li does not return today, he will go out and look for him. But just then the ground starts to shake and a portal opens. When the wind does go down, Sally and Bo-Ban look at Grandpa for answers, who replies that it was a shockwave that is released when a powerful monster dies in the desert. This means that Ji Li has killed the boss and has found his elemental power. Back at the beast's death, the weak beastman looks at her dead boss with disbelief. Even Filgra and Joss can't seem to understand what just happened. They look at Ji Li and wonder how he was able to get his elemental power and how he was able to kill the monster so quickly. Filgra then asks what the boy is thinking about, and Ji Li replies that he needs to check on all the prisoners while they both rest due to their injuries. He then turns to the beastman and asks him to show him the way, and the poor beast instantly replies. But Ji Li is now in a trance of his own because he has started to believe that him coming here was no mistake. That's when suddenly he starts feeling something, and just like that, he transports back to the desert with the help of Grandpa Wubu Lei. But before he can say anything to him, he collapses from exhaustion and wakes up to see a woman hovering before him, asking how long he wants to sleep. Ji Li instantly recognizes his mom and desperately hugs her, saying he missed her. The woman, who actually was Bo-Ban, interrupts, saying, and Ji Li straightens himself up real quick. Bo-Ban then gives him his food and says that they will have their duel when everything settles down. With that, he marches out of the room while Ji Li looks at his hand and then tries to remember what happened to his new companions. That's when his system pings again, and he remembers the Beast King chest. He then takes out the key that he got when he defeated Bo-Ban, and luckily it fits. The pop-ups on his screen shows that he has received a lot of gifts, including Lord Sunil's Ring of Protection, and a legendary hidden item, which is an egg. Ji Li thinks it is for him to eat when suddenly the egg starts to crack, and he thinks that he might be getting a new pet. But then a baby erupts from the shell and starts calling Ji Li Papa. Poor boy gets frightened because he has no idea what he has gotten himself into. Ji Li is annoyed because who would get a kid as a reward in a chest, so he tries to open the menu to get to know what this means, but the system tells him that he needs to upgrade first. This irritates him further, because now he realizes that the kid is attached to him, and he does not even know why the baby keeps calling him Papa. He picks up the kid like a vegetable and then says that he is not his dad, and he cannot keep him because he has more important stuff to do, so he will give him to Grandpa Wubu Lei and Sally for safekeeping. But this hurts the little kid's feelings who start to cry. No matter what Ji Li does, he still cannot make him stop crying. That's when his system shows a warning saying that he is punished for hurting the small kiddo. The menu starts its countdown as Ji Li can't even comprehend what is happening to him. Suddenly Ji Li realizes that he is not at Grandpa's house anymore, instead is at a very cold desert. He looks at the kid and tries to reassure him that he will not abandon him, and he is just scared of taking care of another life. But it's no use because when Ji Li turns around, there is a level 40 monster looking at him, and the boy gulps because he is assigned a new mission to kill all the monsters in the next 30 minutes, or else he will die. This irks him, but then the monster lifts his leg to attack and he has no option but to defend the baby and him. He then looks at the baby and says that he is not allowed to die, and then activates his elemental power and takes out his special sword. As expected, he transforms into his final form and gets serious as the little kid rejoices because his papa is so cool. Meanwhile, back in the desert, Grandpa Wubu Lei is walking towards Ji Li's room when Bo-Ban interrupts him, asking if he has gathered people to go search with them for God's place. But the old man replied that the situation is worse than he had thought, because people believe all the lies and rumors, and would rather not try and get out of this place. Bo-Ban then gets really angry and says that if people won't help them, they can just go alone for the mission. But the old man knows that the monsters outside this place are much worse, and they won't last very long. With that, he ends the conversation and asks him to come look at Ji Li. That's when Sally arrives as well, and joins them to see what elemental power Ji Li has awakened. She cannot wait for it, and starts running towards the room, and Bo-Ban looks at his lifelong crush running towards to see another man with jealousy. On the other hand, Ji Li has successfully defeated many animals, but it's still not enough, so he is on a slashing spree, killing everyone who comes in his way. That's when his system tells him that he has completed the mission, and Ji Li takes a sigh of relief. The kid also rejoices in happiness, and the poor boy sings because he now realizes that his dad is a hero. Suddenly, they both teleport back to the desert and Ji Li takes a sigh of relief. Just in time, Sally barges in and looks at the tiny baby in front of her, confused because she doesn't know who the child belongs to. Suddenly, Sally starts squealing, seeing the adorable little baby. She asks Ji Li where he came from, and the boy dumbly replies that the kid gave birth to an egg, and even Sally finds this amusing. but Ji Li is not happy when he says that he can't even get rid of him. Just then, Grandpa Wu Bu Lei walks in and asks why Sally is screaming so much, and the girl proudly shows off the kid to the old man, saying that Ji Li got him as one of the souvenirs. Boban turns to him saying that he did not see the kid when he came by earlier, and Ji Li tries to deflect it, saying that he got the baby from the monster's den. Grandpa is done with the topic, so he dismisses Boban and Sally and the girl, then says goodbye to the baby before leaving. The baby turns to Ji Li saying that he is hungry, and the boy understands it, saying that his big sister Sally is going to prepare food. Suddenly the old man starts apologizing and the boy asks why he was doing so. Then the old man says that he was careless by sending him to a high-rank monster. Ji Li could have died because of him, but the boy disagrees, saying that it was his voice as well, and he came victorious out of it because at the end he realizes that him coming here is not an accident. Ji Li starts recalling that when he was in the battle, he entered into a space dimension, where he met an uncle who said that he was waiting for the boy for a very long time. The old man then asked Ji Li to be his master, and when the boy realized that he had no choice, he agreed. And that's how he got the power of Chaos Element. Ji Li asks if everyone who gets their elemental powers goes to the dimension, but the old man says that it does not happen to everyone. He then recalls reading about his element of chaos in an ancient book, and this gets the boy's attention because he wants answers. The old man then starts his story saying that the book told him that thousands of years ago evil god Moriuos came into the human world and caused chaos, slaughter, and evil here. The humans had no choice but to fight the evil god because they were dying by his hands. But when humanity was on the brink of extinction, a hero called Hesiod appeared who had the power of chaos and fought with all the demons. Hesiod gathered an army under him and fought the evil god and his underlings for many years, until he finally killed and sealed Murius inside the Hell Tower Althalos. But as a sacrifice, the hero also has to stay there. Ji Li asks if he saw that hero in the space dimension, and the old man thinks so too. But then Sally interrupts them, and the man gets quiet, saying that they need to keep it a secret before they can confirm it. Sally has prepared a lot of food for everyone, and seeing this, Ji Li gushes over her. Sally blushes and then turns to the chef, saying he is the real mastermind. The chef is actually the same beastman from the cave, and this shocks and irritates Ji Li, who asks what he was doing there. The beastman La Citalo replies that the old man got him here, which is why he is so nice to him and his family. Grandpa says that they don't have much information about outside of Latanaya, which is why he brought him so they can get an idea. That's when the baby finds his way to the beast and starts irritating him, and Ji Li asks about his friends Joss and Falorga, and Sally replies that her grandfather sent them to the town treatment station for their injuries. Satisfied with the answer, they all start to eat and then start raving about the beastman's cooking skills. But they don't know that Lord Hicks is still keeping an eye on Ji Li and is annoyed that he is still living with them. Somewhere in the netherworld, a dragon flies toward a castle where a man with silky silver hair is admiring the purple roses. When the dragon beasts land behind him, the man acknowledges him as Arglus, and the beast transforms into a human. He greets Hades and asks why he had summoned him so urgently. Hades, smiling faintly, explains that he cannot sense Sunil's energy coming from the world, and he fears that Sunil might be dead. Hearing this, Arglus is shocked because no one should have the power to kill him, which is why Hades wants the beast to go to Latanaya and investigate what actually happened there. Like a loyal servant, Arglus agrees and vows to uncover the truth. Back at Latanaya, Sally is surprised to hear about how many beasts Ji Li had to kill in the beast cave. Boban, however, is unimpressed and says that he could have done the same easily. Ji Li responds by insulting him, which irritates the shadow assassin because the boy is mocking him in front of his crush. Sally then asks what element Ji Li awakened, but he deflects the question by asking her what people usually awaken. She replies that healers normally awaken the light element, though she has seen other healers obtaining other powerful elements. Ji Li casually suggests that he might have gotten the light element, and Boban agrees, trying to make Ji Li seem weak. The boy, however, knows that his grandpa asked him to remain discreet for a while. The party arrives at Delk's healing center, where Joss and Falorga are, and they hurry inside, eager to check on them. Suddenly, a portal opens beneath Ji Li, and before he can react, he is transported out of the healing center. When Sally turns around, neither Ji Li nor the baby is in sight. Meanwhile, bored and annoyed, Ji Li finds himself in a hall and looks around, trying to understand why he has been brought there. Suddenly, the green-haired Hicks appears from the shadows, explaining that he summoned Ji Li using magic. He introduces himself as one of the town's guardians and claims that he is in a place accessible only to the strongest. Ji Li, uninterested in his speech, asks why he is there. Hicks replies that he knows Ji Li killed the Beast King and insists that they want him to join their team at any cost. The boy refuses and states that he is leaving. At this, Hicks's composure slips, and he begins rambling about how he knew Ji Li was a brat and that he despises him. He then reveals that his people are already on their way to kill Ji Li's friends because they are deemed useless. This revelation stops Ji Li in his tracks, and the green-haired man gives him one last chance to save his friends' lives. The boy glares back and warns that he is giving Hicks one last chance to stop his team, or they will die. At that moment, Ji Li's chaos powers surge, and Hicks also prepares for a fight. Back at the healing center, Sally and Bo Ban are wondering where he went. But then the man smells something weird, and he suddenly realizes that something is wrong. He alerts Sally, who then looks back with just enough time to see something coming her way, but then Bo Ban uses his shadow hand to pull her back towards him. He secures her head but sends his clone to fight, but the clone is hurt too, and Bo Ban then looks at the man in the cape and asks how dare he attack Sally. The villain then takes out his sword and gets ready for the battle. Meanwhile, Ji Lee dodges all of Hicks's attacks easily while also managing to babysit a baby. But then it is also very tiring for him because he is worried about the baby. But the little kid has other plans because he giggles with laughter thinking his father is a cool man. Ji Lee looks at him all endearing, but Hicks is not amused and says that he underestimated Ji Lee's powers, but he also will take care of his divided attention. Ji Lee turns to him and says that he cannot understand why they are fighting because they both can work together and deal with all the monsters outside the barrier. But Hicks does not want that. Instead, he smiles evilly and says that they would never do that. Then Hicks says Wu Bulei has been hiding the truth from them all. Apparently, they have an agreement in which the monsters stay away from the village in return for a few humans as sacrifices, which is why humans do not interrupt them too. Not only this, but the wise old Wu Bulei knew about this, and had agreed to this because a few dead weaklings are better than sacrificing the whole village. Ji Lee is shocked to hear this, and realizes that these guardians had no plans to leave the desert. In fact, they were in for the long run. Hicks laughs at this thinking that it's a win-win for them, because all the monsters outside are sent by God, so they cannot be defeated by them. But then he starts to insult Grandpa, saying that the old man is pretending to be self-righteous because he does not know the true danger that lies outside the barrier. This all still does not affect Ji Lee, who says that he will not stay there like some sort of coward. He also tries to defend his grandpa, saying that he will leave the desert and he does not care whatever stands between him and his freedom because he will kill them all. Hicks laughs at his naivety, but Ji Lee is not playing, because he then puts the baby on the ground and ready to finally attack and show the green-haired man his true power. That is when Hicks makes a mistake and says that he will kill the baby too. But literally, in the next second, Ji Lee punches him in the stomach, causing him to cry tears of blood. But it does not stop there. Ji Lee keeps on punching the guy till he flies away. Hicks then finally manages to look up and question who the guy in front of him is because he is no ordinary warrior. Meanwhile, back outside the healing center, people are running away from all the explosions. Turns out Sally and Bo Ban are fighting the mysterious man who tried to attack them. Sally uses her fire while Bo Ban uses his shadow clones and assault to gain momentum and fight the guy. They work together as a team. Bo Ban distracts him while Sally prepares to use her Hellfire Blaze to attack the guy from behind. When the dust settles, they see that the place of impact is empty. This confuses and scares the duo because they know that such a powerful attack must have hit him pretty bad. But Bo Ban realizes that that was not the main guy but his clone they were fighting. That's when Sally gets a feeling that someone is behind her, and Bo Ban tries to alert her, but it seems like it's too late because the mysterious villain is about to attack. But at the very last moment, Ji Lee arrives like a true hero and kicks the man away from Sally. He speaks directly to the man, saying that he will not honor any deal and compromise the safety of his friends. The mystery man looks at the intensity of Ji Lee's eyes and suddenly disappears. Sally breaks the tension and asks what is going on, and Ji Lee replies that they need to go back quickly because the old man might be in trouble. On the other hand, Grandpa Wu Bulei is busy studying about the element of chaos. According to his book's prophecy, demons and gods will soon descend and the whole world will be drowned in endless darkness. But the only person who can save humanity is the one who has achieved the element of chaos. With that, the kids walk in, and the old man casually asks if they had already met with their new friends. They then fill him in and he gets shocked, thinking how they can attack his kids. Sally asks if he knows their attackers, and the old man fills in that Ji Lee fought Hicks while Sally and Bo Ban fought with dark attribute magician Lucius. But when he says that those men were the guardians of the town, Sally and Bo Ban are rightfully confused because why would they attack them? The old man then tells them that Hicks, Lucius, Sriracha, and Dorop were the first ones to arrive at the village a few hundred years ago. They started the town, and at that time Latonia was worse than hell. People who went there had to fight the monsters, and also other humans who would kill them for food and trade. But then Dorop came and saved them from everything. He gave the people seeds, taught them how to farm, and established a civil society. But still, the thought of leaving the town was and is considered a taboo because any wrong move and they can anger the monsters outside, causing everyone's lives to be in danger. The old man is talking when Ji Lee interrupts him, saying why is he leaving out the part where they were sacrificing a few people to save everyone else? This alerts Sally and Bo Ban, who cannot think about their old man doing anything wrong. But Ji Lee continues saying that he made the dirty agreement to send people to their death in exchange for protection. The boy asks, why didn't the old man tell them the truth from the beginning, and he puts him in a bad position? Sally then defends her grandpa, saying that he is one of the 12 heroes, and he will never do something like that. But Wu Bulei stops her and says that the boy is right. This shocks Sally and Bo Ban, who used to think of their mentor as perfect. But the man turns to Ji Lee asking what he would do if his loved ones were on one side and mere strangers on the other. because he did what anyone would have done and chose the people he cared for, because he is not some perfect being. He still thinks whether it was the right choice or not, but when the agreement was made, the Guardians used Sally and Boban's lives to keep him in check and threatened that if he violated it, they would kill them in front of his eyes. He says that he is willing to die for the cause, but he cannot see his loved ones suffering because they are the most important people in his life. Sally holds him and tries to console him. Even Ji Li understands the reason and asks if this was the only reason. Boban and Sally take offense, thinking that the boy might be accusing him. But then the boy asks that if he had to choose between the two, then who would he choose? And the old man cannot answer because he understands what Ji Li is trying to say. The boy then apologizes if he said anything wrong, but the old man stops him, saying that he should have done something long before, but he had lost hope. That is until Ji Li came along and changed how he saw the world in a new perspective. He then turns to Sally and Boban, saying that they are grown-ups now and they can make their own choice. And if they do not want to fight, then he can arrange them a safe place. But the kids are not ready to listen. They say that they will help their grandpa no matter what, and it is finally time to fight back and protect innocent town folks. They all stand up with new hope and mission in mind. The old man says that if they want to leave town, then they have to defeat the 4 guardians. Ji Li already defeated Hicks, but he is the weakest one, so fighting with the other 3 will be harder. Grandpa suspects that the trio will come after them as soon as Hicks recovers, so they do not have a lot of time. He then turns to his kids and says that they all will have to break through their limits and be stronger. From now on, their lives depend on their strength, and hearing the words of their old man, the kids prepare for the battle of a lifetime. A while later, Ji Li is outside soaking in the sun and thinking about how his mother must be worried sick about him. That's when he notices the little baby almost dying after chasing a butterfly and catches her just as she is about to fall. He then starts to play with her and pops open his system. He realizes that even after killing the Beast King and getting so many XPs, he only leveled up 10 levels, and the weird uncle from his dream also disappeared. But then he decides to use his unused skill points and updates his defense and agility. That's when a message icon suddenly appears on his screen, and he opens it to see hundreds of messages from Bursting Sweetheart. He is speechless, knowing that the profile belonged to his crush Qin Xiaomei. He does not realize that he could communicate with the outside world, so he opens the messages and sees that his schoolmate is worried about him. At first, she is angry because he did not join her game, but then her concern grows when she realizes that Ji Li has disappeared. Meanwhile, Ji Li wonders whether the game is showing his online status. Then he notices a message saying that his mother was moving to another city and that a bald uncle had visited his old classroom. He becomes confused because he cannot understand why his mother would move or why a strange uncle would visit his friends. Something must have happened to his physical body back at the house, and the only plausible theory is that his mother is selling the house and relocating to another city for his treatment. However, he realizes that the country's best hospital is still in their current city, so moving makes no sense, and they also have enough money to afford proper care. His head starts to ache as he tries to process everything that might be happening back home. The baby sees this and tries to play with her father, but Ji Li tells her to stop, causing the poor child to fall and hit her head. Just like that, chaos erupts as she begins to cry, and Ji Li tries to backtrack, knowing that this will trigger punishment soon. The shrill of the baby's cries activates the punishment, and the boy sighs in defeat, reflecting on his life choices. He is then transported to a place with an active volcano, where a massive dragon breathes down on him. Ji Li turns to the baby and offers her a flower while apologizing. The baby smiles, which gives him a brief sense of relief, and he steels himself for another battle. Meanwhile, at the healing center, Joss looks out the window, feeling fortunate that Wu Bu-lei, one of the 12 heroes, is present. But then he starts overthinking why the old man would be interested in the details of Ji Li's fight with the Beast King. He turns and asks about all of Wu Bu-lei's previous missions, and how he managed to defeat the fearsome demon Quink and become the strongest lightning warrior. He cannot believe that such a formidable warrior could also be trapped there. Wu Bu-lei responds that those were days of his past, and that now he is merely an old man who needs a favor from Joss. Hearing this, the boy perks up and asks what is so important that the old man came to find him personally. Wu Bu-lei explains that it is about Ji Li and his battle with the Beast King, and he wants Joss to hide critical details of the fight from anyone who asks. Joss agrees, saying that he trusts Wu Bu-lei's wisdom without question. With that, the old man leaves, saying he does not want to disturb him further. Joss cannot help but think that if someone as powerful as Wu Bu-lei is trapped there, then leaving the hell is merely a dream. That is when the old man proposes a solution, saying that if Joss wants to escape, he has a way, and he is currently recruiting people to help find God's place. This idea sticks with the boy, and he continues thinking about it when Filorga visits him. The youngster is surprised to see how quickly Joss is standing. Joss, lost in thought about what the old man said, shares it with Filorga, not realizing that he is speaking to someone of such historic significance. Joss explains that he shares the same warrior profession as Wu Bu-lei and has seen his portraits often while growing up. Filorga is equally shocked that someone who traveled to the Black Sea is also trapped in this hell. Joss elaborates that the 12 heroes are not merely titles, They are the world's 12 strongest individuals. Every 5 years, the world hosts a tournament to determine the strongest among them. Guilds send 5 warriors each, and the top 12 who reach the finals are recognized as the strongest heroes. That year, the Thunderbird Guild shocked the world because Wu Bu-lei made everyone remember him with his powers. Even though his guild lost to Chen Bu-tong's Yunze Guild and Azersk's Phoenix Guild, both barely securing victory, Wu Bu-lei then disappeared. Some believed he died in the battle, but in reality, he went alone to the Black Sea to defeat the terrifying monster Quince and end the war. As Joss tells the story to Filorga, he cannot help but smile, realizing that his friend Ji Li's combat abilities resemble those of the legendary heroes. A few hundred years ago, when Wu Bu-lei was still young, he suffered through many traumatic events. One of the worst memories was bleeding and warning his friends to be careful, as it turns out that Sally's parents, Morse and Luna, had been his friends. They were killed by an unknown man, and this memory still haunts the old man. After their death, he decided to take Sally in and care for her. Over the years, he has lived with guilt and regret because he could not accept the truth of his misfortune. He told himself that it was his punishment to be trapped in this hell forever, unable to save his friends. But now he realizes that Sally is innocent and should not have to suffer with him. She deserves to go out into the world and enjoy her life. As a precaution, he placed the lightning god's enchantment in her body, so that if she encounters any danger threatening her life, the enchantment would activate, making it impossible for even God to harm her. Clutching the locket containing his friend's pictures, he promises himself that he will not forget his vow this time. Meanwhile, Ji Li's punishment ends, and he tries to catch his breath, realizing that this ordeal was far more difficult than the previous one. Suddenly, his screen pops up, stating that each time he activates the punishment, the monster's comeback ability increases by 10%. This irritates him because he realizes that every repetition will make the challenge harder and harder. He then notices the little baby trying to read the screen and finds it amusing because she cannot understand the words yet. Suddenly, it clicks in his mind that the baby can see the system. Neither Wu Bu-lei nor Sally could see it, but for some reason, the baby can. He tries his luck by asking if she knows anything he does not, but the little girl shakes her head, and he realizes it is of no use. Still, one thing becomes clear. He is receiving these messages from the outside world because of the baby. At that moment, someone calls from behind, and Ji Li turns to see Sally, Boban, Joss, Filroga, and Wu Bu-lei approaching him. He is overjoyed to see that his friends are safe, and Joss explains that since Ji Li did not come to check on them, they visited him after they recovered. The boy apologizes for not checking on them sooner, saying he had encountered something urgent and did not want to disturb their rest, but it seems they have already recovered. Joss quickly credits Boban and Sally for their recovery, but the Shadow Assassin denies it, trying to preserve his tough persona. Ji Li asks why they came to see him, and they reply that they have decided to join Wu Bu-lei in his search. He then notices the baby beside Boban and is shocked at how quickly she has grown. Trying to cover, he begins to say the baby's name is Luca, but before he can finish, Boban interrupts, insisting that they start training and stop wasting the old man's precious time. Joss tries to argue, and the two start bickering. Seeing this, Wu Bu-lei laughs heartily, and everyone pauses to watch the odd sight. The old man says that after so long, he feels lively again, though Sally realizes this is the first time she has seen her grandfather laugh so happily. He then says they can relax for now because once the training begins, no one will be let off the hook, even if they cry. Joss asks whether the training will truly be that hard, or if the old man is just trying to scare them, and Wu Bu-lei responds that the challenge is so difficult that even some of the 12 heroes might fail. Joss presses for more explanation, and the old man says that in a duel, victory relies on strength, speed, and stamina. To defeat an opponent, they must figure out his weak points because even a small mistake can ruin the outcome and turn the tide of battle. He swings a strange wand in his hand, and suddenly clones of all the kids appear. Wu Bu-lei explains that in a team battle, the outcome depends on combination attacks, synergy, and familiarity. The magic tool, created by the great mage Holinkum for guilds preparing for important battles, creates clones with all the skills and elemental powers of the original, but with 1.5 times stronger combat ability. Although the clones cannot inflict real damage to the body, people still feel pain, and once a fatal blow is delivered, the person is eliminated, leaving the rest to continue fighting at a disadvantage. He warns that on their way to God's place, they will have to lose some of their number and face ruthless and cruel situations. With that, all the kids prepare for a mock battle against themselves. Back at the house, the Beastman is preparing food and asks the old man if he wants anything specific because he is cooking for 3. Wu Bu-lei clarifies that he should prepare enough for 20, which makes the Beastman turn around and ask if they are expecting guests. Before the old man can explain, the door bursts open and a team of young warriors barges in. They all look exhausted and annoyed, and the Beastman complains, wondering how the training could be over so quickly when it had only lasted half an hour. The kids do not respond except to keep eating, asking for more food because they are still tired and hungry. The old man breaks the silence, praising their strength because they lasted more than half an hour against their clones. Instantly, the room grows tense and silent. Wu Bu-lei asks if they are not happy, but his question only angers everyone. Then the dam bursts, and the young warriors all start complaining, saying they could not even fight properly and barely manage to damage any of the clones. Joss explains that he has faced many high-level monsters in one-on-one duels, but this was different because these opponents were far too cunning. Ji adds that his opponents were not mindless creatures. The clones could think and strategize just like them. He then recalls that when the clones split up to hide, everyone thought they would be forced to fight separately, but instead they were ambushed as a group. Ji points out that while his clone eliminated the others, the battle ultimately became a 5-on-1 situation. In that sense, they lost before it had even properly started. Hearing this, the old man realizes that Ji had quickly analyzed the situation and understood that the battle was already lost. He explains that team battles are not about individual combat ability, but about working together and bringing out the best in each other. He compares it to chess, where some pieces must attack, others defend, and some may sacrifice themselves so others can reach the king. He also adds that the clones cannot think for themselves but analyze their skills and form an effective strategy accordingly. Grandpa emphasizes that this was the easiest and most effective plan to deal with the rookie team, which offends Boban, prompting him to defend himself. Ji suddenly understands the old man's point and says that it is like a math problem. If they do not fully understand it, solving it is impossible, and attempting it without comprehension only leads to traps. Therefore, they must learn to fight as a team, understand their weaknesses, and figure out how to effectively defeat the enemy. Satisfied, the old man decides to end the training for the day and promises that tomorrow morning he will teach them how to work together. Everyone acknowledges this and heads to their bedrooms. Lying in bed, Ji reflects on his life choices, realizing that even though it is just training, watching his teammates die while he could do nothing made him feel helpless. He imagines that if it were a real battle, someone would have been killed. He blames himself for still being too weak and vows to become strong enough to protect the people he cares about. Night passes with him trapped in this cycle of self-doubt. His thoughts drift back to his childhood in the real world, remembering when his mother received a great offer from a reputable company but chose a different job with flexible hours to take better care of him. That company, however, turns out to have been terrible. He recalls an incident when his mother asked the boss if he could wait for her on Wednesday afternoons until her shift ended. The arrogant boss refused, claiming those were his busiest days, and began flirting with her, implying that as a single mother she did not need to work so hard. Ji, enraged, kicked the boss and shouted at him for disrespecting his mother. His mother quickly apologized, saying he had a long day and begged the boss to forgive her son, but the boss tried to attack Ji, threatening to kill him. His mother, like a hero, intervened, throwing the boss to the ground as if he were nothing. She then told Ji that she did not want to work for him anyway and apologized, promising they would enjoy a proper meal together another day. This memory strengthens Ji's resolve to protect his mother at all costs. However, he realizes that with his current abilities, he is still too weak to truly protect anyone. Just as he is trapped in these thoughts, a strange tingly sensation spreads through his chest, signaling to him that the weird uncle from before has returned. Ji calls out into the silence, asking if the voice he just heard truly belonged to the weird uncle and, if so, where he was standing. Seeing no one around him, he grows confused, because the voice had sounded so real and undeniably close. He turns toward Luca and asks if she heard it, but the poor baby just shakes her head, too young to comprehend anything. Accepting that he is likely just exhausted, Ji wonders if he has started hallucinating. Suddenly, the baby clings to him, her small, adorable face pressed against his chest as he comforts her with a blanket. As he holds her, he begins to reflect on how his mother raised him alone and marvels at her resilience. These thoughts soon shift to his promise to his mother that he will return safely and restore life to how it once was. He knows he must grow stronger, defeat the Guardians, and leave the town with Grandpa Wu Bule and his new friends. Even though he had killed the Beast King, the strongest enemy he had faced so far, he realizes that raw strength alone is not enough. He is lost in this contemplation when the weird uncle's voice returns, snapping him to attention. The voice tells him that it is good he has finally realized his mistakes, which leaves Ji utterly shocked. The weird uncle continues, explaining that, unlike the brainless Beast King, the clone's Grandpa Wu Bule had him fight possessed real combat ability and were stronger and more dangerous. Ji finally turns and sees the uncle standing in a space-like dimension, a cherry blossom tree blooming above his head. The boy realizes he was not imagining things. The voice really did come from the uncle. Looking around, he asks where he is and how he suddenly appeared in this place. The uncle, silver-haired and radiating the wisdom of a lifetime, explains that this is the world of his inner heart and that he has resided here ever since Ji became his master. Ji had never imagined such a world existed, but he does not question it. The uncle continues, revealing that after emerging from the previous face dimension, he was too weak and only now could come to see Ji. The boy expresses gratitude, knowing that the uncle's support enabled him to defeat the Beast King. Then, pointing to the flowers surrounding him, Ji Li asks why his inner heart is filled with blossoms. The uncle explains that each person's inner world reflects what they care for most deeply, and these flowers are connected to Ji Li's consciousness on a level he cannot yet understand. Ji Li struggles to comprehend this, wondering how red flowers could be linked to him when he has never taken an interest in them. The uncle assures him that the true meaning and connection will reveal themselves later because he has come for a matter far more important. The silver-haired man continues, asking what if he could make Ji Li far stronger than he is now. As he speaks, his body begins to glow, revealing a frightening intensity. He explains that although he has only recovered 1% of his combat power, it is enough for Ji Li to begin to grasp the terrifying potential of the chaos element. Currently, Ji Li can unleash only 0.001% of that power, which shocks him because even with all his current strength, it is such a tiny fraction. The man stresses that this is only a rough estimate, but still Ji Li cannot believe it. He then shuts down unnecessary conversation, insisting that Ji Li must learn to access his hidden power and grow stronger, because if Ji Li dies, the old man himself will also cease to exist. At that moment, a new notification pops up on Ji Li's system, signaling the start of the Chaos Element Master's trial. The mission requires him to survive 3 minutes against his opponent to earn a massive amount of EXP. Ji Li reads this and realizes that he only needs to last a few minutes to gain enormous rewards. The weird uncle then locks eyes with him and challenges him directly. Ji Li draws his sword and activates his elemental power, declaring that he is ready for the battle. Meanwhile, in a dim, creepy hallway, people are discussing whether Ji Li is truly as strong as rumored. Hicks, who fought him earlier, is still recovering from injuries so severe that even his friends had never seen anything like it. Despite being healed, he cannot accept that a mere boy could defeat him and tries to rationalize it, claiming Ji Li was just lucky. Suddenly, a sarcastic voice cuts through the hallway, and Hicks turns to see a woman dressed in white staring at him with complete disdain, as though he were nothing. She says that if Ji Li had used his killer move fully, he would be dead already. Offended, Hicks asks Lucius how she can speak to him this way. She removes her veil and explains that Lord Dorop had only asked him to assess the opponent's ability, yet he injured himself so badly in the process. She cannot understand how someone so incompetent could be one of the 4 esteemed guardians of the town. Hicks tries to defend himself but falters as she continues analyzing the situation. From her perspective, Ji Li is indeed strong, but he is still a barbarian with no real strategy. Even with Grandpa Wu Bulei training him in front of Lord Dorop, they are all mere ants awaiting death. Meanwhile, the shadowy figure who attacked Sally earlier informs them that the old man has started recruiting townspeople, and because he is one of the 12 heroes, the citizens trust that they can escape. However, if Lord Dorop intervenes, chaos will erupt, and the townspeople will panic, so even that is not a viable option. Lucius asks what the shadowy man intends, and he uses his magic to reveal a terrifying monster standing behind him. The creature's appearance horrifies both Hicks and Lucius. It is the Latanaya Wanderer. The figure in the shadows directs the beast to attack, and like a wild wolf, the creature lashes out, charging toward hundreds of innocent townspeople in a fury. As decided earlier, Ji Li is running from the weird uncle to complete his mission. He apologizes to him inwardly, because all he can think about is how he just needs to avoid fighting for 3 more minutes to finish the task. Once the timer runs out, he plans to train however the uncle wants him to. But then he suddenly realizes that the old man has not caught up to him yet, and something about that feels wrong. Before he can process it, a swirling hurricane appears in front of him, blocking his path and forcing him to stop. That is when it hits him that this battle is far more dangerous than simple training. The strange man is genuinely trying to kill him, and if it weren't for the Beast King's protection shield, Ji Li would not have been able to dodge even a single strike, and would have died the moment the fight began. The gray-haired man finally calls him out, mocking his pathetic attempt at fleeing and asking if he really thinks he can avoid a direct fight. He warns that such childish tactics are useless against a seasoned warrior, but Ji Li proves otherwise when he suddenly points behind the old man, shouting in alarm. When the uncle instinctively turns to look, Ji Li takes the chance to sprint away as fast as he can. He glances at his system timer and sees that only a few more moments remain. If he can just keep this up, the mission will be complete. Trying to buy time, he shouts back and suggests that they take a break first, promising to fight after he catches his breath. The gray-haired man responds that running away will never solve anything. Before Ji Li can even blink, the man transforms and appears right behind him, warning that a real enemy never lets you rest. He swings his sword, but Ji Li is gone again. That's when the old man realizes the boy has used the same technique as him, disappearing from sight with astonishing speed. It turns out Ji Li has used the burst slash he obtained from the Beast King cave earlier. The boy then spots the man flying in the air, and he realizes how close he came to losing. Since that last attack was purely physical, he barely managed to counter it using his own slash technique. Meanwhile, the gray-haired man is equally stunned, wondering how the kid moved so fast that it felt like teleportation. Ji Li checks his system again and panics when he sees that his skill has a 5-minute cooldown. If the man attacks again before the timer resets, he will fail the mission. With only 30 seconds left, he decides to gamble and throws his sword to the ground. Pretending to give up, he says that he understands the value of combat experience, but needs just 1 minute to rest before continuing. The weird man lands back on the ground and sighs, agreeing reluctantly only because he wants the boy to explain how he performed that technique. Geely wonders if he is referring to the burst/skill, and before he can think further, his system notifies him that the mission has been successfully completed and all EXPs have been collected. Relaxing slightly, he begins to explain how these skills work, saying that they follow a kind of inner command. When he focuses on a move, his body instinctively executes it without hesitation. The gray-haired man frowns, admitting that most of what Geely said makes no sense. But what catches his attention is the move itself, because he has seen it before. This revelation shocks Geely, who cannot understand how anyone else could have used that skill. The old man falls into deep thought, saying that the way Geely moved felt strangely familiar, as if he had once known it well, but no matter how hard he tries, he cannot recall anything specific. Geely then remembers what his grandpa once told him about the legend of Hesiod. Considering that the uncle gave him the chaos elemental power, he realizes it is very likely that the man in front of him is Hesiod himself. If that is true, then helping him recover his memory might also help solve many mysteries. Geely calls out to him with conviction, saying that he knows his true identity. He declares that he is Hesiod, the great warrior who defeated the evil god Moraus and saved the world from destruction. He then asks if hearing the name brings back any memories, but the man just stares blankly, unable to tell if Hesiod is even his name, let alone recall who he really is. Meanwhile, back in the Lantonia desert, the Beastman, who also works as the household cook, is fast asleep, snoring peacefully. Boban, however, lies awake, unable to close his eyes because something about the silence feels wrong. He sits up, tense, and then sniffs the air, recognizing a faint scent that makes his heart pound. The realization hits him. It is the same scent as the mystery monster. Before he can react, the roof suddenly collapses, sending debris everywhere. The loud crash wakes the Beastman, who jumps up in confusion, still half asleep and trying to understand what is happening. In the flickering shadows, glowing red eyes appear, and the monstrous figure steps forward, staring at its next prey. The Beastman finally regains consciousness and climbs out of the rubble. He frantically searches for Boban, fearing that his friend might be buried under the debris, suffocating or already dead. Just as he looks around, a large rock suddenly hits him in the face, leaving him in pain and confusion. Wondering who could be throwing rocks in the middle of the night, he turns and sees a monstrous figure smashing the ground while Boban fights fiercely against it. The shadow assassin appears behind the monster and uses his shadow sword skill to strike, but the monster blocks his swing with immense force, sending Boban crashing to the ground. Despite the fall, Boban's fury burns stronger because he knows he is not mistaken. The beast demon in front of him is the same creature that murdered his parents. With hatred and resolve in his eyes, he vows that no matter what form the monster takes, even if he turns to ashes, he will never forgive or forget what he did. He then draws both his swords and unleashes his shadow elemental power, declaring that every day of his life since that tragedy has been spent preparing for this exact moment. Ironically, he never expected that the monster would come to him instead. The Beastman tries to reach out, asking if he is all right and demanding to know why the monster is in their home. But Boban, consumed by vengeance, shouts at him to leave, saying that tonight he will rip the creature apart limb by limb, crush his bones one by one, and spill his blood over his parents' graves. With that, he charges at the beast with full strength, determined to end him once and for all. Meanwhile, the town's guardian, Lucius, is observing everything from atop a mountain with her fellow guardians. Hicks, the green-haired healer, points out that the selective attacks happening around the town seem suspicious. The shadowed figure standing nearby responds that he has already summoned additional demon beasts into the village, and when the right moment comes, they will lure Wu Bulei out so that Lord Dorop can personally kill him. Hearing this, Lucius dismisses Hicks, warning him not to fail his mission again because she intends to deal with the new healer, Ji Li, herself. She smirks, hoping that the boy can at least last long enough for her to enjoy the fight. Back at the farm, the Beastman rushes into Wu Bulei's home, shouting that something terrible is happening. He reports that Boban is battling a beast demon, and the moment Wu Bulei hears this, his instincts as a protector ignite. His eyes darken with concern, and just as he prepares to move, an explosion echoes from the town. Shock and anger wash over him as he realizes how dire the situation has become. He immediately orders the Beastman to find Ji Li and make sure he stays close to Sally for safety. Without wasting another second, Wu Bulei summons his lightning power and vanishes in a flash of light. Elsewhere, Ji Li remains trapped within his inner realm, speaking with the gray-haired man and trying to remind him that he is Hesiod, the hero who once defeated the evil god and sealed him inside the Hell Tower Altalos, though at the cost of being imprisoned there himself. When Geely asks if he remembers any of it, the man replies that his mind is still blank. This frustrates Geely, who jokes to himself that in every anime or manga, people regain their memories as soon as they hear their name. But the gray-haired man insists that he truly remembers nothing about this world, and the name Hesiod feels like nothing more than a title. Still, after witnessing Ji Li's skills, he admits that for the first time in ages, he feels a faint sense of familiarity, like a distant echo of belonging. Hearing that, Ji Li begins to ponder why all these strange events are happening and what his purpose here truly is. He reasons that if his uncle really is Hesiod, then perhaps recovering his memories could reveal the answers he has been searching for. The gray-haired man then challenges him to a duel, asking him to fight with everything he has so that the battle might help unlock more of his lost memories. Seeing sense in this, Ji Li agrees and summons his sword again. However, before they can start, a faint voice pierces through his thoughts. It's Luca's voice, calling out to him in distress. The sudden sound alarms him because the baby should be safely asleep at home. Back in the real world, Lucius has already appeared in Ji Li's room, standing over baby Luca and the boy's resting body. With a sly grin, she teases the baby, saying that she has come only for Ji Li, not for her. But seeing the little girl clinging to her father so tightly, she mocks her again, saying perhaps she should kill them both so they can journey to the afterlife together. Just as she prepares to strike, both the boy and the baby vanish like a sudden gust of wind and reappear behind her. Ji Li, now awake and alert, thanks little Luca for protecting him. He looks at Lucius with calm determination and tells his daughter not to worry anymore because, compared to all the monsters and punishments he has faced in the dungeons, the woman before them is nothing he cannot handle. Back in the town, chaos spreads as the monsters rampage through the streets, killing anyone who crosses their path and tearing apart everything in sight. Amid the destruction, a small girl sits beside her fallen mother, crying and begging her to wake up because she is terrified and alone. As the child sobs, a monster notices her and leaps forward, ready to devour her. Just as its claws are about to strike, a burst of triple thunder power crashes down from above, striking the creature with blinding force. When the monster turns, it sees Grandpa Wubu standing firm, protecting the little girl trembling in his arms. The other monsters snarl and rush toward him, realizing he is the only one capable of stopping them, but the old man takes their challenge head on. Holding the girl close, he moves like lightning, tearing through a wave of glowing red-eyed beasts with ease, determined to shield her no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Joss and Filorga are also fighting desperately to defend the town. Between clashes, they call out to the old man, asking what is happening and why the monsters suddenly started attacking. Wubule explains that the town is protected by a barrier that is constantly guarded to keep demons from entering, but a crack must have formed somewhere, allowing the creatures to slip through. He adds that this kind of invasion could not have happened without help from the inside, meaning someone within the town has betrayed them. As he pieces everything together, his tone darkens, and he mutters that the traitors must have grown impatient. Joss and Filorga exchange confused looks because they cannot understand what he means, but Wubule's expression hardens as the realization strikes him. He says that all these monsters are likely just a distraction, because the true goal of the Guardian is to kill them. With that, he gently pats the little girl's head to comfort her, and turns to his two young allies. He orders them to rescue as many townspeople as possible, and bring everyone to his house for safety. Joss hesitates and asks where he is going. The old man replies that he must reach the outer area to seal the barrier before it collapses completely. The golden-haired boy protests, saying that the outer area will be crawling with monsters, and that they should go with him as backup, but Wubule has already ignited his lightning elemental power. His eyes glow fiercely as he tells them there is no need for backup, and that their duty is to protect the townspeople. Before they can argue further, he activates his first royal thunderflash and launches himself into the air, vanishing in a streak of blue light. At the same time, back at Wubule's house, Lucius and Ji Li are locked in battle once again. Lucius seems both pleased and surprised that Ji Li's speed has improved so dramatically since their last encounter. While fighting, the boy suddenly connects the dots and realizes that it was Lucius, disguised as a hooded figure, who attacked Sally and Boban before. He did not expect the infamous guardian Lucius to be a woman, and without thinking, he calls out to her, asking why the auntie attacked him. The remark instantly enrages her because she cannot comprehend why a grown man would call her that. Ji Li tries to reason with her, saying that if they can find God's place, everyone in the town could finally be free, so he cannot understand why the Guardians are trying to stop them. Lucius responds coldly that Lord Dorop devoted immense time and effort to building this town, and she will not allow anyone to destroy the peace they have worked so hard to create. She insists that the so-called God's place is a myth and that defying divine order is nothing but foolish rebellion. Ji Li refuses to back down. He draws his sword and declares that God's place is real, and anyone who tries to stop him or harm his friends will face his wrath because he does not play around when it comes to the people he cares about. His body glows as he channels his elemental power, showing Lucius just how strong he has become. Lucius, however, looks more amused than impressed. She mocks him for being arrogant just because he defeated Hicks, reminding him that the green-haired guardian he fought before was the weakest among the four. She warns that she, on the other hand, is nearly as strong as Lord Dorop himself. To prove it, she summons her Shadow Sword Wolf, a level 45 creature known for its speed and flexibility, and commands it to attack. Ji Li does not flinch. He activates his Annihilation Slash and obliterates the creature in a single strike, its body evaporating into dust. Lucius stares in disbelief, refusing to accept what she just witnessed. She cannot believe the boy deflected her attack so effortlessly, but she is far from finished. With a furious cry, she summons 3,000 shadow swords and sends them flying toward Ji Li. The boy calmly raises his hand and activates his protection ring, the same one he obtained from the beast cave, forming a glowing barrier around himself. The swords shatter harmlessly against it. Smirking, he taunts her, asking if that was really her strongest attack. Lucius clenches her fists in frustration, realizing she severely underestimated him. Determined to prove her strength, she stomps the ground and rises into the air, her energy flaring violently. She declares that the real battle is only beginning, and that he will soon witness her true power. A massive demon emerges behind her, wielding a gigantic sword in its jaws, its eyes burning with rage as it locks onto Ji Li. Lucius watches proudly, eager to see how long the boy can survive against such overwhelming might. At that moment, a new system mission appears before Ji Li, instructing him to defeat the enemy leader, protect the integrity of the town, and destroy the beast. Without hesitation, he accepts the challenge, ready to face whatever comes next. In the town suburbs, monsters continue pouring through the shattered barrier, while the guards fight desperately to defend the boundary. They strike down as many enemies as they can, but the sheer number of monsters quickly overwhelms them. At the same time, the healers and magicians are working tirelessly to seal the cracks in the barrier, yet their efforts seem useless because the monsters are entering at an unstoppable rate. One of the soldiers turns back toward the magicians and urgently asks how much longer it will take to fix the corner crack since they cannot hold out for much longer. The young magician looks helplessly at her teacher and admits that their energy is too weak to block it completely. The teacher understands that she is right, but he cannot allow despair to spread among his comrades. Forcing a steady tone, he shouts to his soldiers that they must stand their ground, because guarding this area is their responsibility. Even if they die, they must not allow the monsters to break through the barrier. His words ignite new determination in the two soldiers, Wagner and Lu, who grip their weapons and brace for the next wave. Their brief hope is crushed when another deep crack appears in the barrier. The woman turns to her teacher again and cries that they cannot hold any longer. Just when defeat feels inevitable, a lightning strike suddenly hits the cracked section, and the barrier begins to repair itself. Everyone watches in awe as the glowing wall slowly recovers, and when they turn around, they see Wu Bu-lei, one of the 12 heroes, standing behind them. His power radiates through the air, reminding everyone what it means to be a true hero. However, even his strength is not enough to stop the onslaught for long. As Wu Bu-lei looks down from above, he sees that the monsters are still flooding in at a dangerous pace. Determined to protect the town, he releases a massive electric strike that wipes out the horde in an instant. He then calls out to the teacher, Daemont, telling him to leave this area to him and take the others to seal the remaining cracks. Daemont bows in acknowledgement and orders the magicians and soldiers to follow him. The moment they leave, a violent gust of wind fills the air. Wu Bu-lei squints through the storm, trying to locate its source, and then spots a hooded figure descending from the sky. The soldiers cheer when they recognize the man as Lord Dorop, their supposed savior. But their joy turns to horror as Dorop raises his hand and incinerates the very soldiers who trusted him. Wu Bu-lei watches in disbelief as their bodies turn to ash. Shocked and furious, he demands to know why Dorop would murder his own people. Dorop only smirks and declares that the villagers are nothing but trash. He explains that since he gave them a safe place to live, their lives belong to him, and he has every right to reclaim them whenever he pleases. In his eyes, their deaths are simply the consequence of their disobedience and betrayal. The so-called guardian no longer looks human. One of his eyes is missing, and half of his face is twisted and deformed by some unknown curse. Meanwhile, back at Wu Bu-lei's home, Ji Li is locked in battle with Lucius, struggling to block her sword attacks. He relies on his speed to evade each strike, but the monster she commands is relentless, pressing him to his limit. Realizing that defending himself endlessly will only get him killed, Ji Li decides to counterattack. He channels his energy through his blade, and with one powerful slash, he sends the monster flying like an insect caught in a storm. Lucius stares in disbelief and irritation, wondering how a mere healer can strike with such strength. As the monster crashes to the ground, Ji Li looks at her calmly and tells her to accept defeat and go help protect the town instead. But Lucius only laughs mockingly, saying that he clearly does not understand what is happening. She reveals that Lord Dorop himself has broken the town's barrier and that tonight, everyone who defied him will face punishment. That includes Grandpa Wu Bu-lei, who will be personally executed by Dorop's own hand. Ji Li freezes for a moment, unable to believe what he has heard. The thought of Wu Bu-lei fighting alone against someone that powerful fills him with dread. He also realizes that the old man does not have his weapon, which means his chances of survival are even smaller. Knowing he must act quickly, Ji Li steels himself to finish this fight. He activates his annihilation mode, his energy flaring brighter than ever, and fixes his eyes on the enemy in front of him, determined to end it and rush to help Grandpa Wu Bu-lei. The guardian Lucius realizes that Ji Li has grown even stronger, but before she can fully process what is happening, the boy uses his blessing power to teleport from the ground to right in front of her within a millisecond. Lucius is taken aback because she cannot understand how a simple healer could possess such an ability. Yet before she can find an answer, Ji Li channels his burst slash and delivers a powerful punch that makes her choke on her own blood. However, the attack does not kill her, which surprises Lucius even more because she knows she should not have survived it. She demands to know why Ji Li is sparing her life, but he turns away in silence, unwilling to answer. Just then, a new notification appears on his screen, stating that his mission progress has been updated and Shadow Magician Lucius has been defeated. Meanwhile, at the barrier, Lord Dorop is summoning tornadoes around Grandpa Wu Bu Lei to throw him off balance and make his attacks harder to land. Despite the chaos, the old man uses his ancient lightning technique to maneuver through the storm, forcing his way toward Dorop in an attempt to land a hit. But before he can strike, the evil lord counters with his signature wind attack, forcing Wu Bu Lei to abandon his offensive move to defend himself. Amused, Lord Dorop laughs and asks if the old man truly believes he can win. He reminds him that the era of the 12 heroes ended long ago, and that he is nothing more than a frail relic of that past. Dorop declares himself a god with limitless power who watches mortals like Wu Bu Lei fade away with time. The old man tries to stand his ground, but against a being of divine strength, he can barely hold his shield together. When it finally shatters, Lord Dorop summons the Wind Tempest, sending Wu Bu Lei crashing out of the storm. As he watches the man fall, he coldly bids farewell, believing he has finally destroyed one of the 12 heroes. Elsewhere, Lucius lies on the ground, unable to move because every breath burns with pain. Her body trembles, yet her mind is trapped on one thought. Ji Li could have killed her, but he chose not to. She watches him play peacefully with baby Luca, wondering why he would show mercy to an enemy. Gathering her remaining strength, she confronts him directly, suggesting that he might be mocking her by sparing her life. She tries to sound defiant, warning that she will not show gratitude and will one day find another chance to kill him. Ji Li calmly responds that he never wanted her gratitude. He simply has more urgent things to take care of, but the next time they meet, it will be his sword that ends the fight, not his fist. Lucius feels humiliated but is too weak to retaliate. Ji Li, on the other hand, quietly reflects that although she is clearly an NPC, everything in this world feels far too real. In normal games, he can fight without thinking about morality or consequence. But here, the idea of killing someone who seems alive feels heavy on his conscience. Just then, Lucius gathers enough strength to stand and calls out to him, warning that Wu Bu Lei is at the western barrier fighting Lord Dorop. She tells him that even if they work together, they still will not be able to defeat such a powerful enemy. Ji Li looks at her coldly and tells her not to worry about it. He then opens his system portal, studies the map, and glances at baby Luca with determination. Knowing that Wu Bu Lei cannot hold out much longer, he activates his extra speed and rushes toward the battlefield to lend his aid. At the west barrier, a sudden starlight bursts from behind the storm, catching Lord Dorop's attention. He narrows his eyes trying to trace its source, but before he can comprehend anything, a lightning fist slams into his face and launches him straight into orbit. The lightning fist comes from the man who specializes in lightning power. Wu Bu Lei is flying in the air, having used his secret art, the Thunder Fist. His hair has turned ice blue and his eyes are glowing with light. Lord Dorop lands on the ground, clearly injured, dazed, and shocked from the attack. The old man wastes no time and dives down to land another hit, but his punch only meets the ground. He realizes that Lord Dorop is no longer there. Instead, he has vanished. A mocking laugh echoes behind him, and when he turns around, he finds the evil god standing there. Lord Dorop tells him that he is just an old man past his prime, working overtime to protect a group of pests. He mocks him for being sentimental, saying it's touching but amusing, because it has been a long time since anyone has managed to excite him this much. Yet, he adds, the old man still has no chance against him. Dorop raises his hand and displays several rings, each representing a different elemental power he commands. He admits that he respects Wu Bu Lei despite their enmity, but now he will make him suffer. With that, he promises to let him experience the true terror of a 4-element magician. In an instant, 4 colossal monsters take shape before them: a stone giant, a water serpent, a blazing fire beast, and a massive dragon. Meanwhile, Joss, the golden boy, is busy fighting off the demon monsters, while Filorga operates in his usual focused rhythm. Filorga comments that there aren't any monsters appearing on their side, which must mean Uncle Wu Bu Lei has fixed the barrier. Joss checks on him and asks if he's alright, and Filorga replies that he is, though it's his first time facing so many high-level monsters. Joss admits he has never seen such a relentless horde either, and they both realize how much worse it must have been for the first people who came here. They look at the casualties around them, and understand that those people must have endured suffering beyond imagination. Joss then tells his partner that it's time to move. They need to help the people in the outer area, since they will be struggling to deal with monsters over there. But before they can act, Joss looks up and notices 2 enormous figures of lightning in the sky. They are the ice and fire monsters that have just been summoned. Filorga is stunned, witnessing such massive summoned creatures for the first time, realizing they could only have come from an incredibly powerful elemental magician within the town. Joss thinks about it and explains that although many elemental magicians can control multiple elements, their power is usually weaker than that of a magician who specializes in a single element. That is why their combat ability tends to be limited. However, there is only one magician capable of wielding so many elements at once while maintaining such overwhelming strength. Suddenly, another burst of starlight flashes across the sky and Falorga calls Joss to look. It is Grandpa Wu Bu Lei, his fighting spirit burning brighter than ever. He dodges the fire monster's attack and soars upward, closing the distance between himself and Lord Dorop. As soon as he gets close, he unleashes his triple thunderstrike fist, pouring every ounce of power into his blows. But before he can land the attack, Lord Dorop smiles, confident that he has already anticipated the move. And he has, because the next moment, a massive stone fist crashes toward the old man from the side. Wu Bule reacts in time, narrowly escaping the strike. He counters by diving straight at the rock monster's face, striking its eye and shattering its head until the creature collapses into rubble scattered across the battlefield. Yet before he can catch his breath, a tidal wave crashes down upon him as the water monster attacks with its spear made of liquid force. The wave engulfs him, and for a brief moment, his body struggles against the crushing current. It becomes clear that Grandpa Wu Bule truly is past his prime. Though his spirit burns fiercely, his aging body can no longer keep up with the demands of a battle against a god and his summoned beasts. Somehow, the old man manages to dodge the attack from the fire monster and lands on the ground, looking at the mess and the storm he created while defeating the ice monster. But suddenly, the stone monster awakens again and tries to capture him. He senses the danger just in time and escapes the attack as well. However, he's now seriously injured, and blood drips from his arms. Lord Dorop suddenly appears behind him, saying he didn't expect the old man to dodge his attack. It seems he underestimated him. Yet in the end, he adds, the old man is still just a human. His body has grown old, and he is no longer the same man who once fought the demon Quink. Dorop smirks, claiming that unlike him, he possesses the body of a god, young, immortal, and overflowing with magic that everyone envies. As his right eye begins to glow red, he revels in his own divinity, boasting that he rules over weak and pitiful mortals like the old man before him. But Wu Bule silences his arrogance, saying that Lord Dorop is nothing more than a man who sold his soul to demons in exchange for endless energy. In that sense, he says, Dorop is just a dog licking the god's feet. He then asks if it is truly worth living without any sense of taste, smell, or touch, because in truth, Dorop is the one who envies others for living better lives than his own. The words strike a nerve, and Lord Dorop's expression twists into rage. In a burst of fury, Dorop uses his dark magic to capture the old man, pulling him closer while sneering that his life and death are now in his hands. Killing Wu Bule, he says, would be as simple as crushing an ant. He laughs wickedly, declaring that he will tell everyone it was he who opened the barrier, and that he is the true hero who killed one of the 12 heroes and saved the entire town. Now he says, it's time for the old man to die. Wu Bule accepts his words calmly, and closes his eyes as though his final moment has come. But today is not the day he draws his last breath, because Ji Li ensures that. Appearing like a lightning bolt, Ji Li strikes Lord Dorop with immeasurable speed, sending him crashing into the mountains behind. The magical force holding Wu Bule vanishes, and he begins to fall, only for Ji Li to catch him just in time and help him stand. The old man looks at the boy with relief, while Lord Dorop, watching from a distance, now notices the gray-haired newcomer. Ji Li turns to his grandfather and asks if he's all right. The old man replies that he has only a few small injuries, then asks why Ji Li is even there. Ji Li explains that after defeating Lucius, she told him Dorop was preparing to kill him too, so he rushed over to return his sword. He apologizes, saying that if he had remembered to return Ozil sooner, his grandfather might not have been this badly hurt. But Wu Bule tells him not to worry, because even with Ozil, he would not have been able to defeat Lord Dorop. Dorop had already sold his soul to the devil in exchange for unimaginable power, and despite Wu Bule being one of the 12 heroes, he can no longer beat him. The old man admits he is no longer the warrior he once was. His body has aged, his strength has faded, and in the end, he too is just a mortal. Since he has already passed his prime, all that remains is a long descent toward his death. Yet until that day comes, he vows to protect those he loves. That is why he orders Ji Li to take Sally and the others and leave through the transportation seal he placed in the fields earlier. He will stay behind and stall Dorop long enough for them to reach safety. But Ji Li refuses, saying he will not leave Grandpa Wu Bule behind, and neither will Sally, Boban, Joss, Falorga, or even the new beastman servant. He then hands his sword to the old man, saying that his mother always told him the world is not an easy place to live in, but they must never accept their fate without a fight. They must stand for what they believe in, and one day, they will defeat Dorop and lead everyone to find the god's place. Wu Bule receives the sword, and a system pop-up appears, stating that the mission has been completed as the sword was delivered to its master. As a result, Ji Li obtains 1.5 million XP. A sense of triumph begins to rise between them, but Lord Dorop interrupts the moment with a cruel laugh, asking if they truly believe they can defeat him. A massive ball of fury ignites in the sky, glowing like a second sun before descending at blinding speed toward Ji Li and Wu Bu Lei. But Ji Li, protected by the ring he obtained earlier, activates it just in time, forming a glowing bubble around them. Watching from above, Lord Dorop sneers, saying that these weak mortals still dare to challenge him. As punishment, he declares, they will now witness the wrath of a god. With a single swipe of his hand, he unleashes his skill Explosive Fire Rain, causing molten lava to rain from the heavens, tearing through the clouds and crashing toward the two mortals below. The shield around Ji Li and Wu Bu Lei begins to crack under the overwhelming force of the lava bombardment. Ji Li knows it too. His system notification flashes urgently, warning that Beast King's protective shield is about to collapse. Then, in a flash of heat and magic, it finally shatters, and molten fire rains down upon them. From above, Lord Dorop laughs, convinced that no one could possibly survive an attack of such magnitude. He declares that they must already have been reduced to ashes. But suddenly, his smirk fades as his eyes catch sight of something unexpected. A strange radiant bubble has formed around them, untouched and glowing with unfamiliar energy. The sight shocks not only Dorop, but also Wu Bu Lei and Ji Li, who look up in disbelief to see baby Luca floating above them, using her powers to protect her father and grandfather. Lord Dorop stares in stunned silence, asking how a mere child could cast a magic shield of such strength. Just then, Ji Li's system flashes again with a new notification. Luca's battle will has been activated. It states that a new skill has been unlocked for Ji Li, called Aegis Shield, a legendary level barrier capable of absorbing incoming damage and converting 50% of it into the user's magic power. Ji Li asks his baby if she's alright, and Luca turns toward her papa with tired eyes, clearly drained. Before she can even reassure him, her small body gives in, and she collapses. Thankfully, Ji Li catches her just in time, cradling her gently, and whispering that she doesn't need to worry anymore because he's here to protect her now. As he holds her close, his mind replays what just happened. Even the Beast King's shield wasn't able to block that attack, and yet it was Luca who stood against it. If not for her, both he and Grandpa Wu Bu Lei would have been reduced to ashes. Just then, a system pop-up appears, stating that Luca's battle will has evaporated, and she will now enter storage space to recover, with a cooldown that might take up to 24 hours. Her body begins to glow faintly before slowly dissolving into shimmering light, disappearing back into the storage space where she originated. Meanwhile, the old man Wu Bu Lei keeps his eyes fixed on Lord Dorop in the sky. He turns to Ji Li and explains that Dorop has been using a tremendous amount of magic continuously, which means he must now be in a cooldown phase. That's why he plans to distract him and draw his attention, giving Ji Li a chance to get close and land his strongest move. Without hesitation, Wu Bu Lei activates First Style Lightning Jump and blasts into the sky to confront his opponent head-on. Back on the ground, Ji Li watches in awe and concern, trying to assess just what level Dorop truly is, because his power must be far above that of Beast King Sunil. He quickly attempts to use his system to check Dorop's level, HP, and stats, but the scan fails, showing only an error message. A sinking feeling settles in his chest as he realizes this is exactly like what happened with the Wandering Dominator in the desert. Once again, his opponent's power is beyond measurement. Up in the sky, Dorop's face twists with irritation, his voice echoing with fury as he growls that the two of them are nothing but persistent pests who are beginning to seriously test his patience. Wu Bu Lei draws his sword, Ozil, and flings it high into the air, unleashing a torrent of crackling magic that lights up the heavens. He declares that he'll refer to the evil lord by his first name now because he's lost all respect for him, and then says that it's time to settle this once and for all. The old man's eyes burn with determination, anger, and disgust, but Dorop only laughs, completely unfazed. Mocking him, Dorop asks why the old man is speaking as if this is some kind of fair fight, because in the end, it's a one-sided slaughter. But Grandpa Wu Bu Lei doesn't flinch. In the blink of an eye, he activates Second Style Lightning Charge and propels himself forward at lightning speed to strike. Dorop calls him a relic who's overestimating himself and retaliates by summoning his elemental powers to awaken the might of the earth itself. He raises an enormous mountain from the ground to form a barrier between them. Wu Bu Lei swings his sword, obliterating the mountain in one sweeping motion. When more boulders rise to block him, he destroys them too, cutting through everything in his path without slowing down. Dorop doesn't stop there. He summons fire to distract Wu Bu Lei, and in an instant, the once defeated ice and fire monsters are reborn. Wu Bu Lei faces them again, alone, but he doesn't back down. He tears through them one after another, enduring wave after wave until he finally closes the gap between him and Dorop. The evil god scoffs and tells him to conserve his energy because he will never reach him. That's when he suddenly senses something fast approaching from behind. Turning sharply, he sees Ji Li closing in. Ji Li finishes Dorop's sentence, saying that maybe Wu Bu Lei can't reach him, but he can. Gritting his teeth, he realizes this is his one chance to deliver a fatal blow. He has activated his Obliterate skill, dropping his own HP to nearly 0 to boost his critical damage. Gathering every ounce of power, he charges forward for a devastating punch, but before his fist can connect, Dorop activates his storm element. Small tempests erupt around Ji Li, binding every limb midair and locking him in place. Ji Li struggles, unable to believe what's happening to him. He has never felt so powerless in his own body. Dorop laughs, saying that cheap tricks like these will never work on him. But his laughter dies in his throat when, in the next instant, Ji Li's fist breaks through the storm and slams into Dorop's abdomen with devastating force. The impact triggers Ji Li's blessing skill, Annihilate, unleashing an explosion of fury. Within a 5-meter radius, Dorop is struck by a rapid chain of 20 consecutive blows. Ji Li lets out a furious scream, declaring that it is time for the evil god to die. With that, he delivers one last devastating punch, launching Dorop high into the sky toward the Midwest. Grandpa Wu Bule takes this as his cue. Gathering every ounce of strength left in his old body, he propels himself into the air. Blow after blow, he rains down destruction on Dorop. Wu Bule roars that even if the Guardian has sold his soul to demons for power, it does not change the fact that he still has a magician's weak defense, and Wu Bule will exploit it. He swings his blade again and again, slicing through Dorop until the god is unconscious from the pain and injuries. But Wu Bule does not stop there. His next strike is so powerful that it breaks the sound barrier, and the impact sends Dorop crashing into the ground like a meteor, burying him 6 feet under. The old man then floats above the battlefield, staring at the chaos he has created. Down below, Ji Li shields his eyes from the blinding explosions. He is in awe of the raw power before him. For the first time, he witnesses one of the 12 legendary heroes in action, and realizes they are truly a force to be reckoned with. He mutters that the attack the old man just used may even be stronger than Dorop himself. Without wasting time, Wu Bule descends and tells Ji Li that the battle is over, but parts of the barrier are still broken and monsters are slipping through. He orders Ji Li to head west while he goes east to help the soldiers and finish the fight. Before they can part ways, Ji Li feels something strange in his gut. He notices there is no system notification, which can only mean one thing: Dorop is still alive. The old man senses it too, and when they look up, they see Lord Dorop rising again from his grave. He looks furious, wounded, and enraged. Blood spills from his mouth and chest, but his eyes burn with hatred and disgust. He had not expected Ji Li to break free from his power, but now it no longer matters. He still holds something far greater. Dark magic courses through him, and his injuries begin to heal rapidly. Ji Li realizes that this regeneration feels similar to the wandering dominator he once faced in the desert. Wu Bule studies him closely and understands that this is not mere demonic magic. He concludes that Dorop's power is coming directly from Hades. Ji Li notices the old man's expression change and asks who Hades is, but Wu Bule is already trapped in a memory. He recalls the day Sally's parents were murdered. The image of a silver-haired man with lifeless eyes flashes through his mind. It's the man who had discarded Sally's mother like she was nothing. That man had muttered something about failing again and needing to report to his lord Hades. The younger Wu Bule had shouted threats, swearing to kill him one day, but his body had been too broken to move. The man had not even turned back as he flew away like a beast. Now in the present, Wu Bule clenches his fists. The energy radiating from Dorop feels too familiar. It is the same as that day. He is certain now. Dorop's power comes from Hades, and maybe, just maybe, Hades is also the reason they were trapped in that cursed desert in the first place. Even though they speak in hushed tones, the rogue hears every word, his sinister laughter slicing through the tension. He reveals himself with mocking ease, amused that Wu Bule has discovered more than he expected. There is no fear in his voice, only contempt. He scoffs at their reliance on elemental powers, calling them ineffective and useless against a force like his. As something dark and ancient stirs within him, his presence twists into something even more sinister. The rogue no longer cares for clean victories or merciful endings. He wants suffering. His body ripples with a surge of forbidden energy, and with a final smirk, he dissolves into shadows, vanishing completely. Both warriors scan the sky, searching desperately for any sign of him, their hearts pounding with urgency. But there is nothing, only silence. Then, Ji Li's system blares an emergency alert. Target has disappeared. Not moved, not flown, disappeared. Ji Li's chest tightens with unease. This is not teleportation. It is something else entirely. He closes his eyes and listens to his instincts, that eerie sixth sense warning him that something is terribly wrong. He turns sharply to his side just in time to witness the unthinkable. Dorop stands right behind the old man, smirking, his body surrounded by a swirling mist of dark magic. Wu Bule does not even have a chance to react before the first punch smashes into his abdomen, folding him in half. The rogue's grin widens as he follows up with another merciless strike to the chest. Ji Li launches forward in a desperate blur of speed, hoping to intercept and shield his grandfather, but he is already too late. With brutal precision, Dorop delivers a strike that sends Ji Li flying backward like a rag doll. He crashes into the dirt but refuses to stay down. Pushing himself to his feet, he lunges again, determined to land even a single hit. But it is futile. As if dancing with shadows, Dorop fades from sight mid-motion. Before Ji Li can track him or catch his breath, the enemy reappears at his side, smiling coldly as he drives a vicious punch into Ji Li's ribs. Each hit reminds him how insignificant he is in this fight. There is no pause, no mercy, only the relentless rhythm of pain. Blow after blow rains down as Dorop mocks and brutalizes him, the sheer force of each strike carving trenches into the ground. Ji Li's vision blurs, and when his body slams into the earth, dust and debris erupt around him. In moments, the proud warrior becomes a broken shell, embedded deep in the dirt, battered and breathless, discarded like a toy by a predator who still is not done playing. Ji Li's system hotbar keeps flashing that his HP is below 10%, warning him to restore health. The boy struggles to breathe from how badly he's injured, cursing Lord Dorop for having stealth skills and attacks that are both fast and powerful. Meanwhile, the evil god casually walks away from the wounded boy because he knows he already holds the upper hand. Ji Li thinks about how Dorop has obtained power from the underworld, realizing that they can't even land a single hit anymore. He wonders how they are supposed to fight against that kind of overwhelming strength. Suddenly, a voice comes from somewhere nearby, mocking that Ji Li is starting to feel despair. He looks up and sees Dorop floating in the sky, his expression twisted in amusement as he says that humans are born with a ruthless streak. They bully the weak, use them for their own benefit, and laugh while watching others suffer. Now that he is above them all, watching them struggle fills him with joy. With another burst of power, Dorop lifts the boy into the air. He taunts him, saying that he wanted to be a hero and save the world, yet look at the joke he has become. He adds that if Ji Li can bring him some entertainment, he might give him a chance to live. But Dorop doesn't realize that the power of Ghoul is just behind him, trying to land an attack to save his new favorite person. Ghoul uses Blinding Slash, but it isn't enough. With just one move, Lord Dorop sends the old man flying, disarming him completely. Dorop then channels his electric power, shocking the old man's body and drawing a cry of pain. He turns to him coldly and says that no one seems to understand that all elemental attacks are useless against godly power. No matter how strong a mortal becomes, he can never kill a god, because that is the rule of nature and the reality they must accept. Dorop turns back to Ji Li, who stares in confusion, wondering how elemental power can't even injure him within this game's setting. Before he can think further, Dorop summons Ozil from the ground and hands it to Ji Li, saying that he will give him the chance he promised. Laughing darkly, the evil god tells him that if he kills the old man Wu Bu Lei, he will spare Ji Li and his friends. The boy rejects the offer immediately, saying he could never do something so cruel. But Dorop warns that if he refuses, he will make him watch as Wu Bu Lei is tortured to death, and afterward, he will hunt down his friends and kill them too. With a flick of his fingers, he sends hundreds of stones flying toward Wu Bu Lei, each one slamming into him and drawing out agonized screams. Dorop turns back to Ji Li and says that instead of watching the old man suffer like this, wouldn't it be better to let him die quickly without pain? But Ji Li refuses to consider it. He desperately begs Dorop to stop, shouting that if he doesn't leave the old man alone, he'll kill him. His pleas, however, fall on deaf ears. He is helpless, his hands tied, and Dorop knows it. The evil god tells him that he can either watch everyone he cares about die or kill Wu Bu Lei and save them all, because their fate lies entirely in his hands. Ji Li feels utterly powerless. He wants to protect the people he loves, yet he can't. He thinks of his friends, Sally, Boban, Joss, Flora, and his baby Luca. Then his mother comes to mind, and he realizes he still doesn't know what happened to her in the outer world. His thoughts spiral as he tries to form a plan, but his mind is torn apart by guilt and fear. Suddenly, a voice interrupts him, mocking the evil god as weak trash. Ji Li looks up and recognizes it as the voice of his strange uncle. In an instant, the world shifts. His uncle appears before him, floating in the air, saying he can't believe he ever chose such a weak person as his master. He adds that anyone who truly carries his mark would never be killed so easily by such a pathetic opponent. Ji Li tries to argue that even with all his elemental power, he couldn't hurt Dorop, because Dorop's strength has reached godlike levels. The gray-haired man agrees, but points out that while noble gods of the higher realms never grant humans the power to kill them, that rule only applies to ordinary creatures. Ji Li frowns, confused by what his uncle means. The man explains that the power of the underworld's dwarves is indeed terrifying, but Dorop has made a fatal mistake. He has crossed paths with the wrong person. Ji Li can't believe his uncle is talking about him, yet his uncle continues, saying that while normal elemental powers can't injure a god, the chaos element is different. It possesses the ability to destroy divinity itself. Suddenly it all clicks in Ji Li's mind. His uncle smiles and tells him it's time to show him the true nature of the chaos element. With that, he releases 3% of Ji Li's chaos power. In the outer world, Lord Dorop continues to mock Ji Li, laughing eerily as he says the boy has already given up. He raises his weapon, preparing to kill Wu Bu Lei, but is suddenly stopped by an overwhelming force. Dorop turns and sees Ji Li standing tall, his body radiating power. His blessing and annihilation skills have come off cooldown, and now both are active. His speed has increased by 20%, and his attack power carries an HP absorption effect. Instead of being afraid, Dorop laughs louder, calling Ji Li an amusing opponent. He rushes forward to attack first, but Ji Li catches his sword with his bare hand, shocking him completely. Before Dorop can even process what's happening, Ji Li's fists crash into his face again and again, powered by the annihilation skill, driving his HP down rapidly. With one powerful kick, Ji Li sends Dorop crashing into the ground like a meteor. From above, his weird uncle watches, pride glowing in his expression. He says that if a god's power is like fire, then the chaos element is the water that extinguishes it. As he speaks, Ji Li's system lights up, showing all of his skills being upgraded. His uncle smiles and says that Ji Li was a natural-born god killer. Just like that, a new fire ignites within the boy. Now that Dorop has been injured, Wukong's electric torture finally comes to an end, and he collapses to the ground. He looks at Ji Li, realizing that this is the true power of the chaos element. The sight leaves him in awe, as he finally understands why this power is both terrifying and divine. Meanwhile, Ji Li is busy talking to his strange uncle, demanding to know why he had never been allowed to use the true power of the chaos element until now. The man hesitates, lost in thought for a moment, before replying that if today's enemy had not been wielding godly power, he would never have revealed the true killing ability of the chaos element. He explains that this power is an absolute taboo, one forbidden even among the gods, and that once its existence becomes known, the gods will never allow it to remain in the world. The man adds that some of the higher gods may have already sensed its presence, and from this moment onward, Ji Li's enemies will continue to grow stronger, and will not stop until they destroy him completely. Ji Li absorbs every word carefully, realizing the weight of his destiny. Seeing the doubt on the boy's face, the man tries to encourage him, reminding him that he is no longer fighting mere monsters, but standing against the gods themselves. As if on cue, a new notification appears in Ji Li's system, announcing that he has unlocked the true power of the chaos element. It also informs him that he has received advanced medical supplies, such as dosa tears, and that new missions have been added to his log. Even though the news feels overwhelming, Ji Li steadies himself and decides that no matter how strong his divine enemies become, he will face them head-on if it means escaping this place. With renewed determination, he looks at the demonic beast's dosa tears, knowing that consuming it will immediately restore 1000 HP, 700 MP, and reset all skill cooldowns. Understanding the advantage, he drinks the potion, saying to himself that he must kill Dorop first before moving on to the next stage. It is time, he tells himself, to end this once and for all. Meanwhile, Dorop, who had fallen from the sky like a meteor, struggles to get up. Pain surges through his body, something he had not felt in a long time. It confuses him deeply because when he made his pact with Lord Heyday and traded his soul for unimaginable power, he lost all sense of physical pain. Now the agony burning through his body feels almost alien. As he tries to comprehend what happened, anger fills his eyes. Before he can even finish the blasphemous thought forming in his mind, he senses something approaching from his side. It is Ji Li, already charging up for another attack. Dorop immediately activates his concealment technique, attempting to hide himself, but it fails. The reason becomes clear instantly. Ji Li has already activated Dosa Tears, which nullifies concealment effects entirely. The realization leaves Dorop shocked because no one should be able to see through this powerful magic. Yet somehow the boy can. His shock costs him precious time, and before he can react, Ji Li punches him across the face, sending him flying. From that moment on, the once arrogant evil god becomes nothing more than a punching bag. Ji Li relentlessly attacks him until Dorop's XP drops to almost zero, leaving him weak and stripped of all divine power. Standing over him, Ji Li declares that the rock can finally die now, and he charges up his fist one last time. Dorop smiles faintly, realizing that he has had the rare chance to witness the true power of a god killer. But the thought barely finishes before Ji Li's fist collides with him once more, triggering a massive explosion that lights up the sky. Far away, Wu Bu-lei, Boban, Andros, and Filorga look up, watching as Dorop's body disintegrates into nothingness. The system notification flashes, confirming that Dorop has been killed and that Ji Li has earned 3 million XP. Since he has also met all the other mission requirements, multiple system updates are unlocked for him to access later. The clouds above gradually disperse, revealing the rising sun, and with that, the hero finally descends back to the ground. Now that his elemental energy has faded, exhaustion takes over. Every muscle in his body trembles from overexertion. The old man whistles and walks toward him, seeing that the boy can barely stand. Ji Li looks up and tries to speak, but before he can finish his sentence, his legs give out and he collapses. Thankfully, Wu Bu-lei rushes forward and catches him before he hits the ground. Meanwhile, in the netherworld, Lord Hades calmly sips his evening tea when he suddenly notices that Dorop's soul has been extinguished. Concern flashes across his face as he realizes that a god killer has truly appeared in Latanaya. However, he remains composed because his trusted right-hand man, Arglis, is already on his way to handle the situation. At that moment, Arglis is crossing the endless sea in a small wooden boat, growing increasingly impatient with the slow pace. He knows it is the only way to reach Ladanaya, yet his irritation builds with every passing wave. Turning to the skeletal ferryman, he demands to know how much longer they must travel. The skeleton simply replies that they have already arrived. Confused, Arglist turns around and sees a massive portal opening directly above the endless sea, leading straight into the desert of Ladanaya. Geely hears a voice coming from somewhere outside, so he opens his eyes and realizes it's his mother calling him. The moment he recognizes her voice, he becomes alert and starts screaming for her, but as he looks around, he notices that he is no longer in the desert. Instead, he finds himself on a train surrounded by angry passengers who probably think he has lost his mind. Confused, he tries to make sense of what is happening. A bald man nearby, clearly itching to pick a fight, tells him he cannot scream like that on a train. Before Geely can respond, the train's announcement comes on, saying that the next station is Zhueyuanlu, and that anyone wanting to get off should prepare to do so. This confirms Geely's suspicion that he has somehow returned to the real world. Filled with joy, he shouts that he is finally back, leaving the bold man even more confused by his outburst. As the train slows down, Geely quickly apologizes and explains that he just had a nightmare. However, before he can settle down, a system warning suddenly appears in front of him, alerting him that danger is nearby and he needs to be careful. All the confusion rushes back as he struggles to understand why he is still hearing system alerts in what should be reality. While he questions his own sanity, he does not notice that the bold man is about to hit him out of irritation. Before the man can attack, an agent suddenly appears behind him, and at the same time, the same mysterious voice from before calls out Geely's name and tells him to run and leave the place immediately. Geely looks at the agent, confused, realizing that it is not his mother's voice this time, but something deep in his gut tells him to believe it. Without giving himself time to think, he decides to trust the instinct, and just as the thought forms, he vanishes again, disappearing in front of everyone's eyes. The bold man starts to sweat nervously, thinking that maybe the boy was on drugs. The man in black then fully appears and asks the bold man where the school kid went. The man stammers, trying to explain that the kid just disappeared, but the fact that no one else on the train seems to have noticed makes the situation feel even stranger and more suspicious. Suddenly, Geely truly wakes up. He scans his surroundings and realizes that he is back in Ladanaya again. He tries to convince himself that everything he saw was just a dream, but the sensations had felt too real to dismiss. He keeps wondering how he could have heard his mother's voice when she was nowhere around, and none of it seems to make sense. Before he can think any further, Sally appears at the doorway, smiling with relief that he is finally awake. She brings food for him, just as she always does. Geely turns to her and immediately asks if everyone, including Grandpa, is okay. She nods and assures him that everyone is fine. Apparently, Grandpa Wubule rested for 10 days, but eventually got bored and insisted on helping everyone repair the town. This shocks Geely, as he realizes that he has been asleep for 10 whole days. Sally admits that they were all worried when he would not wake up even after his wounds had healed. She explains that the beastman La Cide spent a lot of time and effort preparing medicinal tonics and food just for his recovery. Before leaving, Sally tells him she needs to go help Grandpa Wubule and the others. She also reminds him to come to the town after finishing his meal, revealing that the townsfolk have prepared a big feast tonight to thank him for saving them. Now that he is awake, she adds that he will have to give a speech. She teasingly calls him their savior, which makes him smile awkwardly, but he is already stressing about the idea of giving a speech. Sally tells him that she has already prepared some clothes for him, and reminds him to change into them, and to make sure he listens to her like the good boy he is. Instead of eating, Geely immediately switches back into serious mode, realizing that Luca must still be inside his system space. Since so many days have passed, he assumes she should have recovered by now. When he clicks on her icon, however, an error message pops up on his system screen, saying that Luca has not yet completely recovered. This confuses him because she was supposed to recover within a day. At that moment, he notices an unread mail notification and decides to open it. The message congratulates him for clearing the first area of the Cosmos Hell difficulty chapter, and announces that all system functions have now been unlocked. These include the crafting system, alchemy system, appraisal function, map sense, cycle system, teleport system, and the Chaos God Killer power growth system. The overwhelming list of new features leaves him both excited and awed. He begins examining each one carefully. He activates the crafting system first, realizing that it allows him to craft equipment and gemstones, as well as dismantle other items to obtain original materials. The alchemy system, on the other hand, enables him to combine different materials and recipes to make potions and consumables. He notes that the alchemy level affects product quality, and a low level could cause the process to fail and destroy all materials. He can also dismantle potions to recover some original ingredients. The setup feels strikingly similar to a video game, which makes him grin. Next, he opens the appraisal system, which can automatically record every creature and item he encounters. Although he cannot yet see Luca's or the Wandering Dominator's full stats, he learns that these details can be unlocked once he upgrades the system. The The map sense function and title system also catch his attention, since they allow him to detect nearby high-level monsters and earn special titles after defeating opponents. All in all, the system upgrade feels like a massive success to him. He knows that he can currently unleash only 3% of his Chaos Elemental power, but to find the Cable's God Palace, he must kill many gods along the way. Determined, he selects the God-killing element option, and a huge surge of power rushes through his veins. Even though it is only a 1% increase, the strength feels immense, as if his body holds an endless ocean of energy. With that, he examines the rest of his items, including the Earth's Ring, which grants him 30% more wisdom and 25% more physique, along with a passive armor that offers damage assistance. Finally, he opens his avatar menu, only to notice one last item remaining, the red key. Remembering what happened the last time he used a key and ended up with Luca, he feels a flicker of fear, but his curiosity is stronger than his caution, and he steels himself to find out what this key will bring him next. Back in the town, everyone is busy repairing the damage caused to the buildings during the battle. Joss approaches Wu Bule and informs him that all the injured have been treated, and the barrier has been repaired in every affected area. Wu Bule then asks about the ceremony scheduled for that night, and Joss replies that everything is almost ready, as he just needs to take care of a few final tasks before things return to normal by tomorrow. Apparently, Lacida Lo and Filorga woke up extra early that morning to prepare for the event and have already completed most of their work. However, Joss clarifies that the two guardians, Lucius and Hicks, have been locked up and are under Boban's watch, but the last one, Sarkia, managed to escape, and his current location remains unknown. This immediately captures the old man's attention, and he turns back sharply, questioning how Sarkia could have escaped the town. Joss explains that if Sarkia has actually gone beyond the town's boundaries, then it is likely he will not survive long against the monsters outside. This makes Wu Bule fall into deep thought because he feels that the Guardian may be hiding dangerous secrets of his own, which makes him even more of a threat than Dorop. However, they lack enough information about his whereabouts to capture him at the moment. Meanwhile, inside the old man's house, a system pop-up reveals that the red key is actually a dungeon key. The message explains that when the blood moon descends upon the world, a hero will rise to slaughter evil and gain endless power. The key activates a dungeon and teleports the user to a designated location where they will receive 3 times the normal XP for killing monsters. However, the mission comes with a time limit and a grave risk, since failing to defeat the dungeon boss or dying inside means that the user's real body will also perish. Ji Li reads this carefully as the system asks if he wishes to accept the mission. He begins weighing the pros and cons, recalling the time when he was killed by the wandering dominator. Back then, the system had declared that his character had died, but said nothing about his real body. Yet now the game makes it clear that death in the dungeon equals real death. This realization leads him to believe that his consciousness may be trapped in the game rather than his actual body. But if that is true, then why did his body appear on the train? The more he thinks about it, the murkier it becomes, and he can no longer tell whether what he experienced was a dream or reality. As Ji Li sinks into confusion, someone interrupts his thoughts. When he turns around, he sees the weird uncle standing beside him. Startled, he asks if the man is really there, but the uncle explains that he is only a phantom projection. He came to clarify that it was not a dream, and that Ji Li truly did leave the Ladanaya desert, even though he does not know how or why he was sent back. He adds that he saw everything through Ji Li's eyes, which convinces him it was indeed reality. Ji Li then mentions that the bald boy seemed to be looking for him, and somehow knew he would appear on the train, and he also heard his mother's voice telling him to leave quickly. The strange man looks puzzled, saying that he heard no voice but admits that he has never seen such a teleportation method before because it does not use any elemental or divine energy. Ji Li starts reasoning that if he truly did leave Latanaya, then only 2 possibilities exist. Either his consciousness never left the game, and the entire Latanaya world was somehow transferred into the train station map, or he actually returned to reality but remained unconscious, meaning that only his consciousness had entered the game in the first place. The boy sits in silence, overwhelmed by confusion, because no matter which theory is correct, both point to the same disturbing truth that this world is not real, but virtual. He also starts to suspect that the bald man he saw could be the same mysterious person his schoolmate once mentioned, and that he might be the reason his mother left town. Suddenly, a haunting image flashes in his mind of his mother being captured by those agents. The thought enrages him because it feels entirely possible that she was taken by them, yet this still does not explain why he was teleported here. In frustration, Ji Li screams in anger and confusion while his uncle tries to calm him down. At that moment, the system pop-up appears again, asking if he wants to use the crimson red key, warning that if there is no response within 10 seconds, it will activate automatically. Ji Li turns to his uncle and says that he is fine but wants to ask if the man has ever killed a true god before, and whether, if he regains his full strength, he can defeat the strongest gods in existence. The weird uncle admits that he has no clear memory and says that his mind feels blank, but he assumes he must have killed a god before. otherwise there would be no reason for him to have been sealed away. He reassures Ji Li by saying that all gods fear the power of the chaos element, and that one day, Ji Li will be able to slay even the mightiest of them. This encouragement reignites the boy's motivation. The uncle continues, saying that Ji Li should already be able to activate the god-killing power and must stay prepared because the gods will soon begin to cause trouble for him. The boy then puts on his coat and declares that it does not matter what the gods plan because he refuses to die here, and he will uncover every secret of this world one by one, starting today. Since there is still some time before the ceremony, he decides to train and gain more strength. Back in the town, the Beastman, who has now become an excellent chef, reassures Sally that everything is ready for the ceremony. Meanwhile, Joss and Wu Bule sit together, enjoying a rare moment of peace. Joss says that he has not felt this relaxed since arriving in Latanaya, and that the ceremony is truly enjoyable. The old man agrees, adding that if Ji Li had not defeated Dorop, the village would have been destroyed by now. Joss replies that he never once doubted Ji Li because he witnessed him kill the Beast King with his own eyes. But Wu Bule reminds him that the Beast King was nothing compared to Dorop, whose power came directly from Hades. Joss nearly stumbles in shock, unable to believe that Hades, the god of the underworld, had been the one empowering Dorop. Their conversation abruptly ends when Ji Li walks in. He looks at the old man and says that he is glad to see him recovered and well. As the bonfire is lit, the villagers gather around, chanting, "Hero," and calling Ji Li their savior. Hearing their cheers and feeling the warmth of their gratitude fills Ji Li with overwhelming emotion, and though the praise humbles him, he accepts it with a grateful heart. Sally goes on stage and asks everyone to calm down, then invites Ji Li to give a speech. This catches the boy off guard, and the old man asks if he is nervous to speak. But Ji Li explains that nervousness is not the issue. He simply does not believe that he is a hero. He says that he did not save the town alone, because it was everyone's combined effort that kept them safe and sound. He then mentions Grandpa, Joss, Filorga, Boban, and all the people who fought to protect the town, saying that they are the real heroes. If it weren't for their help, he could not have defeated Dorop, which is why he cannot take all the credit or let everyone praise him as a hero when he is simply a soldier like the rest of them. The old man replies that he should not minimize his own efforts, because the town needs a hero to look up to. He explains that such a figure becomes a ray of sunshine and hope that people can cling to, and that Ji Li has become the embodiment of that hope. With that, all his friends cheer for him, and Ji Li begins to understand the old man's wise words. He then marches up to the stage and thinks about how he only needs to give the townsfolk a small reassurance that they can rely on him in times of need, especially after going through a small-scale war. Because they already see him as a hero, he realizes that he must become stronger and protect everyone. Being a hero might not be easy, but it does feel good to be praised like that. He then introduces himself and says that he is not sure if he truly is a hero, but one thing he is certain about is that they will all survive and leave this place together. He tells them that if they believe in him, they should know that he will try his best to save everyone. Meanwhile, at the border of the Latanaya desert, Arglis steps out from the endless sea and enters the world. He instructs his servant Cecil to stay there, promising to return soon. He criticizes the weather, saying that even after hundreds of years, it is still unbearably hot and dry, but since he is on a mission and not a vacation, he focuses on finding out what truly happened to Beast King Sunil, and who could have been strong enough to kill him. With that, he transforms into his dragon form and begins his search. At the same time, Ji Li sits on a rooftop sipping wine and reflecting on his life. Joss and Boban come up behind him, complimenting his speech. Joss praises him sincerely, but Boban throws in a few backhanded compliments that quickly turn against him when Ji Li replies with a witty remark. Irritated as always, Boban storms off while Joss tries to calm him down. Joss then asks Ji Li if Grandpa Wu Bule has said anything about their next move, or when they will go to the palace, but Ji Li answers that the old man has not said anything yet. However, he does mention that he wants to increase his combat ability and become much stronger, because even if they find the god's place, they will not be able to defeat the guardian beast there otherwise. This catches Boban's attention, and he asks for clarification. Ji Li explains that from what he knows, the guardian Dorop was only a weakling compared to the actual beast outside the god's place. Therefore, if they want to pass through, they must become far stronger than they are now. After that, he tells them he is going to rest, and suggests they do the same. However, instead of resting, he goes to a cliffside and opens his system. Looking at his stats, he realizes he has reached level 58 and has 41 levels available, along with 65 undistributed attribute points. He uses them to upgrade his obliterate skill as well as his wisdom and strength. He still lacks a proper weapon, so after unlocking the weapon store, he has only 11 levels left to use. He searches for a decent weapon that fits his budget, reviewing all the options in front of him. He says that nothing compares to Ozil, Grandpa Wu Bule's sword, yet he settles on an elite magic sword that costs 10 levels and provides good strength, agility, and equipment level. Although it does not have any special attributes, its recovery time suits him well, so he decides to buy it. He tests the sword, flinging it in his hand and liking how it moves. With that, he smiles and says that it is a challenging time. He then uses the crimson red key to unlock a portal, and within 5 seconds, he crosses it and enters another world. The system notification says that he has successfully entered the crimson red dungeon, and because of the monster Basite's endless slaughter, the entire land is soaked in blood. The rivers have turned crimson, and the moon in the sky now glows like a blood moon. Ji repeats the name to himself and feels that it sounds strangely familiar. Soon, another system notification appears, telling him that he must find the evil beast before the moon sets and defeat it. The reward for completing the mission is one random legendary weapon or piece of equipment, a purple moon key, and 10 million XP. Hearing this, Ji eyes light up with greed, and he laughs that with that much XP, he could buy a lot of rare items from the store. However, he quickly realizes that he must first find Basite, so he starts searching. The place is covered in mist and has no markings or signs, which makes him unsure of where to go. He understands that if he continues wandering aimlessly, he will lose his way long before finding the beast, and the mission will fail. Then suddenly a thought occurs to him. The clue might be hidden in the mission description itself. The phrase, "before the moon sets," is not just a time limit, but also a hint about the beast's location. Realizing this, he turns in the direction of the setting moon. A faint rustling sound reaches his ears, and he quickly prepares for battle. Out of the shadows emerges a strange monster, nothing like a regular beast. It is a spirit beast of level 60, and soon more appear beside it. They surround Ji from all sides as he draws his sword. Looking at the spirit beasts, Ji smirks and says that if this had happened in the past, he might have struggled to deal with them. But now, with all his upgraded skills and battle experience, they are nothing more than free XP. He charges forward, cutting through the monsters with ease, his sword gleaming in the blood-red light. Meanwhile, Argalus has reached the Beast King's cave and confirms that Sunil has indeed been murdered. He finds it strange because, even though that beast did not possess divine power, it should not have been killed so easily. This makes him suspect that there are hidden intruders lurking nearby. Suddenly, he notices a scent in the air, one that feels oddly familiar and deeply unsettling. It irritates and frightens him at the same time because he realizes that it belongs to someone he thought had died long ago. He mutters that it cannot be true, yet the possibility that the mysterious man survived and is hiding among humans makes his blood boil with anger. Back at Delktown, Grandpa Wu Bule is deep in thought, strategizing his next move. He knows that the sealing of the evil god Murius is not the end of the story, but the beginning of something much larger. The appearance of Hesiod and his absolute power once made the gods fear the rise of humans. And according to what the goddess Jeffrey saw in the Book of Prophecy, a god killer will appear among humans and judge the gods, resetting the entire world. The prophecy states that the gods will grow jealous and angry because humans will create their own power that could threaten them. In response, the gods will slaughter mankind, and the oppressed will rise to fight back. That is when the god killer will appear and lead humanity to victory over all evil gods. After his battle with Dorop, Wu Bule is now convinced that the god killer is Ji himself. However, this realization also fills him with worry because it means an inevitable war between gods and humans is approaching. While he is still lost in thought, a sudden alert echoes through the town, saying that the barrier is under attack. The old man rushes to the window and sees a massive explosion lighting up the sky. Without wasting a second, he runs outside and realizes that the explosion was caused by someone he recognizes. His heart sinks when he sees the figure descending through the flames. It is the same man who murdered Sally's parents and Wu Bule's closest friends. Argalus looks down at the old man and asks if he is the guardian of this place. He then warns that if the old man truly is the protector, he should tell him where the one who killed Sunil is hiding. If he cooperates, Argalus promises to kill him quickly and painlessly, but if he refuses, then the old man should not expect even a shred of mercy. Back in the Crimson Red jungle, Ji is still busy fighting all the small monsters. He uses his blessing power to annihilate every enemy in front of him, and the system notification pops up, stating that he has successfully killed the undead spirit beasts and gained a large number of XP points. He then looks at the new monsters approaching, but he appears bored because he knows he can easily defeat them. However, he still feels slightly frustrated because he wanted to lower the cooldown of his annihilation slash so that he could use it without limit. Even so, that does not stop him from attacking and killing as many as he can. When the battle is finally over, he earns around 250,000 XP, but he still does not level up because he needs much more to reach the next stage. His weapon has now reached 93% durability, and he suddenly realizes that he almost forgot about it. Since the sword gets damaged quickly, he knows he must upgrade it as soon as possible to prevent it from breaking at a crucial moment. While he is thinking about a better strategy, a system notification appears, showing that Luca has woken up. This instantly brings a smile to his face because he has missed his baby. He brings her out and hugs her tightly, saying that he missed her too. The baby then asks about the beast she fought earlier, and Ji assures her that he defeated it, and they are safe now. He also thanks her for saving his life, which makes the baby so happy that she starts jumping up and down. After a moment, she looks around, confused, and asks where they are. Ji Li explains that they are on a mission to find the boss and kill it quickly. Hearing this, both of them become determined and start running toward the moon to locate the beast. Meanwhile, back in the real world, in S City, doctors are rushing a man into the emergency room. They say that his heartbeat is too weak and that he needs to be taken into the operation theater immediately. The doctors attempt to revive him with electric shocks, but after several tries, the man dies. At the police station, Detective Su and his team are discussing the recent cases. One of the policemen reports that this is the 3,000th person who has died of cardiac arrest this month. He adds that all the victims are men around 20 years old, and the cause of death remains unknown because the pathological autopsy shows no medical issues. Chief Su asks if they have found any common factors, such as similar schools, workplaces, or residential areas, but the officer replies that there are no connections between them. However, according to their investigation, all of them played a game called Cosmos. The officer then adds that last month, a woman went to the West Area Police Station to report that her son, Ji Li, went missing while playing the same game. At first, the police did not take the case seriously, but last week, someone uploaded a video showing a young man suddenly appearing at a train station and then vanishing just as quickly. The video spread rapidly across social media. The officer plays the footage for the chief and confirms that the young man is indeed Ji Li. He asks what should be done about the video, and the chief instructs them to take it down immediately and suppress any public discussion to prevent panic. The next step is to contact the management team of Cosmos to gather more information, and the chief orders that any progress be reported right away since this case is now a top priority. On the other hand, back in the desert, the old man and Argylus are fighting in midair. Argylus mocks the old man, asking if he is truly deaf, then why did he not hear him? What he does not realize is that the hero is already preparing to attack. Within a millisecond, Wu Bu-lei launches thousands of punches per minute, but Argylus is incredibly strong and blocks every strike with just a flick of his finger. This enrages Wu Bu-lei, who tries to continue attacking, unaware that Argylus is about to counter. The next moment, the old man is struck and sent flying through the air, but before he can fall, he is caught by the power of the shadow assassin. Boban has arrived to help his grandfather. Seeing his grandson on the battlefield, Wu Bu-lei grows worried and tells him to leave immediately because he is no match for such a powerful enemy. However, Boban refuses to back down and declares that he did not come alone. He brought reinforcements, and soon, Lucius and Hikes, the guardians of the town, appeared beside him, glaring at Argylus with hatred in their eyes. Ji Li realizes that the closer they get to the moonlight, the more death spirit beasts appear before him, and their levels are much higher than the ones he fought earlier. He is currently battling level 70 monsters, and he knows he must preserve his weapon so that he can fight the main beast later. Because of this, he stops using Annihilation Slash and switches to normal attacks to deal with them, but as a result, it takes him much longer to kill them this way. He understands that if this continues, he will not have enough time to face the boss, so the situation becomes very critical. However, when he notices that his baby Luca is also busy fighting the monsters beside him, he feels both amused and impressed. With renewed determination, he turns to the remaining monsters, saying that he needs to get rid of them as soon as possible. Meanwhile, back at the village, the villagers look up at the chatter in the air and sense that something terrible is about to happen. They can only hope that just like last time, their hero will come to save them. On the other hand, Argylus is busy insulting Boban and his friends, saying that they are wasting his time. He demands that they tell him where the man who killed Beast Sunil is because he is losing patience. Boban tries to threaten him, saying that he does not care what Argylus wants because this town is under their protection, and if he refuses to leave, the consequences will be dire. Argylus, the human beast, stares at the shadow assassin with clear boredom and, within a single instant, closes the distance between them. Everyone is horrified by this display of power as the dragon mocks them, saying that they are all human trash who always overestimate themselves. With that, he raises his hand to slash Boban, but the boy does not get hit. Instead, Grandpa Wu Bu-lei takes the blow for him. The boy looks at the old man in shock, but the hero assures him that he is fine and tells Boban to leave quickly because none of them can match someone like Argylus. When Boban asks who he really is, the old man explains that Argylus is not human, but someone from another world. It turns out he is neither god nor man, but Hades' underlying nether dragon, Argylus. Just then, the human beast tries to lick the blood on his hand, saying that it tastes familiar, though he cannot remember where it is from. Wu Bu-lei also reveals that Argylus is the same man who killed Sally's parents. This revelation shocks Boban, but the old man knows that fighting someone so dangerous requires caution. He explains that their elemental powers are useless against Argylus, which is why he will stall him while the others use the opportunity to escape. Argylus laughs, saying that their time is over, and declares that once he has tasted fresh blood, none of his prey will survive. Lucius and Hicks then step forward, using their elemental powers, and telling the old man that they will not leave because they are guardians of the village, and guardians do not run away like cowards. Boban joins them, saying that a beast like Argylus will never be forgiven, and that if they attack together, they may still have a chance. Seeing the courage of his trainees, Wu Bulei prepares for battle, saying that they will all attack as one. Argilus merely chuckles, calling them foolish bugs, and then transforms into his true form, a massive dragon. Meanwhile, Ji Li has finally leveled up, though at a great cost. Luca is exhausted after fighting, and he has only gained levels because of the countless spirits and beasts he has defeated. When he looks at his weapon, he realizes that no matter how careful he is, its durability keeps decreasing. He remembers that before, he could only select 2 out of 3 skills, but his system now shows that once he reaches level 100, a new skill slot will be unlocked. This means that after defeating Baisi Te, he will be able to unlock the skill he wants. Because of this, he decides that he must defeat the monster quickly, acquire new equipment and weapons, and prepare himself for the battle at the god's palace. He looks at his baby and tells her that they need to move faster. But before they can proceed, a huge monster growls at them, and both father and daughter turn to look, stunned. They soon realize that it is none other than level 120 Baisi Te. Seeing it, Ji Li chuckles, saying that it is just another big kitty that can be killed easily. He then looks at Luca and reminds her to be careful and avoid danger, because if she dies, he will die too. After that, he activates his elemental power, declaring that it is time to finish this right now. Back in S City, a news reporter is covering the recent wave of unexplained deaths. She explains that in the past few days, several mysterious cases have been reported all across the globe. Some believe a deadly virus outbreak is being hidden by the government, while others suspect nuclear contamination in their cities. However, one of the more alarming rumors connects these deaths to a new game called Cosmos. Although there is no conclusive proof, the public is protesting against the company and demanding that the government investigate the matter. Because of this, the government has invited representatives from Country K, Country J, Country A, Country Y, and many others to an emergency conference to address the situation. Everyone hopes that they will finally receive an explanation for why so many young people are dying. While the reporter continues her live broadcast, a man suddenly collapses beside her, and the people nearby start shouting for an ambulance. The reporter panics, realizing that this is not an isolated incident, but another addition to the ongoing pattern of unexplained deaths. At the press conference, Dr. Lee Yuman, a medical specialist with a PhD, gives a detailed presentation. He explains that all the victims of these mysterious deaths have been thoroughly examined by several medical teams, yet there are no traces of viruses or poisoning. During the autopsies, however, they discovered something far more illogical and disturbing. He reveals that the victims did not die from heart failure as initially assumed. Instead, their organs appeared to have been slashed by something sharp, as if attacked by invisible weapons. According to him, it seems as though these people were killed by illusions created within their own brains. The world leaders present uneasy glances, whispering among themselves, unable to make sense of such an explanation. But Dr. Lee continues his address, saying that he is part of an advanced brain dish project in Europe. In that research, scientists place small amounts of brain matter in Petri dishes and stimulate them with electric signals to teach the brains how to play simple games. Over time, they discovered that these tissues learn faster than the artificial intelligence programs they designed. As a result, their hypothesis is that these deaths are interconnected and point toward a chilling possibility, that the world they currently live in may not be real, but instead part of a massive brain simulation. Meanwhile, Ji Li is locked in an intense battle with Baisi Te. The enormous creature stomps toward him, but Ji Li deflects the attack and quickly flies out of range before countering with an attack of his own. What he does not realize is that the beast swings its paw, nearly scratching him. Thankfully, Luca's shield activates just in time, blocking the hit and keeping him safe. Seeing the monster's incredible strength, Ji Li smiles and admits that it is far stronger than any creature he has faced before. It makes sense, since the beast is a mini dungeon boss with attack and defense levels comparable to the Beast King or Dorop. This excites him, but at the same time, he understands that one wrong move could leave him severely injured. He cannot afford to be careless, especially when he does not yet know what skills the boss possesses. To conserve stamina, he decides to keep his major skills on cooldown and focus first on learning the beast's abilities before launching a counterattack. With that plan in mind, he uses Blessing to charge toward the kitty, but to his surprise, the creature remains still. That's when he realizes that the beast is trying to lure him closer. Just as expected, Baisi Te unleashes a burst of power, summoning spirit beasts around him to trap him inside. Recognizing the danger, Ji Li uses Annihilation Slash to cut through the summoned creatures and escape the encirclement. The attack allows him to dodge the monster's magic strike as well, slightly reducing its HP. But the beast roars furiously, and a massive explosion follows, throwing Ji Li backward. Luca rushes after her father, but the kitty swings again, sending both of them tumbling. Ji Li catches the baby just in time to protect her, but then he begins seeing faint skull-shaped marks forming in the air, Death Spirit's imprints. Before he can react, he realizes that he is already caught in an attack. In a quick decision, he throws Luca out of the danger zone right as another explosion hits him directly. Coughing and struggling to stand, Ji Li wonders how the explosion hit him even though he used Annihilation Slash to dodge. It becomes clear when the system pop-up reveals that Basie Tay's attack carries a mark effect. Once marked by the Death Spirit's imprint, the attack automatically locks onto the target. No matter where he moves, the explosions will find him. He now understands why the beast waited to strike. It wanted him close enough to mark him before launching the assault. This revelation leaves him in a critical situation. As a close combat fighter, this type of attack puts him at a major disadvantage, and he cannot figure out what to do next. Ji Li is still in the middle of the fight, and realizes that wherever he moves, the explosion follows, because the monster keeps using its special skills. It also seems that the Death Spirit's speed increases with every attack, making it harder for him to react. Seeing this, he warns the baby that Luca must be careful because the Death Spirits are becoming much faster, which puts both of them in danger. Before he can even finish his sentence, he senses something above him. When he looks up, he sees the giant kitty about to stomp down on him. Thankfully, Luca saves him just in time by activating her death defense shield around them. Taking advantage of the brief protection, Ji Li tightens his grip on his sword, focuses his energy, and unleashes an Annihilation Slash that pierces directly into Basie Tay's eyes. The monster lets out a roar of pain as its health drops by 9,000 XP. However, the damage is not enough. The enraged kitty swings its massive paw and sends Ji Li flying backward. He crashes to the ground and quickly looks toward baby Luca to see if she is alright, only to realize that she is also exhausted. He understands that he can rely on her protection only for a short time, and he needs her shield to get close enough to deliver more attacks. The problem is that Luca is weakening quickly while Basie Tay's speed continues to rise, putting Ji Li in an increasingly desperate situation. To make matters worse, he also has to dodge the Death Spirit's attacks, leaving him little room to strike back. Trapped in this chaos, he starts thinking hard about what to do next. Then he remembers his training with the strange uncle, when he was taught a long-range sword technique that could cut through enemies without direct contact. If he could use that move now, he might be able to defeat Basie Tay. Clinging to that thought, Ji Li calls out to his uncle for help, but there is no response. He wonders if the silence is because he is still inside the mission and the system prevents outside contact, but there is no clear answer. Checking the mission pop-up, he sees that only 30 minutes are given for the task, and time is already running out. The realization hits him that he must decide whether to continue fighting or give up on the 10 million XP and the legendary weapon reward. Before he can reach a decision, Basie Tay launches another brutal attack, trying once again to stomp him into the ground. When Ji Li looks back, he sees that Luca is also locked in battle with the Death Spirits and struggling to hold them off. A chilling thought enters his mind, that if he cannot defeat this dungeon boss, then there is no way he can stand against Nabis in the God Palace. Lost in this grim realization, Ji Li fails to notice that the monster's speed has increased again. It is already too late when Basie Tay lands a series of devastating blows that send him crashing into the dirt. His vision blurs and the system flashes a warning that his HP has dropped to 10%. He understands that if he does not recover immediately, he will die permanently and lose everything he has fought for. Thankfully, Ji Li's elemental power comes into play, and after unleashing a massive portion of his skills, the exhausted boy stands before the mighty beast, gasping for air. Using such a powerful attack has completely drained his energy, leaving him unable to move. Fortunately, it is finally over, and according to the system pop-up, Ji Li has killed the evil Basie Tay. As a result, he has also completed the Crimson Moon mission. Suddenly, a huge beam of light descends from the moon, teleporting the monster's body away. The boy looks up at the sky in disbelief when another golden beam pours down toward him. The system notification appears, showing that he has obtained 2 million XP plus an additional 10 million XP. Not only that, but he has leveled up multiple times and reached level 100. The level up brings a healing effect to his body, causing his wounds to close, and he also unlocks his third skill, Execute the God. According to the system, once the attack is unleashed, it marks the target for 30 seconds and ignores all stealth and defensive stats. When the skill is used again, it releases 3 normal attacks toward the target, causing 300% explosive damage, and it has a cooldown of only 4 minutes. Ji Li realizes that this skill is similar to Basie Tay's attack combined with Annihilation Slash. The best part is that it will inflict immense damage on the target. Before moving on, he knows he needs to distribute his attribute points and head to the God Palace to challenge Nabus. However, the system suddenly shows that he has also obtained 1 Violent Moon Key, 1 Legendary Chest, and 1 God Element. Looking at the Violent Moon Key, he guesses it might open another dungeon. Then, eyeing the chest suspiciously, he mutters that he has had bad experiences with these before. Baby Luca glares at him angrily because the last time Ji Li opened a chest, Luca came out of it. Ji Li tries to deny it, but even he knows it is pointless. When he finally opens the chest, he discovers that he has obtained the legendary equipment set. The first item is the Cape of Fortune, which increases his chances of obtaining magic equipment by 20%. The next item is Adam's Nether Spirit Song Earrings. According to the description, the Netherworld's Lord Osiris once left a world filled with evil spirits, unable to destroy them. Overwhelmed by their sheer number and power, Osiris listened as Autumn sang the Nether Spirit Song, which purified the spirits and sealed them within the earrings to prevent chaos. Geely examines the earrings and realizes that wearing them would boost his strength and attributes. The only issue is that he doesn't have pierced ears, so he wonders how to equip them. Then he notices a button, and when he presses it, all the jewels instantly equip themselves. The system then notifies him that the mission has ended and that a teleportation gate has opened for him. Within seconds, Baby Luca and Geely leave the place and return to the Latinaya desert. Upon returning, Geely notices that everything around him is eerily quiet. He wonders if time had stopped while he was inside the dungeon, but when he looks toward the town, he realizes that time has not stopped at all. Instead, the entire village has been devastated. Meanwhile, in B City, two people are discussing the Cosmos game. A blonde-haired boy tells his friend that the new game actually kills people. The other man coughs dismissively, saying that such an idea is ridiculous because a game cannot kill anyone. He insists that these kids die because they neglect their health, unlike him. Yet, moments later, he admits that he has played the game himself and now cannot focus on anything. He confesses that he is afraid he might die soon, but his friend remains indifferent, clearly not taking him seriously. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by a blinding beam of light coming from the sky. Confused, they turn around, assuming it might be an illegal gathering of some kind. However, a terrifying monster emerges from the teleportation gate and attacks them. Both men collapse in fear, unable to comprehend what they are seeing. The blonde-haired man trembles as he realizes that the creature is none other than a boss from the Cosmos game, alive and real. Just then, a mysterious red-haired assassin appears and strikes the beast with her sword. On the other hand, Ji Li arrives in the ruined town and takes a careful look around. He suspects that time flows differently in the dungeon compared to the outside world. While he is lost in thought, the strange uncle from before reappears and says that the boy has finally returned. Ji Li immediately demands to know where he was when he had called for him earlier. But the uncle replies that the real question is where Geely had gone, since he had no idea the boy could erase him from his inner heart like that. Confused and uneasy, Geely senses something behind him and instinctively draws his sword, ready to strike. Thankfully, it turns out to be Boban, though the man's expression is filled with anger and disappointment. Geely asks him what happened to Grandpa Wu Bule and the others, and why the town has been destroyed like this. Boban's rage boils over as he demands to know how Geely even dares to ask about the old man, since it is because of him that Wu Bule has suffered so terribly. Shocked and speechless, Geely feels a sinking dread in his stomach, realizing that whatever has happened, it is far worse than he could have imagined. In a small house standing amid the ruins of a destroyed building, Geely steps inside and looks at the heartbreaking scene before him. Joss and Sally are sitting beside the old man, Wu Bule, who lies motionless on a wooden plank, while the beastman from before tends to him with visible worry. As Geely takes a few steps closer, he realizes that the situation is far worse than he imagined. Both of the old man's hands have been cut off, and Geely cannot believe that someone as strong as Wu Bule could end up in such a condition. Shocked, he asks what happened in the short time he was gone, but Joss and Sally remain silent, their faces heavy with anger and grief. Geely then turns to La Citadelle and demands an explanation. The Beastman tells him that he was not gone for just one night. He had been missing for 3 whole days, and everyone thought he had abandoned them. The revelation stuns Geely, but before he can respond, Boban cuts in furiously, telling him to stop pretending and admit what really happened. He reminds Geely that he promised to protect everyone, yet when they needed him most, he disappeared. Because of his absence, Grandpa Wu Bule was mutilated, and thousands of innocent people died. Boban's voice shakes with fury as he demands to know who Geely truly is and why that powerful stranger came looking for him. Geely does not answer. He stands quietly, his eyes fixed on the old man as he struggles with guilt and the weight of responsibility. Meanwhile, in B City, the 2 men who earlier encountered the monster are at the police station, filing a report and begging for help. The police officer listening to them frowns and tells them to stop wasting her time, or she will have them locked up. The men try to convince her that what they saw was real, and not a drug-induced hallucination. They even mention a girl who fought the creature with a sword. Just as the officer is about to dismiss them, the phone rings. The chief is on the line, urgently informing her that unknown creatures have appeared throughout the city. Her expression changes instantly, and she orders her team to prepare for defense and await further instructions. Moments later, the chief officially declares an emergency evacuation of B City, as multiple sightings of unidentified monsters are confirmed across town. Back in the Latinaya desert, Boban loses his temper when Geely remains silent. He tries to use his power to intimidate him, but it has no effect. Frustration boils over as he accuses Geely of knowing that the powerful stranger would return for him and deliberately disappearing to save himself. Boban calls him a coward, hurling insults while Sally and Joss watch in silence. They do not intervene because deep down they share the same anger. Finally, Boban throws a punch, but Geely raises his hand and stops the attack with ease. Geely speaks calmly, saying he is sorry for not being there when they needed him. He explains that he never expected someone to come after him so soon, but he accepts full responsibility for everything that has happened. He vows to make things right by finding the man who hurt Grandpa Wu Bu Lei and killing him. Joss finally breaks his silence, saying it is impossible because that man is far too powerful to defeat. However, he admits that he is curious why someone that strong came all the way there just to find Ji Li. Ji Li then reveals the truth. He explains that it is because he possesses a unique power capable of killing gods. During his battle with Guardian Dorop, both he and Grandpa Wu Bu Lei discovered that elemental attacks cannot harm gods. Dorop had sacrificed his soul to gain power from the god of the netherworld, which made him immune to such attacks. The revelation shocks his companions, and they listen closely as Ji Li continues. He explains that the element he awakened is known as the Chaos Element, a power that can destroy even gods. When he killed Dorop, Hades must have sensed that energy and sent someone to eliminate him. Elsewhere in the desert, Hades' pet dragon, Agris, is busy examining the land. He touches the ground and realizes that this is the exact spot where Lord Hades once sealed a god. Using his magic, he opens a portal, and moments later, the ancient Kibri god palace rises from beneath the sands. When the tension finally settles, Ji Li stands alone and looks out over the vast desert. He cannot help but wonder if this is truly just a game world. Everything feels so real. The sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and even the sensation of touch. He knows that all these senses can be replicated to deceive the brain, yet his emotions feel undeniably human. That is what separates him from a mere machine. He glances back toward the village, thinking of the old man lying helpless, and of the countless people who lost their lives. Even if he tries to convince himself that none of this is real, the guilt refuses to leave him. Determined, he vows to avenge Grandpa Wu Bu Lei and everyone who died because of him before he leaves this world. Suddenly, a thought strikes him. Perhaps his medicine store contains something that can heal Wu Bu Lei. If he has a high-level potion, it might even restore the old man's arms completely. Searching through his inventory, he finds an item called Asclepius Protection, which costs 10 levels to use. The description says it was created by Dr. Asclepius himself, can instantly regenerate damaged body parts. As Ji Li studies medicine, his thoughts are interrupted by a loud explosion that shakes the ground. His heart pounds as he turns his gaze toward the desert, realizing that something massive has just been unleashed. He wonders what could have happened there because he can feel the ground vibrating beneath his feet. To generate that level of vibration, an enormous amount of energy must have been released in an instant. This makes him open his map notification, and suddenly he realizes that Kibri God Palace has been activated. The realization alarms him because it means the vibration actually came from the activation of that place. It also makes him understand that the mysterious man who caused Grandpa Wu Bu Lei's critical condition was the one who activated the palace. And he is right, because Aglis is already walking through the corridors of the palace as if he owns it. Aglis mutters to himself that if Lord Hades had not personally ordered him to come here, he would have refused, even if it had been a command from Zeus. In truth, Lord Hades had only instructed him to check the seal's strength before leaving, but never mentioned the name of the god sealed within. Since this is an exiled god's palace and Latanaya placed such a massive seal on it, it must mean that even Lord Hades fears the one imprisoned here. After examining the barrier, Aglis notes that the seal remains intact and fully functional. He then walks to the end of the corridor, where a sealed throne room stands. Believing that a beast guards the seal, he uses his magic to open the heavy door and finds Nabis waiting inside. Ji Li, meanwhile, cannot understand why that man went to Kibri God Palace. But a sudden realization strikes him. If one person can sense his chaos elemental power, then others can as well. If the beast detects it again, everyone remaining in the village could die. With growing urgency, he calls upon his odd uncle and asks if there is any way to hide his presence from the gods, and how they can even sense him in the first place. The uncle explains that when Ji Li first used chaos elemental power, it reshaped his aura and left traces that only gods can perceive. These traces cannot be hidden or erased unless Ji Li himself dies. Therefore, if he wishes to protect the people he cares about, he must eliminate those who wish to kill him. It is the price of strength and the burden of power. Accepting this, Ji Li decides that if more gods come for him, he must head to the god palace and remove the desert seal so that the remaining villagers can escape safely. His uncle agrees that this is the only realistic choice for now. With that thought, Ji Li visits Grandpa Wu Bu Lei again and admits that Boban was right. He is the one responsible for every disaster that has struck their town. Looking at the frail old man, he feels a crushing weight of guilt and apologizes for the suffering he has caused. At that moment, the beastman La Citadelle returns, carrying medicine for the old man. He tries to comfort Ji Li, telling him not to blame Boban or Sally because this town has never seen anything this catastrophic before, and their anger only comes from shock and grief over their grandfather's condition. Ji Li nods, saying that he does not hold it against them. He places the medicine on the table and asks the beastman to give it to Wu Bu Lei. When La Citadelle asks where he is going, Ji Li simply tells him to take care of the old man and everyone else. Walking through the ruins of the village, Ji Li reflects that he cannot turn back time or restore what was lost, but he can still protect what remains. He apologizes silently to everyone for leaving without saying goodbye, but he knows it is for the best. With determination burning in his eyes, he starts running, believing that if he hurries, he might still catch that man and stop him. Meanwhile, back in B City, chaos erupts as monsters attack and humans flee for their lives. Amid the destruction, the same red-haired assassin from before stands firm, facing the monsters without flinching. Speaking through her headset, she listens to a system notification similar to Ji Li's. It reports that the monster before her is the strongest they have yet encountered, and might even be an S rank. The system identifies her as clan leader Chin and informs her that 3 level 120 heroes are heading toward her position. They advise her to wait, warning that fighting such a monster alone is too dangerous, even for her. However, Chin refuses the order, telling them to redirect those heroes to S City instead. She insists that the eastern sea near S City holds 3 monsters of equal strength, and they must be stopped before reaching the city. Ignoring further protests, she leaps into battle, thinking that the two worlds have merged much faster than anyone predicted. Across the globe, monsters continue to appear, spreading chaos and destruction. Humanity's weapons prove useless, and civilization collapses into crisis. Meanwhile, Ji Li has been traveling for 3 hours and 28 minutes, with the system indicating that 8 more hours remain until he reaches his destination. He complains that he has been walking for too long and wonders why he cannot use a teleportation array. The problem is that he does not know where to teleport to, so walking remains his only option. His uncle jokes that if Ji Li had a dragon, the journey would be much shorter. The boy laughs, saying there is no way they would find a dragon in the middle of a desert anyway. Turning to baby Luca, he teases her to give him a ride since she can fly, but then chuckles, admitting he was only joking. Just then, he stops in his tracks as he spots someone in the distance eating something. When he looks closer, he realizes with disbelief that the creature before him is none other than the Wandering Dominator, the very monster he thought he had left behind. Ji Li looks at the creature in front of him and says that it is indeed the same monster who killed him when he first entered the Latinaya desert. However, he is confused because his system has not notified him of any nearby monsters. The Wandering Dominator then says that the bug before him smells strangely familiar, but Ji Li is too lost in thought, wondering why the system is unable to detect creatures of higher rank. If that is truly the case, then he realizes he can no longer rely on it to avoid high-level monsters and must always remain on guard, ready to fight at any time. Just then, the system suddenly recognizes the monster and declares that its level is undetermined. Ji Li taunts the creature and asks if the bug remembers him. The Dominator replies that he is indeed the same bug he met before, but he cannot believe the boy is still alive. Ji Li smirks and says that it is not because of him that he survived, but rather because he has become much stronger. Without wasting another second, the Wandering Dominator attacks, shouting that he will kill him again. However, as Ji Li has said, he is not the same as before. He is stronger, faster, and far more experienced. With ease, he dodges every blow the monster throws at him, and when he finally counterattacks with a punch, the Wandering Dominator flies backward like an insect hit by a hammer. Ji Li then draws his sword and declares that he is no longer the helpless boy he once was. Now he is someone capable of killing even gods, let alone a bug like him. But the Wandering Dominator refuses to accept defeat. Fueled by rage and wounded pride, he rises into the air and begins to summon his elemental power. He says that no matter how strong the boy has become, he is still just a bug, and he will crush him without mercy. With that, he pulls out his massive spear and hovers midair. The system then notifies Ji Li that the Wandering Dominator has activated the skill Dominator Sickle, which increases his attack power by 30%. Ji Li calmly observes that this must be his elemental power. His strange uncle warns him that controlling such power is dangerous and that he must be cautious. Yet Ji Li, now level 100 with the best weapons and equipment, says that this battle will prove whether he is strong enough to escape this wretched place. The fight begins again. The Wandering Dominator keeps attacking relentlessly, but Ji Li skillfully avoids every strike. At one point, the monster uses his super speed to appear behind him and sneers that the boy is still too slow. However, before he can react, Ji Li unleashes his Annihilation Slash, and the blow drains almost 20,000 points from the Wandering Dominator's XP. The creature crashes to the ground, stunned, and asks how the boy has become this powerful. Meanwhile, the system alerts Ji Li that his weapon durability has dropped below 70%. He quickly realizes that he must finish the fight before his sword breaks. With that, he activates his Obliterate power, and a glowing face mask representing his elemental force forms over him. The sight shocks the Wandering Dominator, who falters mid-sentence as Ji Li charges toward him. This time, the monster does not even try to dodge. Instead, he allows the boy's blade to pierce his chest. The action leaves Ji Li confused, wondering why the creature did not attempt to defend himself. The Wandering Dominator, now trembling and half-broken, stares at the boy in disbelief and whispers, asking if he is his master. Meanwhile, in the real world, technicians monitor the sudden surge of monsters appearing across the planet. One of them reports that numerous unidentified creatures have appeared in the northern Pacific Ocean, and that a joint team from Country J and Country H is already en route. Troops from Country A have also departed from Hawaii to support the operation. At the same time, Chief Su confronts Mr. Zhang, the CEO of Cosmos Games, demanding an explanation for why monsters from the game are manifesting in the real world. The man, casually sipping his tea as though nothing unusual is happening, replies that he only runs a game company and that the creatures in Cosmos are nothing more than lines of code written by his team. As for them appearing in the real world, he insists he has no connection to that and is not the person she should be questioning. Sue grows frustrated, explaining that she represents Country C's special department and is under strict orders to shut down Cosmos operations immediately and launch a full investigation. But Mr. Zhang calmly sets down his coffee, still unbothered, and says that all the game servers are based in Europe, meaning neither Country A nor Country C has the jurisdiction to interfere. He then stands up, saying that it is time for him to leave since they are wasting his valuable time. Before walking out, however, he turns back and taunts Sue, mentioning that all the monsters they designed are inspired by ancient myths from around the world. His remark sparks an idea in Chief Sue's mind, and she immediately begins to investigate the connection between the game creatures and ancient legends. Meanwhile, far out in the Pacific Ocean, 3 level 120 assassins face a terrifying sight as 3 S-rank monsters appear before them. One of them remarks that it is his first time seeing 3 of that rank together. The black-haired assassin notes that the last time such a creature appeared, it took a team of 4 level 80 heroes and 2 level 120 heroes just to take down one. The archer replies that with only 3 S-rank assassins like themselves, they cannot hope to defeat the monsters ahead. However, clan leader Chin has ordered them to hold the line until reinforcements arrive. The archer is named Bruce, the one with the eye patch is Ba Lang Dafu, and the black-haired youth is Li Xianqian. All 3 are level 120. Ba Lang Dafu warns that the mission will be extremely dangerous and that they must remain vigilant. Before they can act, a disturbance appears before them, and they all turn toward it. To their horror, another creature emerges from the portal, and this one radiates even greater power. It is an SS rank monster. The Wandering Dominator then takes a bow, and Ji Li asks what the hell that creature is talking about. The Bughead replies by asking how the boy can use his owner's power, and Ji Li suddenly realizes that the creature is not talking about him. He takes a step back and asks what he means by Master's power, because to him it sounds like some kind of trick. Yet the Wandering Dominator keeps repeating his question, demanding to know why a bug is using his owner's power. Ji Li turns toward his uncle and asks if he is the master that the creature keeps mentioning. His uncle replies that his memories are still incomplete, so even if he is, he cannot be certain. Ji Li, however, feels deep down that there is a possibility his uncle might be the master the creature is talking about, so he asks if his master was someone with silver hair. The Bughead responds that his owner is not a human but their supreme god, Ra. He then explains that since his master's power now resides within Ji Li, that makes Ji Li his master. With that, the creature bows again and retracts his weapon. The system notification appears, showing that Ji Li has unlocked the divinity database and that Ra's soul servant, Kibri, has been activated. The Wandering Dominator, whose true name is Kibri, then offers his allegiance to Ji Li. The system asks if Ji Li wishes to accept him as a soul servant. Ji Li realizes that the creature before him is the same one who had given him the mission to take revenge. He thinks for a moment and admits to himself that even though he does not like this arrogant being, with Kibri's help it will be easier to defeat the boss, Nabus. So he accepts the offer. Instantly, Kibri transforms into a swirl of golden dust, and Ji Li feels his power merging with his own. The system notifies that Ji Li can now use the skill Soul Servant to summon Kibri to fight beside him. The skill requires no MP and has no time limit, allowing the servant to remain summoned indefinitely. Ji Li finds this interesting and points out that if all Soul Servants are this powerful, he can collect more of them and avoid fighting altogether. However, the system clarifies that 30% of his earned XP will be diverted to each soul servant he possesses. Furthermore, if a soul servant dies, it cannot be revived, and he will lose it permanently. This makes sense to him, because now he understands that he must gain more XP to maintain the servants he wishes to keep. He then brushes off the thought, deciding that this is something to worry about later. Right now, with Kebri's strength beside him, he feels more confident that he will be able to defeat Nabus. With that, he orders his new servant to tell him everything he knows. Meanwhile, back on Earth, an officer rushes to Chief Su and reports that unidentified monsters have started appearing in several regions around the world. Headquarters has requested that she leave for B City immediately to discuss countermeasures. She agrees and orders the flight to be prepared within 15 minutes. But then, the same officer, who is actually Zhao Zhengyu, the head of the Special Affairs Department, presents a new report. He explains that recent footage from A City shows a mysterious woman killing the monsters that appeared there. Chief Su glances at the red-haired assassin standing nearby, who is none other than clan leader Chen. Zhao Zhengyu continues his report, saying that the Maritime Patrol in A City has also captured similar footage from the East China Sea, where 3 enormous monsters, far larger than the others, have appeared. At this moment, 3 people are fighting to hold those creatures back, He confirms that these monsters have come directly from the Cosmos game and adds that their forms resemble the ancient legends of the country. Out at the East China Sea, a group of assassins is struggling to defeat the monsters. The young assassin restrains an S-ranked creature and shouts to his comrades that he cannot hold it for much longer, urging them to kill the other two S-ranked beasts quickly. The others tell him to endure a little more. Suddenly, the chained monster breaks free from Li Xinqian's hold, and the assassin is thrown into the air before crashing into the sea. His companions immediately rush to pull him out of the water. Bruce exclaims that they cannot handle so many S-rank and SS-rank monsters at once, and the absence of Leader Qin's reinforcements has left them in a desperate situation. Balangfu insists that they must do something because they cannot allow the monsters to enter the city, but admits that their strength is far too limited. At that very moment, a figure appears from the sky like a miracle. Chief Fuhai Juisi arrives and tells the team that they have done well, but he will take it from here. He then charges toward the monsters and with incredible skill freezes them all using his Snow Moon dimensional slash. His power is overwhelming, and it becomes clear that he is not just a leader, but also one of the highest-ranking assassins in existence. Back in the Latanaya Desert, the Wandering Dominator explains that to understand the full picture, they must go back tens of thousands of years before the appearance of the god of evil, Murius. He says that after the Battle of Titans, the three brothers Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon were dissatisfied with how humans had begun worshipping other gods. Because of this, they summoned Murius from the abyss of hell, Tartarus, to punish the humans. However, their actions angered the gods of other realms, such as Ra, Buddha, the Heavenly Father, and Izanami. None of them wanted to start a war among gods over humans, so they chose to turn a blind eye. Yet, the ambitions of the three brothers did not end there, and their greed only grew stronger. Later, Hades defeated Buddha and imprisoned Ra, the Heavenly Father, Izanami, and other divine factions in the jails of Latona, Return Ruins, and Tartarus. The Wandering Dominator reveals that he spent tens of thousands of years crossing the boundless sea to finally reach Lantanaya, all for the purpose of finding Ra. When Zhili asks why Hades brought humans into the Latanaya desert, the bug-headed being replies that in the eyes of the gods, humans are merely food. To them, humans are no different from insects on the ground, and their only purpose is to feed the monsters guarding this place. This revelation sends chills down Zhili's spine as he realizes that their existence might be nothing more than nourishment for others, and that they are destined to die. Yet he still has more questions. He wonders how the Wandering Dominator can sense Ra's power through him, and whether this is due to his elemental abilities, or if he shares some deeper connection with Ra. To get those answers, he knows he must find Ra himself. The Wandering Dominator then mentions that the temple is still far away, so they should move quickly. However, he suddenly adds that he has something in his pocket that can help them travel faster. The next moment, he transforms into a giant flying bug. This form consumes 10 MP for every 10 kilometers, but Ji Li says that the cost is manageable. They all mount on the creature and take flight toward the temple, determined to save Ra. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a silver-haired assassin rushes to President Qin and reports that the situation is spiraling out of control. He warns that if they do not find a solution soon, every trace of humankind will be wiped out, and even the humans trapped inside the game cosmos will not survive. Hearing this, President Qin activates the system embedded in her arm, opening a glowing portal before flying into it. She knows it will not be long before Sporades is pulled into the battle as well. Back in the Latanaya desert, Ji Li, his eccentric uncle Luca, and his new soul servant arrive at the palace. Ji Li gives his uncle one last chance to recall anything after seeing the temple, but Luca replies that his mind is completely blank. Ji Li admits he has no idea how to restore his uncle's memory, yet he refuses to give up hope. He assures him that there is always a solution, and that this state will not last forever. The system map confirms that they have reached the temple, and the group begins to descend. Inside the temple, Argylus suddenly senses a familiar aura. When he smells it, he smiles darkly, realizing that it belongs to the god Tish, the Slayer. Outside, the Wandering Dominator reverts to his original form, and Ji Li thanks him for his effort and praises his work. But when Ji Li turns his eyes toward the mighty temple, he tells himself that to complete this mission, he must defeat the Guardian. Only then will he be able to leave this world and return to reality. He also knows that if the same person who attacked the village was the one who activated the temple, that enemy might still be inside waiting for a chance to strike. Lost in thought, Ji Li suddenly smells something strange and looks up to see a shadowy figure staring down at him. The figure is Argylus Lees, standing on the rooftop with an evil smile, saying that they have finally met. Ji Li instantly recognizes him as the one responsible for Grandpa Wu Bulei's critical condition. Argylus Lees laughs and tells him not to worry, promising that he will cut his head off gently so he can die comfortably. In a blink, Argylus Lees disappears and reappears right beside Ji Li, launching an attack with his claw. Yet before the strike can land, it is stopped by a sudden explosion. The impact reveals that his attack was blocked by Ji Li's soul servant Khepri. Ji Li, calm but shocked, realizes how fast Argylus Lees truly is. That attack should have been impossible to dodge, and if not for Khepri, he would have been killed instantly. He also begins to understand that his servant is far more powerful than he had imagined. Meanwhile, Argylus observes the situation and notes that Ji Li possesses a soul servant, something that only gods can command. It becomes clear to him that Lord Hades had been right to take interest in this boy. Argylus attacks again, but his hand is suddenly stopped by another figure. When he turns, he sees Lucius, the guardian of the village. At the same time, the shadow assassin Thunderbolt appears, and the mountain itself splits open as a giant king cobra rises into the sky. Ji Li turns back and sees his entire party arriving, including Wu Bulei. Boban smirks and teases him, saying that he should start by explaining why he decided to ditch his teammates again. Argylus is buried inside the stone, while Khepri stands guard over him as Ji Li returns to his friends and asks how they managed to find this place. Sally explains that it was all thanks to Lucius, and the Guardian adds that her shadow wolf had remembered his scent and followed the trail. However, the scent vanished before they could get very far, so they decided to continue along the same path. Even then, there was still no trace of him. Fortunately, Grandpa Wu Bulei suddenly sensed a strong surge of power coming from this area, which is why they all rushed here. When Ji Li turns toward his grandfather, he notices that the old man's arms have completely healed. Wu Bulei smiles and congratulates him, saying that his recovery was entirely because of him. They then turn to Khepri, and the old man asks who the stranger is. Ji Li replies that he is his sole subordinate, which shocks everyone. The old man knows that forming a bond with a soul servant is extremely difficult, and that not everyone is capable of doing it. At that moment, Argylus, who had been trapped inside the stone, suddenly bursts free. His eyes burn with anger and disgust as he looks at the humans in front of him. With a surge of power, he declares that they should all disappear and die, launching a fierce attack. However, his magic is effortlessly deflected by Khepri, who blocks it with his spear. The Wandering Dominator turns to his master and tells him to leave this ugly dragon to him and focus instead on finding the seal and releasing Ra as soon as possible. Following his command, Ji Li and his party rush toward the temple. Argylus, now hovering in the air, watches them closely and quickly realizes what they are trying to do. Determined to stop them, he begins charging another magical strike, but Khepri intercepts him once again. The sight of his attacks being stopped repeatedly leaves the dragon furious. Meanwhile, the great temple door speaks, asking Ji Li if he truly wishes to enter the god's palace. When Ji Li firmly answers yes, the massive door slowly opens, allowing the party to rush inside. Seeing that they have entered the temple, Khepri shifts his focus entirely to Argylus, telling him that no one can protect him now. Inside the palace, Ji Li and his group continue running through a long corridor. However, after what feels like an endless stretch, the boy starts to sense that something is not right. They have been walking for far too long without reaching the end. The realization strikes him suddenly, and he orders everyone to stop. Boban immediately becomes alert, assuming that there must be an enemy nearby. Ji Li quickly explains that there is no opponent waiting for them. This frustrates Boban, who argues that they had been tense and on guard only moments ago. But Ji Li calmly points out that they have been walking for a long time without getting anywhere. He concludes that they are trapped in a loop. To test his theory, he approaches a nearby wall and explains that the outer structure of the god's palace is relatively small, yet they have already walked much farther than its entire length. He deduces that the time and space inside the palace must function differently from the outside world. To confirm his suspicion, he marks the wall with a cross and tells the others that if they truly are moving in circles, they will encounter the same mark again. Grandpa Wu Bulei agrees that they should keep moving forward, and the group continues. However, Ji Li cannot shake off his growing concern. Ever since entering the temple, he has been unable to access his system's map function, and there have been no new mission notifications. He feels as though something crucial is missing, and that the game itself has changed in ways he does not yet understand. Just as he is lost in thought, Sally suddenly calls out and tells everyone to look at the wall. To their disbelief, the same cross Ji Li had carved earlier now appears above them, proving that they are indeed trapped in an endless loop. The party has no option but to continue walking, which irritates Boban. Joss tries to calm him down, asking him to be patient because, according to their calculations, they should be nearing the exit. However, Sally corrects him, saying that with their current speed, they should have already reached the exit a long time ago. Ji Li then adds that the exit is probably gone and, if he is not mistaken, they will soon pass the same place they marked before because they are walking in circles. His guess turns out to be right when they pass the same marked spot again. Ji Li opens his system and tries to recall when exactly they fell into the trap because he never received any notification from his pop-up. He begins to worry since Khepri is still out there fighting their village, and they cannot afford to waste too much time. He knows that if a dragon were to appear, they would be in serious danger. Just then, the rest of the party runs toward him, saying they have checked the walls and floors everywhere but found no hidden doors or mechanisms. The old man reports that even the protective array on the pathways has disappeared. Ji Li asks if they have checked the ceiling, and Wu Bulei replies that they have searched every corner but found no clues, so they need to find another way to escape. Ji turns to Sally and asks her to use her fireball to test whether it can break through the wall. Sally hesitates, saying it might not be a good idea because the fireball could rebound and attack them instead. Joss argues that they have nothing else to do, so it is worth trying. Grandfather Wu Bulei gives Sally an approving nod, and she follows his order, using her flame dance to form a massive fireball. The blast creates a large hole in the wall. Sally giggles in surprise, unable to believe it actually worked, while Joss celebrates, saying they must have broken out of the loop. However, when they look through the hole, they realize they have returned to the same marked place as before. The loop has not been broken. Everyone is confused, wondering how this could be possible. Boban raises his sword, ready to attack any hidden enemy that might be playing tricks on them. The old man, however, notices that Ji is deep in thought and senses that the boy is recalling something. He is correct because Ji remembers reading about a theory during his studies. It proposed that Earth was a prison for humanity, and all the paths were designed in a circle. Due to gravity, people could not perceive the circular structure, and the moving outer walls kept them from realizing they were trapped inside. Meanwhile, in Country J, inside a Tokyo building, Chief Su meets Professor Miyataki. She shows her several photos of the monsters that have suddenly appeared on Earth. According to her expertise, the creatures look exactly like the monster characters from the game called Cosmos. The professor studies the photos carefully and points out that they were modeled after creatures from mythological stories across the world. Chief Su confirms that this is true and then asks if that means the myths themselves could also be real. The professor replies that if those stories are real, then her current research is not just mythology, it is actual history. Back in the labyrinth, Jili's party is still trapped in the same loop. Boban loses his temper, saying he cannot take it anymore and wants to act. His shouting irritates Lucius, who complains that he is giving her a headache. Boban, unable to control his frustration, tries to start a fight with her, but Joss steps in and calms him down. Sally asks Ji if he has discovered anything, but he admits he has not. Still, he reasons that if this were a mission, there would be a way to complete it, meaning he must have overlooked something. The question is what? Suddenly, the strange uncle reappears and says a single word, Ouroboros. The name immediately catches Jili's attention. The uncle explains that their situation resembles Ouroboros. Jili's thoughts race as he recalls reading about it in mythology. Ouroboros is the serpent that devours its own tail in an endless cycle of destruction and rebirth. He remembers similar legends, like Jormungandr from Norse mythology and Shesha from Indian tradition, where a great serpent endlessly consumes itself. Jili then asks his uncle if he means they are trapped inside Ouroboros' stomach, and if that is true, they could simply cut their way out. The uncle shakes his head and says it is not the Ouroboros Jili knows. This is the god of dreams, Oneros divine restriction. From the moment they entered the palace, their senses have been paralyzed by the divine restriction, which explains why Jili never received any notification from his system. Jili asks if there is a way to break it, and the uncle answers that there is only one way. He must find the being who is casting the restriction and kill them. Only then will the limit be broken. Jili turns to look at his friends and asks if the uncle is suggesting that one of them is not real but a creation of the god Oneros. The uncle confirms it, warning that the imposter will be almost identical to the real person. Jili realizes that if this is true, he needs to identify the false one and strike when they least expect it. But the question remains, who is it? His eyes move from one companion to another, even to Grandpa Wubule and Sally, and he silently wonders whether any of them are real at all. Meanwhile, on the edge of the underworld, a beautiful lady is playing with a giant tree in front of her. As she enjoys the moment, she suddenly senses a disturbance in the air and realizes that it is coming from within Latonia's palace. When she looks closer, she notices that the Seal of Dreams has been triggered. Her quiet observation is soon interrupted by Lord Hades, who greets her, remarking that it has been a long time since they last met. It becomes clear that the woman is the god Oneros. The moment she sees Hades, she quickly hides the flower in her hand, knowing that if he sees it, he will discover that something is happening inside the Latonia desert. Nervously, she asks him what brings him there, and Hades teases her, saying that it seems he is not welcome in her realm. His playful tone only makes her more flustered, and she hurriedly explains that he has never visited the edge of the underworld before, so she was simply surprised. She then asks if there is anything she can do to please him. Hades responds with grave news, saying that his father, Kronos, has escaped from his prison in Tartarus. Oneros, unaware of this, is stunned. She insists that it should be impossible for the Seal of Dreams in Tartarus to be broken, since it was never even activated, and there is no way Kronos could have escaped unnoticed. Hades tells her that this is exactly why she must help him. Under his orders, she must find and bring Kronos back before Zeus and Poseidon discover what has happened. He then threatens her, warning that if she refuses, she will take his place in hell. Terrified by the thought, Oneros reluctantly agrees. As Hades disappears through a portal, returning to the world above, she remains deep in thought, wondering how Kronos avoided death, bypassed the divine seal, and escaped the watch of the three-headed Cerberus. She begins to suspect that something far more dangerous is unfolding within Latonia's palace. Back in the temple, Ji asks his old master for training, which immediately catches everyone's attention, since they cannot believe he wants to train while they are trapped. Jili then explains that since they are stuck there anyway, they should use the time to test their strength again and see how far they have progressed since their last challenge. Boban interrupts, trying to talk sense into him, but Jili insists that he is simply bored and that training will prepare them for what lies ahead. His words provoke the old man, who decides to teach the boy a lesson, and Boban's irritation grows. Sally steps in, trying to calm them down, and says that grandfather Wu Bu-lei should ignore the bickering and focus on what he wants to do. Meanwhile, Jili thinks quietly to himself. He knows that if he tests each person one by one, the imposter will catch on to his intentions, so the better plan is to cause chaos. The more sudden the conflict, the higher the chance that the imposter will slip up. If the real grandfather Wu Bu-lei is present, he will understand that Jili has a reason for making such a bold request. As expected, the old man agrees, and the rest of the group looks at him in disbelief. But between the two, a silent understanding passes. Jili knows that the real Wu Bu-lei trusts him enough to recognize that there is a plan behind his words. As one of the 12 heroes, the old man's intellect and instincts are unmatched, and Jili is sure that he will understand. The trick is clever enough that even the strange uncle comments on Jili's sharp thinking. However, he also warns that it will be nearly impossible to find the imposter through their combat skills alone. Jili cuts him off, saying that he knows techniques can be copied, but habits cannot. Every fighter has their own instinctive way of interpreting and executing attacks, something carved into their bones, and that is something no imposter can imitate. Hearing this, the old man draws his sword, and the clones of the party appear. Jili prepares himself, knowing he will have to observe each person carefully during the fight to uncover the imposter. The uncle reminds him that he only has one chance. If their knowledge of the dreamscape is discovered, they will be trapped in the God of Dreams time vortex forever. Jili assures him that he will succeed and then draws his own weapon. Grandfather Wu Bu-lei announces that the training will begin, warning everyone to be careful and give their best effort. Encouraged by his strong tone, everyone nods and gets ready to face their own clones. Jili takes the lead, charging towards Sally's clone, but before he can strike, Lucius moves faster and eliminates her with a single slash. Lucius then turns to Jili and says that she has no interest in their childish game and only wants to find a way out. Meanwhile, Sally is being cornered by Jili's clone. Before it can attack, Jili steps in with his sword and saves her. He tells her to team up with Lucius and eliminate the remaining clones while he handles his own. Nervously, Sally agrees, admitting she is not confident in battle, and runs off with Lucius. As they move away, Jili thinks to himself that he needs to keep the others busy so he can observe them closely and spot any flaws in their behavior. He notices that Boban is fighting Lucius's clone, while Joss and Filorga are battling their own doubles. Joss struggles at first, but Lucius steps in and kills his clone with ease. She turns to him and remarks that he is far too weak if he cannot even defeat a low-level copy of himself. Joss, rather than being offended, becomes infatuated and invites her to join their guild, which she declines coldly, saying she has no interest. Jili continues to watch everything carefully. He notes that Boban fought Lucius's clone, who shares his shadow assassin class, while Joss and Filorga faced their own doubles. Lucius and he had taken out Sally's clone, who was the weakest, and as always, Sally remained hesitant and uncertain about fighting. Something feels off, and then suddenly the realization hits him. He knows who the imposter is. Without hesitation, he rushes toward Joss, who greets him with a smile before Jili delivers a powerful slash. Everyone freezes in shock, unable to process what just happened. Filorga and Boban shout at Jili, demanding to know if he has lost his mind. But when Joss's body begins to evaporate and crumble into dust, the truth becomes clear. Jili was right. Joss was the imposter all along. The ceiling suddenly cracks and collapses, and a blinding light bursts from above. The group shields their eyes as the brightness engulfs them, and then everything falls silent. When they open their eyes again, they find themselves sitting on the ground, uncertain if the plan worked. Joss stirs awake, and Filorga rushes to ask if he feels all right. Confused, he looks around and asks why everyone is sitting still. Boban, frustrated, turns to Jili, demanding an explanation, but Jili does not answer. He keeps staring ahead, and then a small smile appears on his face as he says that they are already out of the loop. Boban follows his gaze and sees a massive door standing before them. Meanwhile, outside the temple, the wandering dominator sneers at Arglis and tells him that he sold his soul to Hades, the dragon of the underworld, which is why he is trash. The dominator adds that he had planned to play with him a little longer, but the fight has become too boring. Within a millisecond, he closes the distance between them, grabs the dragon by his throat, and lifts him into the air. Aglis struggles and asks in pain who this man really is, because he has never encountered anyone with power like this before. Kepri mocks him and tells him to ask his despicable master. As he says this, he tightens his grip until Aglis can feel his life slipping away. However, flames suddenly erupt from the dragon's body, and the fire spreads from the dominator's hand toward his entire body. Kepri quickly realizes that this is not an ordinary spell, but the divine seal of Hades. The flames of the underworld were hidden within the dragon, ensuring that whoever killed him would be sealed. As a result, Khepri is trapped by the divine magic, and Aglis collapses to the ground, gasping and coughing for air. When he looks up, a message appears from Lord Hades himself, furious yet unwilling to lose his loyal god. Hades activates the divine seal to save him, confirming that the God-Slayer truly exists in Latanaya. Inside the temple, Ji Li brings everyone up to speed on what is happening. Grandfather Wu Bule realizes that they were trapped in a time loop because of the divine seal of the God of Dreams. He then demands to know how Ji Li could possibly have knowledge of such a thing, which makes the boy visibly nervous since no one knows that he has external help. Sally, confused, asks what divine seals actually are, and Bo Ban grows irritated as always, saying that even he does not know. So how could Ji Li? Joss joins in and questions what Ji Li is hiding from them. Before anyone can speak further, Lucius answers calmly. She explains that every god possesses a unique divine seal that can be placed upon people or objects. Once a divine seal is cast, it remains until it is triggered, or until the god who cast it chooses to dispel it. Her knowledge shocks everyone because, as a guardian, she is expected to know this, but Ji Li should not. Lucius continues, explaining that divine seals can also be placed on gods themselves, making them the ultimate weapon among deities. She says it is a miracle that they escaped the God of Dreams' divine seal alive. Then she turns to Ji Li again and asks how he knew that killing Joss would break the seal. Joss immediately panics, terrified by the idea that he had to die for them to escape. Ji Li quickly clarifies that he killed only Joss's imposter, not the real one, and that everything is fine now. Before they can relax, a system notification appears, warning that his sole servant Khepri has been sealed for 30 hours. This revelation alarms Ji Li, who immediately urges everyone to hurry, explaining that if Aglis has sealed his servant, he must be coming soon. The group races down the hallway toward the great door at its end. When they reach it, the door creaks open, revealing another corridor even darker and more sinister than the last. Grandfather Wu Bule warns everyone to stay alert, while Sally remarks that the place feels strange because she cannot sense any monsters nearby. Just then, the door behind them slams shut, and fear spreads through the group. Sally stiffens and tells everyone to listen because she hears whispers in the distance. Moments later, hundreds of zombies emerge from the shadows, shuffling toward them with bloodlust in their eyes. Joss curses under his breath, saying that he knew they would have to face monsters but never imagined this many. Filorga adds that these creatures seem far stronger than the ones they fought in Latanaya. Even Wu Bule hesitates, sensing the danger. The system identifies the monsters as Hell Demons, 20 levels higher than the undead beasts from the Crimson Moon missions. With their numbers growing rapidly in the narrow hallway, there is no room to retreat, and morale begins to falter. A system notification appears, revealing a new mission called Nabis Hell's Eye. The conditions state that the Eye of Hell, created by Nabis, will continuously summon Hell ghouls. Ji Li must destroy all the ghouls and then destroy the eye itself. Once the mission is completed, the temple guardian Nabis will appear. Ji Li looks past the horde and spots a massive floating eye that is spawning the monsters. He shouts to his team that they must destroy it, but before that, they need to regroup and focus. Sally nervously points out that the number of monsters keeps growing and insists that they need a solid plan. Before she can finish, Ji Li dashes forward at supersonic speed, slicing through the first wave of enemies. His goal is simple: restore everyone's confidence. The team watches in awe as he fights and then hears him call out that numbers do not matter because the monsters are tied to the eye, not endless on their own. Boban smirks and says that Ji Li sure knows how to steal the spotlight. But it works. Morale surges back. Grandfather Wu Bule draws his legendary sword, Ozol, and commands everyone to support Ji Li and clear the path. The group rallies together, each member fighting in perfect coordination. Ji Li reminds himself that he must show them they are not alone, that he is someone they can trust, while Boban and his clones launch a barrage of attacks. Joss, Filorga, and Lucius unleash their magic, tearing through the horde with renewed strength. But suddenly a deep rumble echoes from the eye and all the zombies begin to roar. Ji Li slashes one in front of him but realizes his blade does no damage. The system flashes another warning. These hell demons have transformed into spirit forms, immune to physical attacks. Panic spreads as the monsters advance. Joss and Boban both notice that their weapons are useless now, shouting in frustration. Ji Li is surrounded, forced to defend himself with every ounce of strength he has. The only hope lies with their magician, yet the poor girl is trapped in a circle of snarling zombies, her escape cut off as the nightmare continues. The ghouls begin closing in on Sally and her party, their snarls echoing through the hall. However, the girl pushes past her fear and finally creates a force field around them, determined to defeat the monsters. Baby Luca also joins in to help her. Sally channels both fire and poison elements at once, combining them into a powerful burst of flame. Meanwhile, Ji Li focuses on healing Boban, his hands glowing faintly. The Shadow Assassin, despite his injuries, cannot resist teasing him by saying that if Ji Li calls himself a healer, then why is his healing so slow? In response, Ji Li smacks him lightly, but deep down he realizes that the healing spell requires a full minute of uninterrupted casting when used on others. This makes him realize that there are still countless rules and mechanics in this game that he has not yet explored. He glances back and sees Sally and Luca fighting bravely, defeating wave after wave of ghouls coming toward them. However, he starts to think of a way to deal with high-level monsters that are immune to physical attacks, since he cannot keep depending on Sally and the baby. Both of them are clearly exhausted, and his own energy is being drained quickly. If the monsters keep emerging through that cursed eye, they will all die here. Boban's healing session finally ends, and the Shadow Assassin admits that Ji Li's powers are not that bad. Still, Ji Li remains restless, determined to find a new strategy. He asks Boban to brainstorm with him, knowing that Sally and Luca cannot hold out much longer. Ji Li then remembers that Uncle disappeared during their earlier fight, and he suspects that the man might know some hidden trick to kill these monsters. He calls out for him, but there is no response, leaving Ji Li feeling helpless. He then turns toward Grandpa Wu Bu Lei and asks what he is doing. As he walks up to him, the old man asks if Boban is alright. Ji Li replies that he is fine for now, but insists that they need to find a way to deal with the monsters. He asks Grandpa Wu Bu Lei if he has seen such creatures before, and the old man nods, saying that this is his second time encountering them. The boy is shocked and immediately asks when the first time was and if the old man knows how to kill them. Wu Bu Lei explains that during the Battle of O'Brien, when he fought Troll Quinkay at the Black Sea, the monster had used a similar ability. He recalls how he could not cause any damage to the troll and had been forced into pure defense. The old man's eyes grow distant as he remembers that day. He says he had been a young warrior then, nearly certain that he would die because the troll was already upon him and his defenses were breaking. But out of nowhere, a sword crackling with blue lightning appeared in front of him, and his instincts told him that it was a divine sign meant to help him slay the beast. With that sword, he could not only strike Troll Quinkay but also deal devastating damage. Eventually he won the battle and survived. It was only days later that he discovered the weapon's identity. It was the legendary Kara Baboga's sword, which held the element of endless thunder. The old man explains that Quinkay was not killed by the blade's slash itself, but by the thunder magic coursing through it. This revelation sparks an idea in Ji Li's mind. He realizes that in this virtual world, magic and physical damage are strictly separated. Wu Bu Lei, Boban, Joss, Filorga, and Lucius all have warrior or assassin professions, and although each of them possesses different elemental attributes, their attacks remain ineffective because the system classifies them as physical damage. Only Sally's attacks are recognized as magic because she is a magician. From this, Ji Li concludes that the effectiveness of an attack depends on the profession. He then opens his skill panel and notes that his skill, Obliterate, can upgrade all attacks into elemental ones, which count as magic damage. His Crescent Moon Slash already functions as a magic attack by enhancing his weapon with the chaotic element. Wu Bu Lei admits that he has never seen a magician capable of enchanting weapons, and because of that, he believes their chances of survival are still low. However, Ji Li has already worked out his plan, and if his reasoning is correct, defeating these monsters should be easy. Just as he finishes his thought, the monsters finally break through Sally's protective shield. The girl and Luca try to hold the barrier, but their strength runs out as the ghouls vomit green acid that melts through the magic wall. Sally screams for help, calling out to Wu Bu Lei and saying she cannot hold them off any longer. Before the old man can react, Ji Li rushes forward, his speed blurring as he charges into the horde. He activates Adam's Nether Spirit Song earrings, which grant him 100% bonus damage against death spirits. Because of that, he cuts through the skeletons effortlessly. System notifications flash one after another, showing that he has dealt massive bonus damage to undead enemies and earned 50,000 XP for slaying countless hell ghouls. Everyone watches in awe as Ji Li annihilates the undead as if they were nothing more than paper dolls. He then turns back to his party and orders them to follow him. Their morale soars instantly, and they smile with renewed hope, feeling that they have a true leader among them. The remaining hell ghouls charge at Ji Li, unaware that they are running straight to their deaths. Realizing that the number of enemies is still increasing, Ji Li decides that before his skills go into cooldown, he must get as close to the eye as possible. He unleashes Crescent Moon Slash, causing maximum magical critical damage, and earns 200,000 XP after killing more than 20 hell ghouls. Pushing forward, he focuses on a single thought. He must destroy the eye to reach Nabis. With that determination, he activates Execute the God and tells himself that he will never give up. He rushes into another group of zombies and unleashes Annihilation Slash, tearing through them with ferocious power. XP notifications flood his screen again, granting him another 180,000 points. He screams to himself that no matter what, he will make it back home. Ji Li then kills another 30 Helgas and obtains 300,000 XP. Because of that, the effect of Hasu's Demon Sword also activates, allowing him to recover 100 MP of his armor. Since he has also killed an elite monster, all of his skill cooldowns are reset, which means that Annihilating Slash, Divine Blessing, God's Annihilation, and Distinguished Cooldown are all available again. However, Ji Li soon notices that his equipment durability has dropped to 49%, and this worries him because durability tends to deplete much faster once it falls below 60%. He realizes that he does not have much time left. Even though this bothers him, he still feels that it is a pity, because he was actually enjoying how easily he had been killing all those demons. But as he wants to advance further, he convinces himself that he needs to focus on his speed and stop wasting his weapons before meeting Nabus. He knows he has a few hidden levels that he can use to buy new weapons, but if he keeps wasting them like this, he will not have enough left to buy potions when he fights the boss monsters. With that in mind, he decides to use Chaotic God-Slaying Crescent Blade, fully aware that the skill will consume a large portion of his weapon's remaining durability. Still, he knows he has to weigh the pros and cons, and using the skill turns out to be the right choice. The move proves extremely effective because with just one slash, he wipes out every hell ghoul in his path, clearing the way forward. He gains another 150,000 XP. All the party members stare at him in shock and awe. Josh thinks to himself that not much time has passed since he met Ji Li, yet the kid has already become so much stronger. Filorga, on the other hand, feels that Ji Li is not even going all out, yet his power is already immense. Even Bo Ban silently cheers for Ji Li, impressed by his strength. Meanwhile, Grandpa Wu Bule watches in awe and admits, though not out loud, that the boy has long surpassed him. Ji Li's overwhelming power gives everyone around him a deep sense of security, and because of that, even in their shock, their fighting spirit only grows stronger. Ji Li then realizes that he is standing right in front of the eye. He picks up his speed because he does not want to delay this any longer. He knows that once he defeats the eye monster, he will be one step closer to his ultimate goal, which is going home. Gathering his strength, he leaps high into the air and delivers a powerful slash that cuts across the eye. The monster's blood splatters across his face, but he does not care, because he knows he has moved one step closer to facing the boss monster, Nabus. Meanwhile, in the Cosmos headquarters of Country A bodyguard explains to the CEO that the target suddenly disappeared on a train in Country C's B city. He adds that the team is still searching for him and assures his boss that he should not worry because the man's wife is still in their custody as bait, so he will eventually appear. The CEO, who is calmly playing golf in his office, does not look worried, but deep down, he is furious. When the bodyguard continues to speak, the CEO suddenly strikes him with the golf club, shouting that after all this useless talk, there is still no progress, and he is wasting his time. The bodyguard trembles in pain and fear as the CEO lifts his head with the golf club, warning that he does not care how it is done, but if he does not get results within a week, he will kill him. All the other bodyguards bow immediately, knowing that their lives are entirely in his hands. At the same time, in Country C's B City, a reporter rushes to Chief Su and reports that the giant monster near the Southern Sound Sea has suddenly vanished, and similar incidents are happening in other cities. Su turns to him, demanding how such a thing could disappear, and asks whether the satellites managed to capture anything. The reporter explains that all satellites malfunctioned at the same time, and no new images were recorded beyond the old ones. This makes Su suspicious, so she asks if there were any witnesses. Her subordinate replies that there were, but every single one of them said the same thing, that a god descended into their world and destroyed all the monsters. Su becomes intrigued and begins to consider the situation from a divine perspective. Meanwhile, back in the temple, Nabus's eye vanishes into thin air after being cut by Ji Li. As a result, the boy gains 4 million XP, levels up, and receives the Purple Moon Key and the title of Demon Slayer. The title can only be earned by killing Nabus's eye, or by slaying 1,000 demon-type monsters. It will also synchronize with the Cosmos World server, and grant 10% extra damage against demon-type monsters, along with 10% damage reduction from them. However, the downside is that Ji Li's sword durability has dropped to 39%, and a system notification appears, warning him to replace his weapon soon. Ji Li realizes that the durability has decreased more than expected, but before he can plan his next move, Bo Ban approaches and kicks him on the leg. Ji Li deflects the attack easily and stares at him while the other party members shout, asking if Bo Ban has lost his mind. Bo Ban, however, just says that he wants to know when Ji Li became this strong and how he managed it. Ji Li replies casually that he only killed a few monsters and leveled up. Josh laughs, saying that he thought Bo Ban was possessed, but realizes he is only jealous. The shadow assassin blushes and tells everyone to stop laughing. He then turns to Ji Li and says that no matter how powerful he gets, he will still surpass him one day. But for now, they are teammates, and he trusts him completely. He extends his hand and suggests that they defeat the guardian of the temple together. Ji Li shakes his hand and tells him to keep working hard, and Bo Ban smirks in response. Just then, a sudden noise echoes from the end of the hallway, drawing everyone's attention to the dark corridor. Sally nervously asks if anyone knows what is happening. Before anyone can answer, the entire hallway lights up, and the ceiling starts to crumble above them. Thankfully, Filorga reacts quickly and uses his power to shield everyone. he warns his teammates to stay alert because he senses that Nabis is about to appear. When he turns back, he sees two enormous eyes staring at them from the darkness and realizes that the boss-level monster has finally arrived. In the cities where monsters attack, rubble covers the ground and everything feels destroyed and lifeless. The scene looks straight out of an apocalyptic movie where humans are forced to hide in basements to stay alive. Children are crying, some people are screaming in pain and agony, while others sit injured beside the bodies of their loved ones. In the middle of all this chaos, a man who has completely lost his mind screams that the end has come and that this is punishment from God. He claims that the gates of hell have opened and that everyone is going to die. When he suddenly begins attacking the women nearby, a soldier rushes forward to restrain him as he continues to yell that the world is ending. Nearby, a little girl clings to her mother and asks what the man means and who God is. The woman, who turns out to be Professor Miyataki, gently explains that if someone were to create a simulation identical to their world, then those who live inside that world would see the creators as gods. Before she can finish her sentence, another voice joins in. It is Professor Shengdai Chung, a teacher from Gongju University, who completes her thought and asks the madman if, by his reasoning, their world might also be a simulation. She then asks him if there is any proof that supports such an idea. The man replies that proving whether their world is simulated is not impossible. However, to form a solid conclusion, 3 conditions must be met. First, humans must have no interest in creating simulated worlds, but that is clearly false since they already desire such power. Second, technology must be too limited to create a simulated world, which has already been disproved by the existence of the game Cosmos. Third, humanity must become extinct before it succeeds in creating such a simulation. But even that condition seems to be coming true as the monsters continue to destroy everything and kill people in great numbers. He explains that if all these impossibilities are removed, then the only remaining answer, however strange it may seem, must be the truth. According to him, that truth means they might indeed be gods in the eyes of those within the simulations they create. Professor Miyataki begins to think deeply about what he said. It has always been a theory, but with the appearance of these monsters and Professor Shengdai's words, everything now seems connected. She starts to believe that their world is also a simulation, just like the one they created and the one that created them. If that is true, then both humans and monsters are nothing more than puppets following a perfectly written script. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, a well-written hero faces a truly dangerous villain named Nabis. Jili's system notification flashes, informing him that the final mission, titled Lotanaya Temple's Guardian, has appeared, and its level remains unknown. The mission reward promises 30 million experience points, the Key of Freedom, the Eye of Nabis, and the God's Soul. Once he defeats the boss, he can use the Key of Freedom to escape Lotanaya. However, the challenge will not be easy because Nabis does not appear to be a monster that can be defeated easily. Jili feels the overwhelming pressure of the monster's aura, and fear paralyzes him for a moment. Yet he realizes that if everyone succumbs to fear, they will surely fail. He forces himself to stay composed because he knows he must be the one to give others hope. As expected, his team also begins to tremble at the sight of the boss. But Grandpa Wu Bu-lei steps forward and reminds them all to stay focused. He tells them that this is not the first time they have faced an opponent stronger than themselves, and that in any battle, no matter how hopeless the situation seems, they must never let fear take control. He reminds them that each of them chose to come here with determination, and now they must fight with everything they have to honor that choice. His speech lifts their spirits, and when he yells for them to destroy the monster, they all raise their weapons and shout that they will give their very best. Jili smiles slightly because while he was worrying about everyone, Grandpa Wu Bu-lei had already solved the problem. Suddenly, powerful gusts of wind sweep through the hallway, and Sally asks why the air is so strong when there are no windows nearby. That is when Jili realizes that the wind is not natural but rather the force created by the upcoming attack of Nabis. A moment later, one of the boss's tentacles strikes toward Joss and Falorga. The two boys freeze in terror, unable to react, but Grandpa Wu Bu-lei dashes forward and cuts the tentacle cleanly in half with his sword. Ozil. He quickly warns everyone that the wind is caused by the Guardian's attack and tells them to stay alert and dodge whenever possible. The old man then powers up with his full elemental strength, ready to fight. Nabis begins to attack from all directions, surrounding the team. The assassins push through, refusing to surrender. Grandpa Wu Bu-lei shouts to Jili and Bo-ban that he will handle the main attacks while they should try to get closer to the monster. Both boys nod and charge ahead. As they run, Jili realizes that even though his agility is decent, he still cannot match the old man's speed. Before they can reach the boss, several tentacles strike at them, forcing Jili to stop Bo-ban just in time to avoid being slashed. But new tentacles rise from the ground, blocking their way forward. Refusing to give up, Jili grabs Bo-ban's hand and uses his power to launch them both into the air, crossing over to the other side. They land heavily, exhausted, and Jili quickly checks on Bo-ban. The shadow assassin gives a faint grin and says that he is still alive at least. Through this, Ji Li realizes that the boss's tentacles can emerge from underground, making it nearly impossible to predict their path. At the same time, Nabus's attacks hit Filorga and Joss, but once again, Grandpa Wu Bulei manages to save them, though both are badly injured and unable to keep fighting. Ji Li looks at his weakened team and understands that they cannot continue fighting like this. Their enemy is hidden while they are completely exposed. They need a plan. He opens his shop menu and searches for something useful until his eyes catch the streaming flare grenade. It consumes 3 hidden levels and lasts for 5 minutes. He realizes it could help them detect the tentacles' positions by lighting up the area. Without hesitation, he purchases the item and throws it into the air. A blinding explosion follows, and the real form of Nabus becomes visible. The creature is massive, terrifying, and grotesque. As Ji Li stares at the monster, a tentacle suddenly appears from behind and strikes him in the chest. The impact throws him backward, blood spilling from his mouth as he gasps for breath. Nabus has used the Lightspeed Pierce attack to wound him, but the assault does not stop there. The monster launches its other tentacles to attack again, intent on crushing him completely. Meanwhile, in Country A's L City, another apocalyptic scene unfolds. The buildings lie in ruins, and there is no sign of human life. On the rooftop of a shattered skyscraper, 2 figures sit and watch the destruction below. One of them comments that this must be what the world of the creator looks like, and that there seems to be little difference between this world and their own. The man says that watching weak humans being crushed by monsters brings him pleasure. The girl beside him with long black hair quietly agrees. Her name is Emir. The blonde man smirks and asks if she is not enjoying herself, but she coldly tells him to get lost and report to Lord Sherry that their target is not in this city. When he suggests that they should simply kill everyone instead of wasting time searching, Amir glares at him and replies that if he does not obey, she will find pleasure in killing him instead. Nervously laughing, the blonde man agrees to deliver the message and quickly flies away. Alone on the rooftop, Emir pulls out a small photograph from her chest. It shows a beautiful girl with long brown hair holding hands with a boy, and Emir stares at it in silence. Ji Li coughs up so much blood that his XP gets decreased by 1800 points. The system notification constantly shows that he has received piercing critical damage and has a bleeding status, which is why his HP will continue to drop due to this, and he needs to apply necessary treatment to stop the blood. The boy, however, is in extreme pain because he has never been this damaged before, and his lungs are pierced. Plus, he cannot even properly breathe. It feels like his body is burning right now, but he has no time to stop because Nabus is standing in front of him, taking pleasure in his weak state. With that, the Guardian attacks again using his Lightspeed Pierce, and really looks at it, knowing that he cannot move and the danger is coming towards him. The rest of the party look at the scene in front of them, but they are too shocked to move and too helpless to do anything. The Guardian Nabus then starts laughing, knowing that he has caught Ji Li and he will definitely kill him now. Poor Sally and Lucius look at their friend and realize that considering the Guardian's attack speed and power, there is very less chance that Ji Li is going to survive. However, then they see a sudden lightning and realize that there is someone that is helping him. And when Lucius takes a very good look, she realizes that it is Grandpa Wu Bulei taking the boy on his back and using his lightning speed to avoid the attacks. Nabus then takes one of his tentacles to attack again, but Grandpa Wu Bulei uses his thunder drive to run. He then makes it with thunder slash to change position with such high speed that even Nabus is not able to catch up to them. Sally looks at her old man with pride in her eyes, and Lucius cannot believe that Wu Bulei is actually managing to dodge every attack while also carrying someone. Apparently, people say that someone with this level of lightning speed is called Son of a Thor. Just when Grandpa Wu Bulei lands in front of the girls, and they both realize that their old man is too strong. He puts our boy down, and Luca looks at her dad and starts getting worried. The boy then tries to console her saying that he is all right, and then he turns back to the old man saying that he is grateful that he saved him. Grandpa Wu Bulei then looks back saying that that kind of injury is not fatal, and he will protect him until he quickly heals himself. Ji Li takes his order, but then his mind starts to drift how Grandpa Wu Bulei did it, because even if he is in perfect condition when facing Nabus's attacks, he is not able to dodge them all. Plus, he was also carrying him all along. Ji Li then activates his healing power and realizes that Grandpa Wu Bulei is definitely stronger than him. On the other hand, at the other side of the hallway, Argilis is walking, and seeing the empty hallway, he realizes that the guys aren't there, which confuses him. He then thinks of a possibility that they might have destroyed the sea and managed to get Nabus. He then says that he underestimated those scums, but considering how powerful Nabus is, he should have already torn them to pieces by now. But then he realizes that his Lord Hades has wanted him to bring the Dog Slayer back to life. But if Nabus's has got to him before him, then the boy must be dead, and he did not fulfill his promise to his lord. With that, he uses his magic to open a portal towards the underworld, and mutters to himself that his Lord Hades is going to nag him again, and now he has no choice but to bring back Ji Li's corpse. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Grandpa Wu Bulei is busy defending Nabus's attacks against all the tentacle attacks while also fighting. Ji Li takes a very good look at his speed and attacks, saying that he can actually dodge all the high-speed tentacle attacks so easily. And what's even more dreadful is that Nabis's attacks are still increasing in speed. For the current him, who is level 100, even if he adds 2/3 of his attribute points into agility, he won't be able to achieve that level of speed like Grandpa Wu Bule. And this is a horrifying realization. Plus, how the hell did Grandpa Wu Bule able to achieve this? The old man then uses his sword to slice every tentacle which still comes in front of him and thinks about his past and how he got here. Many years ago, the camp leader announces Wu Bule, Andrew Wiggins, and Dominic Davis's name and selects them. He then announces that all three have passed the training and will become Class A heroes. However, at that time, Wu Bule was only 10 years old, but he already looked like a Hulk. The old wise master then declares that all three of them will be part of Class 27, and he hopes that they all will work together, trust each other, and strive to protect their country. All three heroes then took a bow. However, the reality is not the same, because the rest of the two heroes look at Wu Bule, saying that if he is that legendary kid that everyone else talks about. The other one replies that he heard about him as well, but he did not expect that they all would be teammates, because a Class A hero at 10 years old is very rare throughout the history of the Academy. The man then says that he heard the boy has a thunder element and cleared the Class A mission in 30 minutes, breaking the Academy's record. The other one gasps in disbelief, saying that is that not the same record as the 12 heroes Clinton? However, what they don't know is that Wu Bule is hearing everything, including the fact that they call him a monster. The poor boy, who just wanted to have good teammates, realizes that a genius and an idiot are actually similar in some situations, because one invokes contempt and ridicule from a distance, and the other invokes jealousy and respect from a distance. In short, if they are walking an unusual path, then they will be abnormal and will never be accepted by society. Poor Wu Bule has to eat his lunch alone. However, he is not as abnormal as we think he is, because someone who goes by the name of Miles reaches up to him, introducing himself and making small talk. He then introduces Wu Bule to his lady Luna, saying that they both are entering Class A this year as well, and they would like to talk to him. Miles then comments that Wu Bule is quite younger than he expected, and the boy replies politely to the duo, thinking that they were the nicest people he talked to during his academy time. They both then sit with them, and Miles asks if he is down for forming a squad with him. Luna then also asks if they all can be together, and the boy shyly says that he wants to, because he realizes that the world is so mystical, because there will be people who will acknowledge him, whether he is an idiot or a genius, and at the end of the day, he will always find a place that belongs to him. Since that day, Wu Bule became extremely good friends with Miles and Luna. Julie is seeing all of this on his computer screen pop up, in which there are Wu Bule's past illustrations. The boy then looks up to the old man, thinking that he has lived a long and hard life, and his respect for his old man increases.